In a place drenched in blood, there were multiple cells, and the people in them were complaining that it was so painful, and demanded to be let out. One of them was bleeding from all over the place, and he called Bai Qingling a despicable and shameless demon, claiming he wanted to tear him into shreds. Meanwhile, someone was sitting on a throne that was surrounded by dead bodies. The throne that he was sitting on was decorated with human bones and skulls. Suddenly, he woke up, and his eyes trembled when he heard the person who claimed he would tear him into shreds. The man looked so surprised and disgusted when he sniffed an evil smell, and he inquired if he had transmigrated. The man suddenly remembered the scene from the game he played. He looked shaken when he realized that the place he was in was the final boss scene from the game he played previously. The man was trying to remember what the villain boss was called as he summoned a mirror in front of him. He was surprised when he saw his reflection. The man immediately recognized his reflection as the villain boss, Demon Lord Bai Qingling, and he remarked that unexpectedly, he transmigrated into the biggest villain. Suddenly, the man blushed when he remembered Bai Qingling being surrounded by multiple women, and he noted that Bai Qingling is a vicious character who even controls 3 beautiful disciples. He recalled that Bai Qingling was the common final villain from all ending routes in the traditional Chinese-style game Immortal Love. Bai Qingling deceived his master, eradicated his ancestors, and even planned to have his own master tossed into an alchemy furnace to be refined into a human elixir. To keep the matter of his master's murder secret, he also used forbidden spells to massacre his sect, and he left behind only one little junior martial sister and became a fugitive on the run. The man recalled that at the end of the game, Bai Qingling used his identity as Kangming sect's Yulyo Temple Master to fight to death with the strongest person of the righteous path, Mu Xinlin, and he spent 1,000 years of cultivation and paid a heavy price to barely escape back to the Kangming sect. He realized that currently, Bai Qingling had just painstakingly escaped back to his old den, and he was at the storyline close to the final ending as the Demon Lord Bai Qingling, who was at his peak at the immortalization stage of cultivation, had fallen into such a pathetic state. The man remarked that he clearly remembered that, at that point, Bai Qingling in the original game was going to die soon. Bai Qingling would be poisoned to death by his most trusted third disciple. Suddenly, the man was startled when he heard a knock on the door. It was the third disciple, and she inquired if Bai Qingling was inside. She was carrying a vial, and she stated it was time for his medicine. The man panicked, and he realized that surely enough, the third disciple was there. The third disciple's expression looked grim as she waited for Bai Qingling's response. She remembered how the other disciple handed her the vial and instructed her to kill Bai Qingling, stating it was the only choice. As she pushed the door open, she remembered what the other disciple stated, that once she kills Bai Qingling, everything will be over. The doors opened wide, and she faced Bai Qingling, who was sitting on his throne. Meanwhile, the man in Bai Qingling's body was in a panic when he saw that she had arrived just like in the original game, and he recalled that the third disciple, Sen Zinger, had been instigated to use the opportunity of providing medicine to use the poison pill given by the main male character, Xiao Chen. As Sen Zinger approached him, the man came to the conclusion and accepted that, at that moment, he was Bai Qingling, and Demon Lord Bai Qingling was him. He asserted that he didn't want to die yet, and at the very least, he couldn't let the charming male main character, Xiao Chen, enjoy his disciples. Suddenly, a system screen appeared, and it congratulated Bai Qingling, as he had been bound with the legendary Great Love system. The system notified him that he had received a beginner's quest, and that was to use Great Love to influence Sen Zinger emotionally to let go of her resentment, and become completely devoted to him. Bai Qingling was surprised when he read about the Great Love system because he was a demon lord who does all kinds of evil without batting an eye, and he remarked that even if it was a common cheat for a transmigrator, it shouldn't be so ridiculous. But Bai Qingling realized that it was not necessarily so because, in the original game, developing goodwill with Sen Zinger only started after his death. Bai Qingling looked at Sen Zinger, who looked uneasy as she walked towards him, while he said that it also meant that even though the story progressed to that stage, Sen Zinger still couldn't bear to let him go. He grinned as he stated that whether he likes her isn't important to Sen Zinger because she is the only point of breakthrough for him. Bai Qingling waved his hand, and Sen Zinger was startled when all the dead bodies were blown away. She took a peek, and she was surprised by what she saw. Bai Qingling had cleared the path Sen Zinger was about to take, so she won't have a hard time walking towards him. He smiled warmly at Sen Zinger, telling her that there was no need to be so cautious, and he ordered her to come closer. Sen Zinger was surprised, and she wondered if it was her imagination. She blushed, and she was so surprised, as she heard the voice of the man who was always about everyone else actually had a hint of warmth. Sen Zinger bowed down and greeted Bai Qingling as the martial master, but she corrected herself and just called him master. She looked so terrified, and she urged herself to be brave, as there was nothing to be afraid of because Xiao Chen had used his life to guarantee that Bai Qingling's vitality was greatly injured. Senzinger stated that as long as Bai Qingling consumes the Void Soul Eater pill, his body will perish while his Tao will disperse, so he will not be reincarnated. She raised the vial and stated that the spiritual herb garden that she was responsible for had produced another batch of 100-year-old spiritual herbs, so she was currently presenting to him the 9 transformation magic pill that he had asked for a while ago. Bai Qingling acted like he was surprised that it was ready so quickly, and he inquired if Senzinger was sure that the pill was properly refined. Senzinger nervously stated that she wouldn't dare be neglectful, and as she stated that she and the elder from the blood refining hall refined that pill day and night for 2 months, so the quality of the pill should be at least 7th grade or above, she requested Bai Qingling's benevolence. When Bai Qingling heard Senzinger state that it was a 7th grade pill, he inquired why there was a 9-colored glow near the entrance of the bottle, and when she and the blood refining hall were able to refine a 9th grade pill. Senzinger was stuttering as she stated that it was the effect of the supplementary ingredients she added. Bai Qingling looked pissed as he inquired if Senzinger had done what she did intentionally or accidentally. Senzinger was alarmed, and the colors drained from her face. She continued to stutter as she requested Bai Qingling not to worry because, although she had only added supplementary ingredients, it still had the effects of the original 9th grade pill, and if there was any loss in the effect, she was willing to be severely punished. Bai Qingling looked down on Senzinger, and he observed that she had such eagerness to convince him to consume it, so he concluded that his good disciple really wanted him to die quickly. But he mentioned that a person in their most anxious state is when they are at their weakest, so the foreplay must be sufficient for the so-called great love to penetrate deep into the soul. An aura suddenly flowed into the vial that Senzinger was holding. It was Bai Qingling's aura, and he took the pill out of the vial. Senzinger looked worried as she inquired if Bai Qingling was going to take it immediately. Suddenly, she recalled the past when she was small, and she was holding Bai Qingling's hand while calling him master. Bai Qingling turned to look at her when she kept calling him, and he gave her a warm smile. Senzinger hesitated, and she suggested that if he was not satisfied, he could take the pill back into the furnace to refine it again. She was surprised when Bai Qingling crouched down to her level and called her name while caressing her face. Bai Qingling's eyes looked so sinister as he leaned forward while staring directly into Senzinger's eyes, and he questioned her why she hates him so much. Senzinger started sweating, and she was in distress as Bai Qingling questioned her why she wanted to kill him so eagerly. Bai Qingling instructed Senzinger to come with him. Tears welled up on the corner of Senzinger's eyes as she asked Bai Qingling if he did not believe in her. But instead of answering her question, Bai Qingling continued to walk away, instructing her to keep up and telling her that there should be no more questions. Senzinger wiped the tears from her eyes as she stood up and agreed with Bai Qingling. She followed Bai Qingling, who led her down a staircase. Bai Qingling grinned sinisterly as he revealed that, as expected, Senzinger still didn't have the courage or conviction to go against him, so he could turn things around as long as he used the situation to his advantage. They arrived at the blood storage basement level, and the two of them faced a huge door that was filled with human bones. Senzinger was terrified when she saw the place, and she was about to ask Bai Qingling about it. Meanwhile, Bai Qingling explained that it was where he ingested the poisonous elixir, and also the place where the original main character, Xiao Chen, made his final attack, and the game made it seem more peaceful, but it was actually so cruel seeing it firsthand. Bai Qingling disclosed that they were all the people from the Cyclops clan who lived in the Great Shiwen Mountain in Nanjiang, and he was once deceived by the clan leader, Chuoba Chang'u, which is why he endured such extreme torture that he was better off being dead. He revealed that Chuoba Chang'u wanted to take away his innate demonic powers, but thankfully, his demon blood activated at the last minute, and he escaped successfully. Bai Qingling stated that after his demonic art was completed, the first thing he did was return to the Great Shiwen Mountain to pay back the hospitality shown by the Cyclops clan. Senzinger looked concerned as she realized that it was not just Bai Qingling's master who wanted to take his demonic power. The Cyclops clan also plotted against him, and she observed that anyone who has experienced that type of treatment would become ruthless and nonchalant towards the world. She looked crestfallen as she commented that Bai Qingling shouldn't have been treated that way. But Senzinger became anxious as she remembered that her senior sister had already mentioned Bai Qingling's true face. So if she didn't kill him that time around, no one would know how many lives would perish at his hands. Suddenly, Bai Qingling clarified that it was not those that he wanted to show. He opened the huge doors and revealed that what he truly wanted her to see was inside. As Bai Qingling walked through the doors, Senzinger followed him. They entered a room where there were many floating red orbs hovering over a pedestal. The orbs seemed like they were eyes, and they were huddled together in a circle. Senzinger looked so surprised as she recognized that they were the Shadow Demon Pearls. She remembered her senior sister telling her that Shadow Demon Pearls could monitor a person's every move and provide feedback upon the owner's wish, and that the Shadow Demon Pearls in her room were crafted by Bai Qingling, so he has been monitoring them ever since they joined him. Senzinger looked horrified as her senior sister explained that they were not Bai Qingling's disciples, but tools on a leash. Just things he could touch as he pleased. Looking wary, Senzinger remembered that her second senior sister advised to pretend not to know about the existence of those pearls, but she wondered why Bai Qingling was showing those things to her himself. Bai Qingling ordered Senzinger to raise her head and look closely. Looking anxious, Senzinger still agreed with Bai Qingling. Suddenly, the Shadow Demon Pearls began projecting some sort of image. The image became clearer, and it showed a little girl who was crying while the bodies of her parents were lying on the ground beside her. There were bandits towering over her, calling her a rotten child, and they complained that it was so annoying as she was still crying. One of the bandits was about to swing his sword at the little girl while he commanded to shut her mouth. The little girl was so helpless, and she could only flinch in fear while crying. Suddenly, Bai Qingling arrived, and he slashed the bodies of the two bandits. The bodies of the bandits were falling towards the ground while Bai Qingling calmly passed by them. As Bai Qingling loomed over the girl inquired who he was. Bai Qingling gave her his name while looking down at her with terrifying eyes. The little girl quickly bowed on her knees, asked Bai Qingling if he was a god, and begged him to help her parents. But Bai Qingling responded that gods disregard mortals, but demons don't abandon the living. He caressed the little girl's face as she implored him to come with him, and the little questioned where. With a warm smile on his face, Bai Qingling announced that they were going home. Senzinger was moved by what she saw, as she was the little girl in the image. Bai Qingling revealed that he has countless enemies, and his disciples will also naturally become the targets of many people, so the Shadow Demon Pearl is just one of his tactics for protecting her when she is in danger. Senzinger queried Bai Qingling if he meant that he was always using the Shadow Demon Pearls to protect them and not monitor them. But Bai Qingling did not answer her question. Instead, he confessed that he had deliberately treated her unkindly those years, and everyone in the world knows that she has reasons to hate him. Senzinger was astonished as Bai Qingling admitted that it was because if he accidentally died, they, the three sisters, would still have a reason to stand by the enemy's side and keep themselves safe. Tears started to well at the corners of Senzinger's eyes as Bai Qingling confided that it would have been best if he could keep those things a secret forever. Senzinger gritted her teeth, and tears were running down her cheeks as Bai Qingling divulged that she had already decided to kill him. Bai Qingling was filled with melancholy as he acknowledged that it didn't matter because, as long as Senzinger is safe, everything else is not important. Suddenly, Senzinger lunged at Bai Qingling and hugged him. She was crying as she confessed to Bai Qingling that she was wrong. Senzinger labeled herself a big dummy and asserted that she shouldn't have believed what the others claimed and that she should have known from the start that he was the best person in the whole world. She buried her face on Bai Qingling's chest as she admitted to him that she was truly wrong and pleaded for his forgiveness. Senzinger professed to Bai Qingling that she actually really loved him while sobbing. But unbeknownst to her, Bai Qingling was grinning evilly as he hugged her back. Bai Qingling was startled when the system congratulated him for completing the beginner's quest and informed him that he had earned 500 points and 1 golden treasure chest as a reward. He was surprised that the quest was completed, and what he did counted as using great love to influence Senzinger's emotions. Bai Qingling got anxious as he remarked that he couldn't afford to think too much because, in order to survive, he must change the storyline of his eventual death, and Senzinger's loyalty is an indispensable factor for it. Calling Senzinger his rebellious disciple, Bai Qingling asserted that he couldn't understand her behavior, and asked her who was the scoundrel that managed to sweet-talk her into doing such a thing. Senzinger quickly reported to Bai Qingling that it was Yingui Temple's direct disciple, Xiao Chen, and she revealed that it was Xiao Chen that sowed discord between the two of them, even using sweet words to bewitch her second senior sister and create a rift in the relationship between him and his disciples. She looked apologetic as she confessed that everything that happened that day was all because she was deceived by Xiao Chen, and she requested Bai Qingling to inflict the harshest punishment on her as long as he didn't chase her away. Bai Qingling announced that since that was the case, he, a venerable one, would give her a second chance. He asked her to help him with a favor, and he would pardon all her sins. Senzinger looked so enchanted as she agreed with Bai Qingling's request and asked him to give her his command. Meanwhile, at Kangming Sect Yuluo Temple, 2 people were standing by the entrance. One of them was the original game's male lead, Xiao Chen, who was with someone named Tan Tai, and he looked so worried as he inquired Tan Tai why Senzinger hadn't come out yet, and he speculated that Bai Qingling had realized that something was off and Senzinger had been exposed. Xiao Chen was talking to Tan Tai Lingying. Bai Qingling's second disciple, and she conveyed that, as per her and Senzinger's agreement, whether she succeeds or not, she will transmit word over to her as soon as possible. So since there was no news, it meant that the plan was still being executed. But Xiao Chen insisted that it wouldn't do, so he has to check it out himself because there is absolutely no room for mistakes. To Xiao Chen's surprise, Tantai Lingying pointed her sword at his throat as she cautioned him not to be rash. Tantai Lingying explained that the outside of the blood storage is filled with terrifying restrictions that only Senzinger is permitted to enter, so if he wanted to force his way in, she would be seeking his own death. Xiao Chen let out a deep breath as he suggested to forget it and proposed that they wait a little longer. Suddenly, Xiao Chen saw something that surprised him. He gleefully exclaimed that Senzinger was back when he saw her walking up the stairs towards them. Xiao Chen blushed as he expressed that it was great that nothing happened to her because he was so worried. He was puzzled when he tried to grab Senzinger, but she took a step back. Senzinger's expression was filled with contempt as she looked at Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen looked crestfallen when he noticed Senzinger's expression. He looked so disappointed as he pondered in his mind if Senzinger was seriously retreating. And he lamented that he had helped them all so much all those years, yet he was not even allowed to briefly hold her hand in such a situation. As Xiao Chen composed himself, Tantai Lingying inquired Senzinger if she was all right, if she succeeded, and why she didn't transmit word to her as per their agreement. Senzinger replied to Tantai Lingying that she was successful. Xiao Chen looked pleased when he heard that it was successful, while Tantai Lingying just looked at Senzinger with a scrutinizing look. Tears welled up at the corners of his eyes due to happiness as Xiao Chen recollected that he had been undercover in the Kangming demon sect ever since he was 12, for a total of 10 whole years, and since he had finally eliminated the giant of the demonic path whose name was known throughout the continent. He would definitely become famous amongst the righteous path in the future. Senzinger was about to call Bai Qingling her master, but she corrected herself midway and called him a demon, saying that he was arrogant to believe that he had already controlled her long ago and consumed the Void Soul Eater pill. But during that period, his emotions fluctuated greatly, so she was afraid of exposing any of her weaknesses, which is why she didn't dare to transmit any words. Xiao Chen stated that if that was the case, there was no need to rush because that poison pill was personally bought by his master from the black market using a hefty sum of gold. He assured that if they wait for 7 days for the poison to reach its peak, even the strongest of both paths won't be able to escape the fate of bodily death and soul destruction. Tantai Lingying expressed that it wasn't that they couldn't wait for 7 days, but she had a doubt and hoped that he could clarify it. She almost called Bai Qingling her master too, but corrected herself and called him a demon. And she questioned Xiao Chen that although Bai Qingling committed countless evil acts, it doesn't seem like he had any grievances with him, so she asked him why he agreed to cooperate with them and even suggested using such a vicious poison pill. Senzinger added that what Tantai Lingying said was right and noted that Xiao Chen even appeared to be so enthusiastic about it. Xiao Chen asserted that, naturally, it was because he couldn't bear to see the demon Bai Qingling abuse and bully the both of them for such a long time and wanted to rescue the two of them from the Sea of Fire, and he questioned them if they didn't understand his concern for them. Both ladies looked appalled by Xiao Chen's response, and Senzinger hid behind Tantai Lingying as she queried Xiao Chen if he did all that for the two of them right from the start. Xiao Chen quickly clarified that that was not the case and probed her what made her think that. Meanwhile, Tantai Lingying murmured, but she was closely observing Xiao Chen. Tantai Lingying suggested to forget it and proposed that they end things for that day, and meet again after 7 days because it was getting late, and he shouldn't delay Yingui Temple's evening lessons. Xiao Chen awkwardly agreed, and he told Senzinger that he would see them in the coming days, while in the back of his mind, he was wondering why women are always so fickle. Tantai Lingying and Senzinger watched as Xiao Chen walked away. With Xiao Chen gone, Tantai Lingying implored Senzinger to be honest with her and asked her if she was deeply saddened. Tantai Lingying was puzzled when Senzinger didn't answer her question, but posed one instead if he ever thought about something. Senzinger inquired Tantai Lingying if she ever considered that Bai Qingling might not be what they originally imagined him to be, and perhaps he was a little harsh to them but would never harm them. Tantai Lingying reminded Senzinger that the evidence Xiao Chen brought has already proved that Bai Qingling only views them as materials for his human puppets, and even if all his nefarious acts are ignored, they can't forgive him based on that fact alone. Senzinger looked at Tantai Lingying with a worried expression on her face when she heard her answer. On the other hand, Bai Qingling was back on his throne, thinking that he let Senzinger buy him some time for him to catch his breath, and that Xiao Chen and Tantai Lingying would definitely not be able to discover at the start that Senzinger had been won over by him. Bai Qingling recalled seeing the rewards that the system gave him and brought out the golden treasure chest. The golden treasure chest appeared in the air in front of him. Bai Qingling observed that it was really identical to the treasure chest from the original game. He commanded the treasure chest to open, and it did as it was told. The system notified Bai Qingling that the opening was successful, and requested that he select one of the 3 items within the treasure chest. Bai Qingling was speechless as he looked at the items that were displayed in front of him. Looking at the adjustable divine rod and the bedroom sutra, Bai Qingling wondered what the hell those 2 things were, and he looked uncomfortable as he questioned himself if they were even used for demonic cultivation because they are clearly used for human cultivation. Bai Qingling grabbed the stage reversion experience card and decided that, sure enough, he had to choose it. He looked so pleased as he concluded that an experience card that allows him to revert back to any previous cultivation stage meant that he could revert his cultivation to when he was at the peak of the immortalization stage. Standing in front of a pool of blood, Bai Qingling asserted that Senzinger should have followed his order to meet Untitled, and lie that the poison plan succeeded. Bai Qingling recalled that based on the original storyline, the 3 of them, Xiao Chen, Untitled, and Senzinger, would only enter the blood storage after 7 days to check on his corpse. The restrictions at the blood storage will weaken as he slowly dies, and lastly, the main character, Xiao Chen, who had been undercover in the demonic sect, will personally deal the final blow. Bai Qingling looked determined as he declared that within those 7 days, he must make the necessary preparations. Stimulating the pool of blood in front of him, Bai Qingling proclaimed that he is a demon, so he will defy heaven's will and change his fate. Suddenly, a rectangular item emerged from the pool of blood. It was a fancy, shiny box. As he retrieved the box, Bai Qingling explained that he had previously taken out and hidden his cultivation core and 5 organs and replaced them with other objects. He did that so that even if he faced defeat in a decisive battle, as long as his soul remnants escaped, he would be able to reconstruct a perfect body. But since he knew the future plot, it was useless to keep that move for the future. As he ate the red meat from the box, Bai Qingling remarked that it was better if he retrieved it early and recovered his former strength as soon as possible. Bai Qingling gathered a dark aura at the palm of his hands, and he ordered his cultivation core to return to its place. He let out a deep breath after finishing the process. Bai Qingling grinned as he observed that the cultivation is the source of his foundation, so his injuries have directly healed and his strength has recovered to the foundation building stage. He swung his arm to test his power, and Bai Qingling looked so pleased as his power was so strong that it damaged the wall behind him, smashing them into pieces. Bai Qingling exclaimed that it was excellent and pointed out that it was the strength that the final boss should have. He was surprised when he heard Senzinger's voice informing him that she had completed his mission and returned and that he had an item that she wished to give him. Bai Qingling wondered what Senzinger could give him, and he mused that the game didn't seem to have that part. A few moments later, Bai Qingling was back on his throne, and Senzinger was bowing in front of him, telling him that the evil villain Xiao Chen was delighted after hearing that he had consumed the poison pill, and Untitled was acting normal, and had yet to be suspicious of her. Bai Qingling was intrigued, and he inquired Senzinger what else Xiao Chen said. Senzinger reported to Bai Qingling that Xiao Chen indicated that the poison effect would reach its peak after 7 days, where even Dalio Jinxian would find it difficult to escape death, and Xiao Chen asked them to return 7 days later to check on his corpse and push all the blame on Mu Xinlin. Senzinger looked repulsed, as she revealed that he had only just learned of Xiao Chen's complete plan, and she didn't expect him to be so viciously shameless. She smiled brightly as she presented a vial and offered that she had an item to offer him, which was the real 9 transformation soul reinforcing pill. Bai Qingling was so surprised that he got up from his seat as he recalled that the 9 transformation soul reinforcing pill only existed in the game's gallery, and there was no way for the players to obtain it. He wondered where Xiao Senzinger obtained the real 9th grade treasure pill. Looking at the vial, Bai Qingling acknowledged that with that real product, his confidence in changing the ending would once again increase by a few fold. Bai Qingling cleared his throat and commended Senzinger for a job well done, as she really went and refined it. Senzinger turned red as she queried Bai Qingling if he was satisfied with that. She coyly requested Bai Qingling if she could request that he reward her once. When he heard Senzinger mention a reward, Bai Qingling queried her what reward she wanted. Senzinger suddenly grabbed Bai Qingling's hand. She placed his hand on her cheeks and pleaded for his forgiveness for moving on her own because she loves to be touched by him. Bai Qingling turned red, and he was lost for words. As he continued to touch Senzinger's face, he was feeling a delicate feeling, and it was as if his hand would sink in if he pressed a little harder. Senzinger was puzzled when Bai Qingling suddenly pulled his hand away, and labeled her a rebellious disciple, asking her who gave her the courage to be so forward with him. Bai Qingling patted Senzinger on the head, and he stated that touching her head would be enough as a reward for offering the pill. Senzinger smiled brightly as Bai Qingling continued to pat her on the head. She grabbed Bai Qingling's hand again as she admitted that she was too arrogant. Senzinger lowered Bai Qingling's hand, and she expressed that the place where she wanted to be rewarded was not only the head, Bai Qingling was caught off guard, and he was completely taken aback by Sen Zinger's gestures. Suddenly, the system congratulated him for successfully spreading great love, and notified him that he had earned 500 points and that the system shop had been unlocked. Meanwhile, in the Yingui Temple bedroom, Xiao Chen bowed down to his master and gave his greetings. Xiao Chen's master, Hua Yuerong, is the master of Kangming Sect's Yingui Temple, and she confirmed with him what she heard. Bai Qingling not only lost all his magical powers but was also poisoned, and his life was hanging by a thread. Xiao Chen proudly reported to Hua Yuerong, informing her that he has a good relationship with Sen Zinger, and she informed him of it herself, and he suggested that if she heads to the blood storage to kill Bai Qingling at that moment, the position of the next sect leader will definitely belong to her. But to his surprise, what Xiao Chen received was a strong slap across his face. Xiao Chen looked so confused, and he was about to inquire Hua Yuerong about it. Hua Yuerong questioned that in the past, Bai Qingling was the direct disciple of the alchemy grandmaster, Zai Yaoshi, and his alchemy skills were even better than his master's, so she challenged him what kind of poisonous pill could make him so helpless. Xiao Chen tried to justify the pill with Hua Yuerong, but he suddenly trailed off. It was because Hua Yuerong was already glaring daggers at him. Xiao Chen was alarmed when he saw the expression on Hua Yuerong's face. He quickly bowed down and confessed that he was wrong because it seems that the fake information about Bai Qingling being poisoned is his way of luring people in. Xiao Chen announced that he would be taking his leave. Hua Yuerong smiled discreetly as Xiao Chen was about to leave. She was calling someone, her senior brother, passionately, and she recalled that he spared her life that year. Hua Yuerong reflected on the time when Bai Qingling destroyed his sect, and only she was spared. Recalling the grief of her past, Hua Yuerong pondered if Bai Qingling did it to make her resent him and drive her to seek revenge on him in the future. Hua Yuerong concluded that Bai Qingling did it and that his life would soon be personally ended by her. Sen Zinger thanked Bai Qingling for his rewards and mentioned that she would take her leave. She was satisfied, and she giggled as she walked away. On the other hand, Bai Qingling was flustered, and he stared at his hand. Bai Qingling regained his composure, and after clearing his throat, he inquired if the system had just announced that the point shop was open and that he would take a look. As he opened the system, it welcomed Bai Qingling to the point shop, where he could spend points to exchange for treasure chests, and it notified him that as the total points spent increased, more treasure chests would gradually be unlocked. Bai Qingling currently had 1,000 points, and the chests at the point shop ranged from the bronze chest, which cost 100 points, up to the mythical chest, which was still locked. He looked disappointed, and when he queried if there was only a gacha chest, he remarked that the gold treasure chest he got for free previously was worth 5,000 points, and at the moment, he only had 1,000 points. The system notified Bai Qingling that since it was his first time using the shop, he would be given one chance to pull first before buying, and his current chance was worth 1,000 points, so he should come and test his luck. Bai Qingling commented that it was a familiar marketing strategy, and after asking if he had any other choice, he ordered the system to pull. The system congratulated Bai Qingling for obtaining a chance to select one item out of 3, which were bound to the soul and exclusive to Bai Qingling's use. First was the story recall card, which was capable of jogging the memories of plotlines that Bai Qingling had forgotten. Second was the knife which heartlessly destroys lust, which was able to cut off reproduction with one slice, freeing the host of the annoyance of lust. And third was the life restart pill, which had the description that claimed that no one knew whether life could be restarted or not. Bai Qingling was frustrated, and after asking the system if it was scamming his points away, he argued that he was already fully familiar with the story plot. While the Lust Destroy knife was the same as a castration knife, and the restarting pill was a one-use item, he challenged the system, asking if pulling first and buying later wasn't a marketing strategy to lure people into spending money, if it wanted to scam him out of his 1,000 points with that trash, and if the dog system even knew how to do business. Suddenly, 4 Shadow Demon Pearls arrived. When Bai Qingling saw that, he questioned the Shadow Demon Pearls, asking who they were. The Shadow Demon Pearls gathered to form a square and began to project an image. The image projected was Feng Lixu, Bai Qingling's oldest disciple. Feng Lixu quickly kneeled and greeted Bai Qingling. Meanwhile, Bai Qingling was taken aback as he wondered if she was his oldest disciple, Feng Lixu, because she appeared 10,000 times nicer than the game illustrations. Bai Qingling thought that regardless of whether it was Feng Lixu's body shape or her cold on the outside, warm on the inside personality, she was completely his taste. Not hearing Bai Qingling's response, Feng Lixu looked up and called his name in a questioning manner. Bai Qingling just sat there on his throne with a stoic face and remained silent. Feng Lixu thought that Bai Qingling had never been in such a trance, and she wondered if the rumors spreading outside were true and if she should send word to Tantai Lingying and let her act earlier. She discreetly grinned after having those thoughts. But suddenly, Bai Qingling glared at Feng Lixu and demanded to know why she was laughing and if he was very funny. Feng Lixu was terrified when she realized that Bai Qingling was still the same. Looking at Bai Qingling's menacing eyes, Feng Lixu thought that it was the familiar sense of pressure and terrifying aura that could easily crush all pride and self-esteem with one glance. Feng Lixu got nervous and thought that she should never anger Bai Qingling. She thought that she did not want to activate the evil rune etched onto her abdomen and suffer the heart-wrenching punishment again. Bai Qingling asked Feng Lixu where she was at the moment. Feng Lixu responded that as per Bai Qingling's will, the foothills of Haishui Mountain where the demon-suppressing tower was located had been cleared, so there were no longer any disciples of the righteous path patrolling the mountain and preventing her from scaling it. Bai Qingling commended her and instructed her to continue with her mission to invade the demon-suppressing tower and obtain the secret item that he desired. Feng Lixu immediately affirmed that she would follow Bai Qingling's orders. She thought that Bai Qingling was still ruthless and unscrupulous. While Feng Lixu was reflecting on how she could have had the wrong idea to take advantage of Bai Qingling earlier, she stood up and stated that she would take her leave. But Bai Qingling suddenly remembered something and requested that Feng Lixu wait for a moment. Feng Lixu was surprised and confused, and she nervously inquired if Bai Qingling had more orders. Bai Qingling asked Feng Lixu if she knew what day it was. Feng Lixu tried to say yes, but she admitted that she was foolish and requested that Bai Qingling enlighten her. Bai Qingling approached Feng Lixu and observed that time flies because after that night, she would be entering the golden age of youth, which was 20 years old. Feng Lixu got more confused by what she heard. Bai Qingling reminisced, noting that 14 years had slipped by unknowingly since that very day, the day Feng Lixu followed him up the mountain, and even if no one in the world remembered, he would never forget. He recalled the time when he was walking up the stairs of a snowy mountain with a little child with him. Bai Qingling gently held the small hands of the child, which had turned red due to the cold. The child was the young Feng Lixu, and she watched him intently as he clasped his hands over hers. Bai Qingling carefully blew his warm breath onto Feng Lixu's hands to ease them from the cold. Back in the present, without showing any emotions, Bai Qingling stated happy birthday to Feng Lixu. Feng Lixu's eyes widened in surprise. Her expression suddenly changed and softened. Feng Lixu gazed at Bai Qingling with that soft expression on her face, as if she were moved by what he did. But she quickly turned away from Bai Qingling. Feng Lixu indicated that she would take her leave, and Bai Qingling could see the droplets of tears she was trying to hide by walking away. As Feng Lixu's projection disappeared, the system congratulated Bai Qingling for successfully giving great love, and he was awarded 2,000 points. So he currently had 3,000 points. Despite the rewards, Bai Qingling looked crestfallen and thought that at that time, he wasn't intentionally trying to gain Feng Lixu's favor, it was purely because he liked her character design when he played the game and noted down her birthday. Bai Qingling thought that since all 3 of his disciples had been pacified, there shouldn't be any issues in 7 days. He pulled out the 9 transformation soul reinforcing pill that Senzinger had presented and declared that by using it, reaching Virtuoso stage in one go should be as easy as a flip of a hand. Bai Qingling smiled sinisterly and pronounced that after that, the show of crushing the male protagonist Xiao Chen like an ant shall begin. At Kangming Sektian Gui Temple, Demon Master Palace, the disciples practiced their sword skills. One of those disciples was Xiao Chen, but he seemed distracted, and the disciple beside him became alarmed. The disciple inquired what was wrong and if something was on Xiao Chen's mind. Xiao Chen responded that nothing was wrong, and as he thanked his junior brother for his concern, he remembered something and asked if he had given the phoenix hairpin to Yuluo Temple's Senzinger as requested. He eagerly questioned if Senzinger accepted the gift and if she was very happy. The junior brother hesitated when he heard Xiao Chen's questions. Noticing his junior brother's hesitation, Xiao Chen grinned and wondered if Senzinger had prepared a gift in return on the spot. The junior brother confessed that he gave the phoenix hairpin to Senzinger, but she split it in half immediately. Xiao Chen was so shocked by what he heard that he dropped his sword. He grew troubled, thinking that after the first stage of the plan to remove the demon Bai Qingling succeeded, Senzinger must have missed him deeply, so he questioned why she rejected his gift. The junior brother continued and mentioned that Senzinger not only broke the phoenix hairpin, she also remarked something. Xiao Chen, still horrified, asked what Senzinger had remarked. Recalling Senzinger's disgusted expression, the junior brother explained that Senzinger hoped Xiao Chen would never look for her again because she feared that the person in her heart would misunderstand. Xiao Chen coughed up blood from surprise. The shock even knocked him down, and he fell into the bushes, worrying his junior brother, who asked if he was all right. Xiao Chen stood back up, enraged, and as he demanded to know who dared to steal from him behind his back, he swore that once he found out who had taken his cruise, he would not let them off easily. Meanwhile, Bai Qingling meditated on his throne. When he opened his eyes, Bai Qingling declared that he had re-entered the virtuoso stage, and furthermore, he had refined a high-grade core that every demonic cultivator desired, the 9-colored demonic core. Gazing at the 9-colored demonic core, Bai Qingling thought that not only was it equal to infinite magical power, but it was also something that the original Bai Qingling couldn't refine. And although he was still far from the peak of the immortalization stage, he was already unmatched among those in the virtuoso stage. Senzinger was with Bai Qingling, and as she congratulated him, she expressed that she was honored to share in his happiness. Bai Qingling acknowledged her contribution in providing the pill would not be forgotten, so from that day forth, she didn't need to stand in ceremony, nor did she need to use honorifics anymore. Senzinger thanked Bai Qingling and mentioned that he should listen to her because that morning, Xiao Chen actually tried to gain her favor with a gift. She giggled, explaining that she snapped it in half on the spot and that Xiao Chen was blind to think he could continue tricking her. Senzinger's pupils turned to hearts as she lamented that it was just a shame the thing broke and wasn't a certain part of Xiao Chen's body. Bai Qingling became alarmed, and while staring intently at Senzinger, she added that she would have felt even better. Bai Qingling beckoned her closer. Senzinger, puzzled, still agreed and boldly approached him. As Senzinger neared Bai Qingling, he rose from his throne. Bai Qingling stood in front of her and ordered her to remove her shoes. Senzinger, taken aback, grew confused by Bai Qingling's request. Noticing her reaction, Bai Qingling repeated that he was asking her to take off her shoes and asked if she wanted him to say it again. Flustered, Senzinger explained that the souls of a female demon cultivator are objects of darkness and can easily contaminate the earth with demonic energy, so even a human sect saintess would not easily show her legs to others. But Bai Qingling glowered silently at her. Defeated, Senzinger immediately complied, understanding. Senzinger slowly removed her socks, embarrassed as she revealed her feet to Bai Qingling. Bai Qingling saw a mark on her left foot and immediately recognized it, as he identified it as the miasma poison of the sky demon flower in the demon farm. He asked why Senzinger hadn't told him she was poisoned because of him. Senzinger downplayed the issue, calling it a minor matter not worthy of his concern. She expressed that as long as she could refine a pill to satisfy him, she would not hesitate, even if the poison attacked her heart and spawned poisonous sores all over her body, because her life was dedicated to him, and nothing else mattered. Bai Qingling grew flustered, wondering if this wasn't just a dating game, but thinking it was too intense, believing that Senzinger's feelings would kill him. Clearing his throat to regain composure, Bai Qingling gestured to his throne, inviting her to sit. Senzinger, surprised, protested, explaining that it was his throne. But Bai Qingling grabbed her shoulders, gently pushing her onto the throne, asserting that he told her to sit, so she should sit. Senzinger, moved, listened as Bai Qingling vowed to help detoxify the poison. Senzinger asked Bai Qingling if he was going to use his poison-immune blood to purify the poison from the sky demon flower. She immediately replied no and absolutely not. As Bai Qingling kneeled in front of her, Xiao Chen stated that he was the demon lord who stood above everything, so he should not be corrupted by her wretched body. But Bai Qingling paid her no mind and grabbed her feet. Xiao Chen was flustered and surprised that tears flowed out of her eyes, and she thought that a person as highly esteemed as Bai Qingling was actually willing to get close to her. As Bai Qingling leaned in closer to the mark on Xiao Chen's feet, Xiao Chen thought that he was not lying to her and that he really cared about her. Xiao Chen was intoxicated by the sensation as Bai Qingling did something to the mark, and she protested that he couldn't do such a thing over there while squirming on the throne. But Bai Qingling was unfazed. A few moments later, Bai Qingling removed his mouth from Xiao Chen's feet, and the mark was already gone. Wiping his mouth, Bai Qingling declared that it was done and that he, a venerable one, had sucked out all the poison within Xiao Chen's body, so she should already be fine. Xiao Chen was still out of it, and she looked like she was melting onto the throne. Suddenly, Bai Qingling asked Xiao Chen how long she planned to sit on his throne. Xiao Chen was alarmed when she heard what Bai Qingling uttered, but she was still flustered. She immediately agreed and that she would take her leave and ran away. The system congratulated Bai Qingling for successfully spreading great love and notified him that he obtained 2,000 points, so his current points were 5,000. Bai Qingling called the system and requested to check his skills and techniques. The system showed Bai Qingling's skill panel, which showed that he was at the virtuoso stage, and also showed him his martial techniques, support skills, and their current level. Looking at his skill panel, Bai Qingling observed that virtuoso stage cultivation was still not able to control his innate demonic techniques and the divine techniques that defy heaven. Bai Qingling commented that the skill he could rely on the most at the moment was the insect poison technique. He remarked that according to the original game, the brat Xiao Chen would enter the blood storage the next day to try and take the credit for beheading him, and he happened to have the perfect poisonous insect to send him on his way. Bai Qingling extended his hand and released his aura. A hole appeared in the space above Bai Qingling's head as he summoned something. Bai Qingling summoned an evil-looking insect. He smiled sinisterly as he muttered that he hoped Xiao Chen would like that great gift. A few moments later, Bai Qingling went to the blood storage 3 floors underground. The prisoners in the storage immediately saw Bai Qingling, and they shouted that the demon had come. Some of them were enraged and cried out that they should kill and use their thoughts to curse the demon. Another prisoner addressed Bai Qingling as the temple master and stated that they were both brethren of the demonic path, and he had yet to treat him to a meal, but Bai Qingling ignored them all. Bai Qingling approached a meditating cultivator that was being held in one of the cells. The cultivator glared at Bai Qingling as he asked him what the demon wanted. Bai Qingling scoffed in his mind as he thought that one look at the cultivator and he could tell that he had the face of a protagonist. He recalled that in the game, Bai Qingling happened to capture that guy to become a test subject while the guy was out, and only after Bai Qingling died, which triggered the side mission, would the identity of that person be revealed. Bai Qingling informed that the cultivator was Xiaoyi, Kunlun Taoist sect Yuzi's last disciple in the virtuoso stage, and his Kunlun divine sword technique was impressive, so he was truly the genius of the young generation of the righteous path. Xiaoyi was enraged when he heard what Bai Qingling stated, and as he glared at him, he asked how the demon knew his identity. Bai Qingling replied that it was because Xiaoyi's junior brother Xiao Chen would come to find him soon, and it just so happened that the two of them were very close so they could take care of each other. Xiaoyi was enraged that there was a tinge of dark aura in his eyes when he released his aura, and he warned that if Bai Qingling dared to touch a single hair on Xiao Chen, he would never stop hunting him down even if he became a vengeful ghost. Bai Qingling saw the dark aura and thought that there was already demonic light flowing in Xiaoyi's eyes. He thought that, sure enough, he had secretly learned some demonic cultivation techniques through the soul binding banner. So it was no wonder that in the original side mission, Xiaoyi could help Xiao Chen unlock Taoist Heart Demon and step onto the dual path of Taoist demon cultivation. He was sinister as he remarked that he was a venerable one who had always hated being threatened the most, but he was willing to give Xiaoyi a chance so he would play a game with him. Xiaoyi got nervous, and he asked Bai Qingling what game it was. Bai Qingling responded that it was a proper battle, and if Xiaoyi won, he would let him go and reunite with Xiao Chen. But if he lost, he would be completely refined by the soul-binding banner. Xiaoyi asked Bai Qingling if he would have fallen into his current state if he were his opponent. Bai Qingling suddenly used his supreme breath condensation technique, and as he released it, his powerful, dark aura swirled around the area. Bai Qingling observed that Xiaoyi could see that he had his cultivation burned out by Mu Xinlin, and had just stepped back onto the path of cultivation. So at the moment, their abilities were around the same level, they were both at the virtuoso stage. He noted that he had given Xiaoyi an opportunity and asked what his choice was. Xiaoyi slammed his hand onto the ground. He released his powerful aura as he agreed with Bai Qingling, and he demanded that Bai Qingling come on and let him out as he would fight him one-on-one because he would battle him to his death. Bai Qingling smiled sinisterly as Xiaoyi was unaware that the insect he summoned had already flown above his head. The insect approached Xiaoyi from behind. Xiaoyi was out of his cell, and he remarked that he really didn't expect Bai Qingling to return his physical body and Taoist sword back to him. He expressed that he was even more surprised that Bai Qingling's cultivation fell to the virtuoso stage, so the heavens were really looking, and he laughed hysterically. Bai Qingling cut him off by clearing his throat, and he clarified that it was recultivation, and not a fall. Xiaoyi began swinging his sword and stated that all those things didn't matter anymore because he was not interested in the secrets of someone who was going to die for certain. Bai Qingling inquired why Xiaoyi was confident. Xiaoyi explained that he was defeated and captured last time because his cultivation level was significantly lower than Bai Qingling's, but since they were currently at the same level, taking Bai Qingling's life would be as easy as killing chickens or slaughtering dogs. Bai Qingling responded very well, so Xiaoyi should come at him. Xiaoyi immediately began releasing his aura and announced that it was a pinch of yin and yang. He described that Kai rushed into Kun Mountain, and swords made of aura began to appear. A huge sword appeared amongst the other swords Xiaoyi summoned. Xiaoyi used his Kunlun divine sword technique and directed the huge sword towards Bai Qingling. Bai Qingling was unfazed when he saw the swords coming at him, and he acknowledged that it was as expected of a protagonist's sword technique, which could defeat everyone in the beginning stages, and moreover, it was much stronger when Xiaoyi used it as compared to Xiao Chen. He began gathering his dark aura onto his fist, and he noted that if Xiaoyi hadn't died in the plot, the title of protagonist would have been difficult to place. Bai Qingling swung his fist, and as his aura swirled around it while his eyes lit up, he declared that he shall use Xiaoyi to test the purity of his new body. He was sinisterly powerful as he punched the gigantic sword Xiaoyi threw at him. Bai Qingling's fingers made contact with Xiaoyi's sword. The gigantic sword immediately shattered into pieces, and his powerful, dark aura surged towards Xiaoyi. Xiaoyi coughed up blood. He fell to the ground, and as he cried that it was impossible, he asked Bai Qingling how he did it. Bai Qingling replied that there are differences even among cultivators of the same stage, so Xiaoyi lost. Xiaoyi was enraged, and as he shouted that he couldn't and wouldn't accept it because Bai Qingling just happened to hit the weakness of his sword formation, he asked Bai Qingling what would have happened if he had missed by an inch. Bai Qingling smiled sinisterly, and as he retorted that nothing would be different, He asked Xiaoyi if he didn't realize that there were some delicious condiments added to his physical body. Xiaoyi was horrified, and he was asking Bai Qingling what he meant when multiple insects suddenly started crawling up his face. He was alarmed when he noticed the insects, and Bai Qingling pointed out that it was them. Xiaoyi immediately recognized the poisonous insects and exclaimed that they were the most vicious 9 evil bone-gnawing insects, and Bai Qingling was despicable. Bai Qingling commented that if Xiaoyi's move earlier really had any danger, those little things would have eaten him first. As Xiaoyi's body got consumed by the poison insects, Bai Qingling remarked that, in other words, Xiaoyi would always be the loser in that game. Bai Qingling sneered at Xiaoyi as he mocked who he thought he was for having the same cultivation level as him. Suddenly, the item that was hanging by the talismans activated. It sucked Xiaoyi's soul out of his body. Bai Qingling wondered if it wasn't a form of spreading great love to tell Xiaoyi the truth in his final moments and if the system shouldn't have given him more points. He waited for a response, but he was met by an awkward silence. Bai Qingling got annoyed, and he asked the system why it wouldn't give him any points, if it was because Xiaoyi was someone who would die in the story or because he was a man. He let out a sigh of disappointment. Bai Qingling muttered that he should just forget it because becoming familiar with casting the poisonous technique was a slight gain anyway. He mentioned that tomorrow is the day Xiao Chen would come to deliver his head and Xiaoyi wouldn't be able to cause trouble behind his back at the moment, and he pondered if Xiao Chen would still have the heart to kill him if he told him about Xiaoyi's current condition. On the other hand, Xiao Chen was sleeping in the room he was sharing with his junior brother. He seemed to be having a nightmare as he groaned in his sleep. Xiao Chen was dreaming that Sen Zinger, Feng Lixu, and Tantai Lingying were on the ground, injured, and he was asking for his fellow Taoists to have mercy. He was protecting the 3 disciples, and as he pleaded that they were all on the same side and that he could guarantee it, he asked if all of them didn't recognize him. As the Taoists raised their swords towards Xiao Chen called for his master and begged that he should say something because he knew who he was. Xiao Chen woke up, and he jerked up from his bed as he yelled and asked for his master to save him. He quickly looked around, and when he saw his junior brother, he wondered if he was talking in his sleep, and he thought that fortunately, he didn't wake his junior brother up. Xiao Chen thought that it was already the 6th day, so the soul-eating poison in Bai Qingling's body should have already spread to its limit. But he thought that Sen Zinger had been acting weird recently and there might be a flaw in the plan, so he quickly dressed up and got out of his room, and he thought that if he didn't go and check personally, he wouldn't be able to relieve the uneasiness in his heart. As Xiao Chen walked out the door, his junior brother woke up and was surprised. He asked Xiao Chen where he was going when it was way too early. Xiao Chen responded that he was going to Tianyuan Lake at the foot of Yuluo Mountain for a spin because he felt like eating fish. While it rained extremely hard and the lightning lit up the sky, someone stood at the blood storage entrance. It was Sen Zinger, who was drenched in rain while in her night clothes, and she asked Bai Qingling if she may have the permission to enter. When Bai Qingling heard her, he was surprised, and as he remarked that he just came out of the 3rd basement floor, he inquired when Sen Zinger arrived. Bai Qingling thought that Sen Zinger should only arrive tomorrow afternoon, while Xiao Chen should come in the morning, so he wondered if something went wrong. He sat on his throne and announced that he was granting Sen Zinger permission, so she should come in. Sen Zinger acknowledged and immediately entered. Bai Qingling instantly questioned Sen Zinger why she had come to find him. Sen Zinger trembled as she explained that she was inexplicably worried, so she came to take a look. Bai Qingling interrogated Sen Zinger on what she meant and if she thought that Xiao Chen would be able to plot against him or if she was trying to imply that he was heavily injured by Mu Xinlin and became a cripple. The lightning cracked loudly in the sky, and Sen Zinger got so nervous as she muttered that she wouldn't dare, unable to finish her sentence. When Bai Qingling noticed the loud lightning, he immediately realized that it was due to the thunder outside. Bai Qingling recalled that when Sen Zinger's parents were killed, on the same night after he saved her, there was also a ferocious storm like that night. He thought that it was the greatest trauma in Sen Zinger's heart. Observing the breathless and flustered Sen Zinger, Bai Qingling thought that in the original game, whether one could win over Sen Zinger depended on how perfectly one could manage the plot during rainy days. Sen Zinger suddenly attempted to speak and was about to express what she wished. Suddenly, Sen Zinger's expressions turned lustful, and she declared that she wished to sleep with Bai Qingling. Bai Qingling was taken aback, and he blushed as he realized that although Sen Zinger looked incredibly mesmerizing at the moment, the major event of killing Xiao Chen, which would derail the main plot, was about to happen, so there must not be any potential problems. He slammed his hand onto his throne and demanded to know if that was all. Bai Qingling acted enraged, and he proclaimed that Sen Zinger was presumptuous. But instead of scaring her away, Bai Qingling was stunned when Sen Zinger ran towards him and buried her face onto his chest. Sen Zinger explained that she was really afraid of thunder, so she pleaded with Bai Qingling to take her in just for one night. Bai Qingling blushed as he got caught off guard, and he was lost for words. He tried to regain his composure, and he asked Sen Zinger what being afraid of thunder had to do with him. Bai Qingling shouted, and as he declared that blood storage prohibited anyone except him from staying, he questioned where his pride as the lord of Yuluo Temple would go if he made an exception and took her in for the night. A few moments later, Bai Qingling was at the blood storage royal residence of the underground palace, staring blankly into the ceiling while he lay on his bed with Sen Zinger beside him. The system congratulated Bai Qingling for successfully spreading great love, and awarded him 2,500 points, so his current points totaled 7,500. Bai Qingling thought that his character as the Demon Lord was about to collapse and that no one could understand him because his personality was just too caring and considerate. He glanced over to his side. Sen Zinger had her back turned towards Bai Qingling and did not move. But her mind was filled with thoughts. She thought that Bai Qingling clearly only had obtaining immortality in his heart and wondered how she could compare to that. She also reflected that that day, Bai Qingling actually forgave her rudeness and even accepted her fear, allowing her to sleep with him. Sen Zinger wondered if she was worthy of being that happy and if she could be happier. The loud lightning suddenly cracked up in the sky again. Sen Zinger screamed in fear, and she quickly turned to the other side and embraced Bai Qingling, catching him off guard yet again. Bai Qingling stuttered as he demanded to know who permitted her to touch him and if she understood that she was getting into trouble. Sen Zinger genuinely was terrified as she called for her master, but her expressions quickly turned mischievous as she kept her hand underneath Bai Qingling's robe, and she teased that her hands and legs were very cold, so she was just trying to warm them up and would never advance to the next step. Bai Qingling was astonished when he heard Sen Zinger mention advancing to the next step, and he realized something. Sen Zinger was puzzled when Bai Qingling suddenly sat up on the bed. He was thinking that the time when Sen Zinger came to find him had been moved forward, and as he wondered if that hinted that Xiao Chen would come earlier to kill him, he concluded that if Xiao Chen was already heading towards Yuluo Temple, it was not the time to be asleep. Bai Qingling commanded that Sen Zinger should get up, and she was surprised. With a serious look on his face, Bai Qingling stared at Sen Zinger intently and declared that he had a very important mission for her, and that she must follow his every word from that point onward. On the other hand, at Yuluo Temple, at the foot of the mountain, a horse calmly stood under a tree, taking shelter from the rain. The horse was suddenly startled when something jumped on its back. It was Xiao Chen, and as he frantically ran up the stairs of the mountain, he called out Bai Qingling's name and announced that he was coming. He grinned sinisterly as he declared that it was the day Bai Qingling would die and the day that he would become famous. Tantai sat by the edge of the cliff. She peacefully played her gyukan. Suddenly, Yihongi arrived, and she mentioned that it had been 7 days. Yihongi asked Tantai if she didn't want to see the end of Bai Qingling personally. Tantai replied that Yihongi is her closest sister, so she should understand that before she is truly separated from Bai Qingling, she will not tolerate any slander from others. Yihongi responded fine and admitted she was wrong, and she asked Tantai if she was going to send her Lord Master off personally. Tantai replied that there was no need, and she mentioned that Bai Qingling is her eternal nightmare and the apple of her eye. On the other hand, Xiao Chen remarked that Tantai transportation jade talisman is indeed useful because not a single disciple guarding the gates of Yuluo Temple questioned him. A few moments later, Xiao Chen arrived at the blood storage. Xiao Chen remarked that it looked like his success in Heaven's will. He noted that the 10 years of being undercover and suffering through hardship were all for that very day, and in addition to the secret weapon given by his master, he wondered if he needed to be afraid. Suddenly, Sen Zinger appeared, and she called Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen's face immediately lit up when he saw Sen Zinger. He mentioned that Sen Zinger had been cold to him for so long, which is why he couldn't be nice to her immediately. But Xiao Chen couldn't help himself, and he smiled brightly while blushing. He remarked that Sen Zinger was finally willing to take notice of him and that he has been extremely anxious because of her. Sen Zinger replied that Xiao Chen was mistaken because she had been secretly observing the movements of Bai Qingling recently, and if Bai Qingling noticed that Xiao Chen came to look for her, that would be disastrous. Xiao Chen remarked that Sen Zinger was worried about him and that he should have known. He stated that since it has been 7 days, there was no need to be worried any longer, so he suggested that the two of them go in together and kill Bai Qingling and make their names known throughout the world. But Sen Zinger replied that she was still afraid. She stated that Bai Qingling is her inner trauma and that it will be hard for her to cast it away in such a short time. Xiao Chen acknowledged that he understood, but there was no problem. He declared that he will behead Bai Qingling personally that day and sweep away the haze in Sen Zinger's heart. Sen Zinger agreed and mentioned that she will fully rely on Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen remarked that Sen Zinger was cute and that she must have come there so early to cheer him on. Unbeknownst to Xiao Chen, Sen Zinger was intensely glaring at him. Suddenly, the blood storage doors opened. Sen Zinger and Xiao Chen entered the blood storage and walked down the stairs together. Xiao Chen suddenly remarked that it was strange and asked Sen Zinger if they were going the right way. He mentioned that the secret weapon that Yuzi gave him has been suppressed by an unknown power, and if that power continues to grow, the weapon won't be able to release 10% of its power. Xiao Chen called Senzinger and remarked that they can't go down any further, so they should return to the last fork in the road and reselect a new passageway. Senzinger asked Xiao Chen what was wrong and remarked that she has served Bai Qingling for so many years, so there is definitely no mistake that it was the only passageway to the third basement level where Bai Qingling was at. She asked if it could be that Xiao Chen doesn't trust her at all. Xiao Chen replied no, that it was not possible, so Senzinger shouldn't be upset, and he assured her that he would listen to her, so they should continue heading down. A few moments later, Senzinger and Xiao Chen arrived at the bottom of the stairs. Xiao Chen was surprised with what he saw. They were in a room that was ominous. Xiao Chen was alarmed when the doors suddenly closed behind them. Bai Qingling appeared, and as he addressed Xiao Chen as his martial nephew, he mentioned that it was their first time meeting each other, so it was nice to meet him. Xiao Chen was surprised when he saw Bai Qingling and questioned that he was still not dead. Senzinger asked Xiao Chen why Bai Qingling wasn't looking like he was poisoned and near death, and if it could be that not only did Bai Qingling recover his abilities, but he has even removed the pill poison too. Xiao Chen replied that Senzinger shouldn't panic and look at Bai Qingling's hand. He remarked that it was the symptom of the Void Soul Eater pill poison, and Bai Qingling has already become terminally ill, and there was no way to save him. Xiao Chen remembered Hua Yuerong, and he mentioned that she was really worrying too much because Bai Qingling is clearly bluffing. Suddenly, Bai Qingling's attitude towards Xiao Chen changed, and he replied no, that Xiao Chen should leave. Senzinger asked Xiao Chen if Bai Qingling was chanting the incantations to activate a formation array and remarked that Bai Qingling is definitely thinking of using the restrictions of blood storage for his final struggle. Xiao Chen scoffed, and his eyes lit up. He remarked that he will not let Bai Qingling do as he wishes, and he used his skill, the Yin Gui sword technique. Bai Qingling replied no. Xiao Chen asked if Bai Qingling was begging for mercy and remarked that it was too late. He swung his sword at Bai Qingling and declared that he should die. Xiao Chen remarked that he finally did it and that Bai Qingling should just die peacefully as he will take good care of his disciples for him. But he was surprised when Bai Qingling's appearance began to disappear. Xiao Chen remarked that it wasn't Bai Qingling. When Bai Qingling's appearance completely disappeared, Xiao Yi's face was revealed. Xiao Chen remarked that it was his big brother. Xiao Yi lay on the floor in front of Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen asked him if he was Xiao Yi. Xiao Yi called Xiao Chen his little brother. Xiao Chen immediately asked Xiao Yi what was going on, why he was there, and why he took the form of Bai Qingling. Xiao Yi replied that it was all Bai Qingling's ploy. He was about to tell Xiao Chen what Bai Qingling wanted when Bai Qingling fired a powerful beam of aura at him. The beam of aura passed through Xiao Yi's body and destroyed it, which surprised Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen was horrified as Xiao Yi's body disappeared, and he turned to look at where the beam of aura came from. Bai Qingling clicked his tongue and remarked that the first thing they did after reuniting was unleash a fatal strike, so they, the brothers, were really loving towards each other. He added that he couldn't bear Xiao Yi's look of suffering, so he gave him a quick death, and he asked Xiao Chen if he shouldn't be thanking him on behalf of Xiao Yi. Xiao Chen retorted that it was Bai Qingling who made Xiao Yi like that. He added that Bai Qingling didn't even let them exchange a few words. Senzinger remarked that Xiao Chen was a fool and asked him if he finally understood, which puzzled Xiao Chen. She explained that all of that was part of Bai Qingling's astounding intelligence. Xiao Chen was surprised that Senzinger addressed Bai Qingling as master. Bai Qingling stated that his disciple is naturally also his servant. He mentioned that Xiao Chen shouldn't tell him that he just learned about the rules of the demonic path. Xiao Chen confessed that he had been seeking Senzinger's favor all those years, and earlier, he only touched her hand, and she dodged away in such a manner. He remarked that currently, Senzinger was seducing Bai Qingling to touch her. Xiao Chen knelt on the floor and denied everything. He asked Senzinger why she lied to him and why she betrayed them. When Senzinger heard what Xiao Chen said, she responded that since the start, Bai Qingling has been truly caring for her. She declared that she was willing to serve Bai Qingling until her last breath and give him everything she has. Senzinger continued that as for Xiao Chen, he intentionally instigated them, she and her sisters, to kill Bai Qingling, so she hated him so much that she wanted to rip out his soul and skin him. She added that she wanted him to wish for death but be unable to die. Xiao Chen could not accept it, and he insisted that Senzinger would definitely not say those kinds of words. He accused Bai Qingling of using the human puppet technique to control Senzinger. Xiao Chen declared that as long as he killed Bai Qingling, he would be able to save his Senzinger. He claimed that even if Bai Qingling wasn't poisoned, he wouldn't be his match since Mu Xinlin destroyed his cultivation. Senzinger called Bai Qingling and warned him to be careful. Bai Qingling used his demonic eye to witness the truth in one glance. He observed that the distribution of the sword's force and rhythm were all clearly visible in his eyes. Bai Qingling declared that it was the moment. He managed to grab Xiao Chen's blade with his fingers. Xiao Chen's illusions quickly disappeared when Bai Qingling effortlessly caught him. He remarked that it was virtuoso realm cultivation, and as he questioned Bai Qingling about how he could have virtuoso realm cultivation, he insisted that it was definitely impossible. Bai Qingling explained that the combat power Xiao Chen could unleash is at most equivalent to the virtuoso stage, so he shall only use the virtuoso stage cultivation to battle with him, and it was in his favor as well. He asked Xiao Chen where he would have the power otherwise. Xiao Chen was astonished, and he thought of his sword that was forged personally by his master, Yu Zuzi. On the other hand, Senzinger commented that Bai Qingling's cultivation was still present, and sure enough, the evil woman Mu Xinlin couldn't destroy Bai Qingling's cultivation. Senzinger stated that the apocalyptic demon lord that everyone fears has returned. Bai Qingling remarked that it was time for the fun to end, so Xiao Chen should use his secret weapon, the 12th grade demon suppressing golden lotus. Xiao Chen asked Bai Qingling how he knew about that thing and if every move was within his calculations. He said that since it has come to that situation, he could only rely on his master to protect him, and Bai Qingling brought it upon himself. Xiao Chen proclaimed that the 8 energies of the heavens would be his to command and kill all that is evil. He used his weapon, 12th grade demon suppressing golden lotus, and let it rise. The room filled with light as Xiao Chen raised up his golden lotus. Bai Qingling commented that Xiao Chen finally used his trump card and that golden lotus is indeed able to harm him in the immortalization stage, so his insignificant body that has just been recultivated to the virtuoso stage won't be able to withstand that thing. But he remarked that it was fortunate that he already knew the original plot. Bai Qingling explained that as long as he prepared in advance, it was not impossible to get out of that situation and that the legacy of the Demon Lord also can't be underestimated. A huge explosion occurred as the Golden Lotus got destroyed. Xiao Chen was surprised when he saw the broken pieces of the Golden Lotus falling down towards him. He cursed Mu Xinlin, calling her a lying witch. Xiao Chen cursed and lamented that he tried to kill Bai Qingling because he trusted Mu Xinlin, and that she ruined him. Bai Qingling suddenly called Xiao Chen from behind. He remarked that it was time for them to wrap things up. Xiao Chen wondered if he was really going to die there that day. He claimed that if only he had heeded Hua Yuerong's advice, he wouldn't have ended up like that, but he had been unwilling. Bai Qingling remarked that he waited for that moment and that as long as he squashed the ant Xiao Chen, he would survive the first episode of the plot. Xiao Chen warned that Bai Qingling shouldn't come near him. Suddenly, Hua Yuerong called Bai Qingling and requested for him to hold on. Senzinger inquired who was there. Bai Qingling glanced at Hua Yuerong and immediately recognized her. Hua Yuerong was exuding a very strong, dark aura. She was the temple master of the Kangming sect, Yuluo Temple. Bai Qingling noted that Hua Yuerong was never described in the original game and was only mentioned, but his body recognized her at a glance. He mentioned that Hua Yuerong was the only junior sister that he loved while under the tutelage of Zaiyashi. Bai Qingling admitted that there was an inexplicable pain in his heart, but he couldn't recall the full memories of the time he spent with Hua Yuerong, as if training in the demonic arts had buried all that was warm. He added that in the original plot, only a white ring Magnolia de Lave remained of their relationship. Bai Qingling clicked his tongue and remarked that the veiled saintess decided to come personally, so his blood storage was truly graced with Hua Yuerong's presence. Hua Yuerong stated that her disciple Xiao Chen had greatly offended Bai Qingling. She inquired how Bai Qingling was planning to deal with Xiao Chen. Bai Qingling snickered and asserted that being treacherous wasn't a big deal to a person of the demonic path like him, but he emphasized that there was no way those who offended him could live. Hua Yuerong remarked that from Bai Qingling's tone, it seemed there was no room for negotiations. Xiao Chen suddenly called Hua Yuerong and insisted that she shouldn't be afraid of Bai Qingling because he was about to die and was just bluffing. He suggested that the demonic path had no inhibitions, and it was the best time to kill Bai Qingling and become famous, but once that chance was lost, there would never be another. But Xiao Chen suddenly screamed in pain. Hua Yuerong directed her dark aura at Xiao Chen and severed his arm. Xiao Chen was both confused and terrified. He was astonished by what Hua Yuerong did to him, and he was speechless. Hua Yuerong remarked that since Xiao Chen was going to die anyway, he might as well die under her sword because at least his master was sending him off. She added that it was also the punishment for disobeying her orders. Senzinger abruptly inquired why Hua Yuerong was interfering with her master's actions. Hua Yuerong asked Senzinger what she called Bai Qingling, as she was surprised that she called him master. She commented that Senzinger was presumptuous and that it was no place for juniors to interfere because when she first met Bai Qingling, she hadn't even been born yet. Hua Yuerong and Senzinger glared at each other, and there was powerful tension between them. Bai Qingling remarked that Hua Yuerong was foolish because that slash didn't even kill Xiao Chen. He suggested that Hua Yuerong must be thinking of pretending to take Xiao Chen's corpse to save him, which was ridiculous because he definitely wouldn't let Xiao Chen escape death. But Bai Qingling admitted that, for some reason, his body's reaction seemed to not want him to expose Hua Yuerong's ploy. He wondered if the information about Hua Yuerong in the original game was impossible to unravel, and if his actions had triggered a hidden route for Hua Yuerong, leading him to speculate if the benefits of following her storyline could be greater than killing Xiao Chen. Hua Yuerong requested to bury her disciple Xiao Chen and asked Bai Qingling if he wouldn't reject that simple request. Bai Qingling replied that since Hua Yuerong had a request for him, she had to agree to one of his conditions. Hua Yuerong commented that Bai Qingling really wasn't letting anything go for free and urged him to speak what kind of condition it was. Bai Qingling stated that the sect master selection ceremony would be held in 1 month, and he would tell Hua Yuerong what it was at that time. Hua Yuerong remarked that she only hoped Bai Qingling would fulfill his promise when the time came and that he wouldn't ask something unfeasible from her. She announced that she would take Xiao Chen's corpse away first. She bade farewell and left. Senzinger asked Bai Qingling if he was really going to follow the old hag's will. Suddenly, Bai Qingling addressed Hua Yuerong as his junior sister. He recalled that at the foot of the Jiui Mountains, there was a never-withering magnolia de lave, and he would never dare to forget that in that life. Hua Yuerong suddenly paused when she heard what Bai Qingling remarked. She was taken aback by what Bai Qingling noted. Hua Yuerong was speechless, and she halted for a moment. She scoffed and continued to walk away, but the image of the magnolia de lave lingered in her mind. The system congratulated Bai Qingling for spreading great love and mentioned that he earned 1,000 points, bringing his total to 8,500. Bai Qingling observed that the decision to let Xiao Chen escape was very dangerous, but it wasn't a bad idea to bet on Hua Yuerong, so she shouldn't let him down. At the blood storage, in the royal residence of the underground palace, Senzinger lay in bed with Bai Qingling. Senzinger meowed as she thanked Bai Qingling for the reward. The system congratulated Bai Qingling for successfully spreading great love, and he earned 1,500 points, so his current points were 10,000. It informed Bai Qingling that Senzinger's favorability had reached a threshold so he could begin the trust test, and Bai Qingling inquired about the trust test. The system explained that the test was to confess to Senzinger about the truth of her Sen family village side story plot, and passing it would earn him the reward of Senzinger's eternal loyalty. Bai Qingling expressed surprise that the reward was eternal loyalty, and he remembered what the Sen family village plot was. He suddenly stood up, and Senzinger felt puzzled. Bai Qingling stated that Senzinger's reward was already over, so she should follow him. He recalled that in the original work, Zia sect's most senior elder, Lai Qianju, once brought disaster upon the world, triggering a crusade between the righteous and demonic paths. Bai Qingling remembered that after he died, a sword's appearance seemingly proved that he was the real mastermind behind the Sen family village's tragedy, and that revelation made Senzinger, who came from the Sen family village, bathe her face in tears, and she couldn't let it go for a very long time. He stated that in the original game, that was one of the strategies to win over Senzinger, and if he had died in Xiao Chen's hands, it would have been him bringing Senzinger to that place to expose the truth. Bai Qingling clarified that, in other words, even if the system hadn't requested it, it was one of the main plot points he had to face. Senzinger asked Bai Qingling if it was the place where he stored his collections and remarked that normally he wouldn't even let her enter. Bai Qingling ignored Senzinger's question and asked her if she recognized the item hanging on the wall. Senzinger quickly recognized it as her Uncle Mu Rong's sword. Bai Qingling confirmed that Senzinger was right, that it was the Sen family village's guardian cultivator Mu Rong Tai's sword, Lanai. He pointed out that he knew the Sen family village tragedy was a scar on Senzinger's heart, and the village guardian whom she respected, Mu Rong Tai, was still missing as of that day, and everyone in the world believed that the one behind it was Zia sect's Lai Qianju. But Bai Qingling revealed that, in fact, it was him who killed Mu Rong Tai. He confessed that he used the living souls of everyone in the village to refine Mu Rong Tai's Dao sword into a soul sword, and it was the final truth of the Sen family village tragedy. Senzinger recoiled in horror upon hearing Bai Qingling's confession. Bai Qingling apologized to Senzinger in his mind, and he admitted that although he could explain the reason behind it, the demonic path had always focused on the results, and in order to continue confronting Xiao Chen and Mu Xinlin, he could not endure any further risks to his trustworthiness. He wondered if Senzinger's reaction would ease his worries and if he could still continue to trust her after that. Senzinger declared that she finally understood. She explained that their souls had all merged into one and would never be separated, and all this time, they had all been living happily together. Bai Qingling felt taken aback by Senzinger's reaction. Senzinger revealed that Bai Qingling truly understood her feelings, as she had never mentioned what happened in the Sen family village, but she already knew about it because she couldn't resist it and had investigated it long ago. She stated that Zia sect's Lai Qianju was a master of evil corpses, and his evil corpse technique tormented people by turning them into something neither demon nor ghost, and Lai Qianju used the evil corpses to infect the entire Sen family village, and it was the absolute truth she discovered while investigating secretly. Senzinger theorized that it must have been because the village guardian, Mu Rongtai had no other choice but to offer his life dantian and sword to Bai Qingling and request him to help everyone break free from the torment of the inhuman evil energy so that at the very least, everyone was reunited in the form of pure, living souls. She noted that when facing the incurable evil corpses that were unrelated to Bai Qingling, he was actually willing to lend a hand and save everyone from being refined into an evil weapon, so he was the world's bona fide man of great love. Senzinger remarked that not only did Bai Qingling not pursue the fact that she had investigated the truth on her own accord, he even told her the truth himself, so she felt truly blessed to serve Bai Qingling in that life. Bai Qingling observed that the deduction process was rather accurate, but he wondered what was up with Senzinger's attitude because, compared to the demon lord Bai Qingling, Senzinger seemed even more obsessed and sick in the head. The system congratulated Bai Qingling as Senzinger passed the test, and he would forever possess her loyalty. Bai Qingling remarked that he was clearly a demon lord who had done unspeakable things, but the pure young girl was worshipping him so fervently that he felt as though he was really walking further and further down the path of a pervert. A few moments later, Bai Qingling returned to his room, and he observed that, regardless, he had finally managed to settle Senzinger's final trauma. Bai Qingling remarked that, putting that aside, he wondered how exactly he should make use of Hua Yuerong's route. He commented that his past memories were cut off right at the moment when he left Hua Yuerong. Bai Qingling stated that up to that day, he only remembered Hua Yuerong's tear-soaked face and her throwing a withering magnolia de lave. He mentioned that his memories of the time before seemed to have been sealed by him due to viewing it as an emotional weakness, so he wondered where he had put that memory and if it could give him a route that could finish Xiao Chen once and for all. Bai Qingling suddenly remembered that he earned 10,000 points that day, and he remarked that he could directly roll a platinum chest. He instructed the system to open the rewards interface and select the platinum treasure chest. The system notified Bai Qingling that the opening of the platinum treasure chest was successful, so he was left with 0 points, and it requested that he select an item from the following 3 treasures. The 3 treasures were the Dream Bed of Extreme Happiness, which was an earth-grade item that could permanently increase the endurance of Bai Qingling's flesh during dual cultivation, and the more people there were, the stronger the effects. Bewitching Powder of Obedience, which was a 7th grade treasure pill that was also known as I Love a Piece of Firewood, which was greatly effective against female enemies. And 3 Corpses Shedding Cicada, a 7th grade poisonous insect, which could be shed into a golden cicada and was closely related to poison technique cultivation. Bai Qingling commented that the 3 Corpses Shedding Cicada was useless to him as he could take out 13 different types of 9th grade shedding insects, and the Bewitching Powder of Obedience was an indulgence item, so using it to break out of situations was too limiting. He concluded that, sure enough, strength was still the most important thing. Bai Qingling imagined himself lying on the dream bed of extreme happiness with Hua Yuerong and his disciples. He remarked that increasing his body's endurance also meant becoming stronger. Bai Qingling stated that he chose the dream bed of extreme happiness and that the system should store it in the item inventory. He remarked that as for the next step, it looked like he had to make a move on his second disciple, Tantai Lingying. Xiao Chen expressed his pain to Hua Yuerong and stated that it was too painful. He declared that Bai Qingling bluffed, so Hua Yuerong had to avenge him. But Hua Yuerong scoffed, and as she questioned a piece of trash like Xiao Chen for daring to assassinate Bai Qingling, she remarked that Bai Qingling knew that Xiao Chen was not dead, and he deliberately let him go for her sake. Xiao Chen was about to inquire Hua Yuerong what she meant, but he trailed off when she pinched his nipples. Hua Yuerong uttered that Xiao Chen shouldn't move. She pronounced that if Xiao Chen dares to act on his own accord again, she will personally expel him, and she queried him if he understood. Xiao Chen articulated that he understood. Hua Yuerong conveyed that the sect master selection ceremony will be held in a month, and she can't afford for Xiao Chen to ruin her Yingui temple master's reputation at that time. Xiao Chen questioned Hua Yuerong if she had finally decided to compete in it. Hua Yuerong mentioned that she needs the Flaming Demon Tower's key. Xiao Chen probed if it was the sect's forbidden area, the Flaming Demon Tower, and why Hua Yuerong wanted the key. Melancholy filled Hua Yuerong's eyes as she gazed towards the window. Hua Yuerong observed that an evil person buried something in the Flaming Demon Tower, and she wanted to find it and see what exactly he was up to. On the other hand, Yihongyi called Tantai Lingying. Yihongyi affirmed that the demon should have gotten what he deserved by that time, and she suggested that they should celebrate. But Tantai Lingying questioned Yihongyi for calling Bai Qingling a demon, and she asserted that her master has died and his sins have disappeared, so Yihongyi shouldn't continue to slander him. Yihongyi was surprised when she heard what Tantai Lingying commented. She awkwardly laughed and interrogated if the two of them and Senzinger should go and set up a grave for Bai Qingling. Tantai Lingying announced that Bai Qingling wouldn't want to see her because, whether it's before or after his death, she is insignificant in his heart. Yihongyi got concerned for Tantai Lingying. Suddenly, Senzinger arrived, and she called Tantai Lingying. Yihongyi inquired Senzinger if she was there and where the demon's corpse was. Senzinger ignored Yihongyi. She called Tantai Lingying, and she explained that Bai Qingling indicated that he missed her. Senzinger bowed down to Tantai Lingying. She revealed that she has finished saying everything she needed to. Tantai noted that Bai Qingling actually didn't die and perfectly dealt with Xiao Chen's tricks. Senzinger demanded Tantai what was wrong, and Yi Hongyi informed that Senzinger was a fool because Tantai has long been poisoned by Bai Qingling. Tantai reported that Yi Hongyi should shut up and she should stop talking. She pressed Senzinger why Bai Qingling looked for her and if he knew that she was the mastermind behind his assassination, and wanted her to go and surrender her life. But Senzinger related no. She specified that she didn't mention anything about Tantai and Bai Qingling only wishes to invite Tantai back to Yuluo Temple for a meal. He even vocalized that he wanted to let her try his cooking. Both Tantai and Yi Hongyi were surprised with what Senzinger expressed. Yi Hongyi acknowledged that Tantai must not go, but Tantai clarified no and that she had to go. Tantai wondered herself if Bai Qingling planned to bewitch her like he did with Senzinger, and she communicated that he underestimates her too much because ever since she knew the truth behind the poison in her body, she will never trust him again in that life. A few moments later, Senzinger and Tantai stood in front of a room. Senzinger recounted that Bai Qingling waited for Tantai in there, and she was really envious that she gets to spend time with Bai Qingling alone. Tantai pondered that since it had already come to that, she could no longer retreat. She considered that she had a reason she must see Bai Qingling for. Tantai reiterated that she, the left protector of the general altar, greets the Temple Master Bai. When Bai Qingling heard that Tantai addressed him as Temple Master Bai, he averred that she really makes her master's heart ache. Bai Qingling professed that he knows that Tantai has something to ask him, but she doesn't need his help because, all those years, she has drawn a clear line between him and herself, yet she was there to see him. He imparted that Tantai had no respect for him at all, and she wasn't even willing to call him master. Tantai called Bai Qingling master. Bai Qingling emphasized that it was time for Tantai to show her filial piety, and that she should come with her master to take a bath. Tantai was taken aback when she heard what Bai Qingling voiced. Tantai and Bai Qingling went to the underground second-floor immortal washing pool. Bai Qingling stated that stepping into that pool will block Tantai cultivation, and she will be like an ordinary person temporarily. But Bai Qingling remarked that it won't affect Tantai body and innate physique. Tantai considered that measuring her body is what Bai Qingling does, so for the sake of Yi Hongyi and everyone, she has to obey the demon in the meantime. Suddenly, Bai Qingling grabbed Tantai leg. Tantai was alarmed, and she wondered what the demon could be thinking of. A huge splash was created as Tantai fell into the pool. Bai Qingling inquired Tantai what was wrong. He questioned Tantai if she was on her guard even against her master. Tantai was alarmed when she realized the situation she was in. She believed that Bai Qingling has always wanted to make her into a human puppet, and it was just that her body has yet to mature, and in the past, he would use the item, Heavenly Essence Ruler, to measure, but she wondered why Bai Qingling chose to touch her body directly that day. Tantai pondered that it was Bai Qingling who rescued her from Zia's sex demon den and gave her a home, but in the end, she wondered if he was just planning for the future, and currently, he was finally going to demand what he was owed. Bai Qingling suddenly uttered that he has a treasure for Tantai. He quickly pushed Tantai underwater, and she was too stunned to react. Tantai was surprised when she noticed what was in the water. It was a body that looked like Tantai. Tantai queried Bai Qingling who that woman was and why she looked like her. Bai Qingling mentioned that the year when he saved Tantai from the demon's den, it was all thanks to the help of Hehuan sect master, Jai Tame, and although it was hard to identify Jai Tame's gender and they were charmingly evil, they were a very righteous person. He declared that, however, it was mainly for Jai Tame's own benefit that they were willing to collaborate with him to rescue Tantai because she has a very special constitution, and Jai Tame wanted her to become their furnace tripod. Tantai quickly realized the situation. Bai Qingling asserted that the thing Tantai saw at the moment is a female puppet made from the Otogi wood created at the birth of the universe, a wood spirit puppet, and it is a replica of Tantai that took 10 years to make and is to be given to Jai Tame in her place as a furnace tripod. He reflected that in the original game, the truth was that Bai Qingling wanted to use Tantai to exchange treasures with Jai Tame, but as long as he didn't give away the true body of Tantai and make an excuse, he wouldn't be exposed. Tantai probed if all those years, Bai Qingling's routine measurement of her body was all to create that puppet as fast as possible and give it to Jai Tame. Bai Qingling expressed that he had wronged Tantai and that he did that to protect her while not breaking his promise. Tantai was moved by what Bai Qingling pronounced, but she presumed that she can't believe Bai Qingling and she can't be tricked like Senzinger because if that was the case, she questioned what was the explanation for the 10,000 ants heart-gnawing poison in her body, and the evil rune on Feng Lixu's abdomen. Tantai conveyed that she was grateful that Bai Qingling told her all of that, but she was cut off. Bai Qingling suddenly reached out to Tantai. He grabbed Tantai Lingying's hands and restrained her, which took her by surprise. Tantai Lingying noted that Bai Qingling shouldn't because she is his disciple. She related that if Bai Qingling does it, she will definitely hate her for life. Tantai Lingying affirmed that it was such a strange feeling, and she addressed Bai Qingling as her Lord Master. She acknowledged no and that Bai Qingling shouldn't, but suddenly she commented that he shouldn't stop. A few moments later, Tantai Lingying emerged from the pool. Bai Qingling observed that the 10,000 ants' heart-gnawing poison has been expelled from Tantai Lingying's body in the form of poisonous blood, but he corrected himself and indicated that it was actually the 10,000 ants' heart-defending poison. He reported that the poison has the effect of defending the body and heart, so if a scoundrel coveted her constitution, the poison insect would remind her to stay away through a harmless pain, and if she was really violated, it would also release power to protect her. Bai Qingling articulated that he didn't expect Tantai Lingying to be so close with Xiao Chen that she didn't even understand her master's efforts, and she even thought that he wanted to harm her and couldn't see who the actual person who wanted to harm her was. He sighed and revealed that when one's daughter has matured and married, one can't get her to stay even if they wanted to. Bai Qingling communicated that since Tantai Lingying had gotten what she wished for, she could leave without any worries. Tantai Lingying was stunned, and tears rolled down her face. The system congratulated Bai Qingling for successfully spreading great love, so he was awarded 5,000 points, and through practice, the divine massage technique was upgraded to max level 99. A few moments later, Senzinger demanded Tantai Lingying if she was going back. Senzinger specified that Bai Qingling gave Tantai Lingying 2 Mara fruits to bring back, and he announced that it was her favorite thing when she was young, and he also explained that during the sect master selection ceremony, he will support Tantai Lingying regardless of her stand. She responded that it was really strange because Tantai Lingying and Bai Qingling spent so much time together alone, and she requested why Bai Qingling interrogated her to tell Tantai Lingying those instead. Tantai Lingying was quiet as she recalled how Bai Qingling used to give her those Mara fruits when she was young. She was happy as she addressed Bai Qingling as Lord Master. Tantai Lingying supposed that after keeping it a secret for so many years, Bai Qingling had revealed everything that day, and the timing was too perfect, so she doesn't understand and cannot fully believe it. But that wasn't Bai Qingling's fault. She contemplated that it was her fault and requested in her mind that Bai Qingling give her some more time because she would return to his side in the end, and serve him like Senzinger did currently. On the other hand, the system congratulated Bai Qingling for spreading great love, so he was awarded 2,000 points, and he currently has 7,000 points. Yihongyi lay down at the Kangming sect Black Moon Hall. She called Bai Qingling and stated that even though she, the temple master, has not met him yet, he must be old, ugly, and extremely evil to bully Tantai Lingying like that. Yihongyi declared that although she and Tantai Lingying are not related by blood, they are connected by their sisterhood. She mentioned that they bound themselves with the mirror flower seal, and their souls could feel what the other was feeling anytime and anywhere. Yihongyi remarked that ever since Tantai Lingying went to meet the demon, her body started to become strange, and she inquired herself where Tantai Lingying was at that moment and what the demon did to her. She swore to herself and asserted that she would tear Bai Qingling to pieces. Suddenly, Yitaeyuan called Yihongyi and queried if she was there. Yihongyi immediately recognized Yitaeyuan's voice. She quickly got dressed and came out to meet her grandpa, but Yihongyi was surprised when she saw Yitaeyuan. Yihongyi questioned Yitaeyuan what happened and why he had become so haggard. Yitaeyuan noted that Yihongyi should listen carefully because his lifespan neared its end, so he won't be able to protect her anymore. Yihongyi was taken aback when he heard what Yitaeyuan expressed. Yitaeyuan demanded Yihongyi if she was prepared to become the sect master. Yihongyi gritted her teeth as she contemplated about her decision. She conveyed that she would listen to Yitaeyuan's teachings. Yitaeyuan related that he will convene a great sect master selection ceremony, but won't use his authority to give the position to Yihongyi directly because, in order to win over the entire Kangming sect, she will have to gather the support of the important forces by herself. He probed Yihongyi which of the 4 great temple masters is the easiest for her to use. Yihongyi indicated that naturally, it was Ziliuo Temple's temple master, Ren Qianfen, because he is her uncle and will definitely lend a hand. But Yitaeyuan explained that it was not necessarily true. He informed that Ren Qianfen is cowardly and indecisive, and he abandons his righteousness for tiny gains but always saves himself when facing great risks, and he lets his wife make every major decision, so a look from her and Ren Qianfen would be too afraid to help Yihongyi. Yihongyi pressed about Luocha Temple's Mengu Taoist. Yitaeyuan announced that Luocha Temple is the strongest as it has countless disciples and vassals and is growing its might every day, but he quizzed Yihongyi why she thinks Mengu Taoist respects the elders and does so much for the sect. Yihongyi maintained that the man has ambition, so he definitely won't follow her. She affirmed that since that was the case, the only one left is the mysterious saintess from Yinghui Temple, Hua Yuerong. But Taeyuan pointed out no and that Hua Yuerong can't help Yihongyi because, from what he could see, Hua Yuerong has her own goals, so Yihongyi can't handle her. Yihongyi acknowledged that she can't use 3 of the 4 great temple masters, and she was about to ask Taeyuan what he was trying to say, but she was cut off. Taeyuan revealed that according to the last wish of Yihongyi's father, she should become a Taoist couple with Bai Qingling, Yuluo Temple's temple master, and the husband and wife would work together to strengthen the sect. Yihongyi was surprised when she heard what Taeyuan uttered. She considered that it was absolutely impossible because the demon was Untitled Chapter's master, and she wondered how Untitled Chapter would refer to her if she married Bai Qingling, if it was the master's wife. Yihongyi professed no and that she definitely won't marry Bai Qingling. On the other hand, Senzinger was reporting to Bai Qingling, and she recounted that she saw something when she sent Untitled Chapter off to the general altar. Bai Qingling requested Senzinger what she saw. Senzinger reported that she saw many rogue cultivators of the demonic path fly towards Liuacha Temple, and there were thousands of them. She specified that she also heard that Yinghui Temple, which had always kept a low profile, summoned the leaders of the vassal forces of the outer sects. Senzinger reflected that the Kangming sect went to change, and Bai Qingling had never liked to interfere with matters of the sect, so she wondered what he would do at that time. Bai Qingling responded that it doesn't matter because he will take action. Senzinger observed that Bai Qingling was domineering. Bai Qingling pondered that after the previous test, Senzinger was already completely loyal to him, so maybe it was time to stop the master-servant game that harmed Senzinger's personality. He pronounced that from that day onwards, he and Senzinger will return to the usual master-disciple relationship, so no matter the situation, Senzinger must call him master. Senzinger wondered why, and as she communicated that being a servant was part of her unique identity, she examined Bai Qingling if he does not love her anymore, if he was unwilling to teach her, and if she was being abandoned and forgotten. Bai Qingling clarified that he is not denying Senzinger's identity, and it was just that such a relationship should evolve and change. Senzinger interrogated Bai Qingling if she was still his loyal servant in the end and if he only wanted to change how he was called. She added that since her name has the word star in it and she is also Bai Qingling's servant, she would suggest that she be called Star Servant. Senzinger commented that from that day forth, she will be the Star Servant who tends to her master's every need. It was eerily quiet at the Zhenwu Sword Sect Forbidden Ground in the Blackwater Mountain, Demon Suppressing Tower. One of the deacons inside recognized and called Feng Lixu. He stated that Feng Lixu was a spy from the demonic path, and he shouldn't have trusted her so easily and allowed her to enter the tower, and her master, Kangsong Sword Saint, must have been blind. The deacon declared that Feng Lixu should remove the insect poison from his body if she has the guts, and he will fight her with only one finger, and if she wins, he will tell her everything. Feng Lixu remarked that the 3 deacons have really wasted their long lives and inquired if they expected someone from the demonic path to fight them fairly. One of the deacons noted that Feng Lixu was a demoness and that she should kill them if she dares, as the 3 of them are the most senior deacons of the Forbidden Ground. Before the deacon could finish his sentence, Feng Lixu swung her sword and beheaded him. Another deacon commented that Feng Lixu was really a vile demoness. Feng Lixu mentioned that the other deacon's wish had already been fulfilled and queried the other 2 what they would say. She questioned them if they were willing to hand over the key to the 1,000 Chances box that stores Kangming's sacred artifact. One of the deacons probed Feng Lixu if she would let them live if they gave her the key. Feng Lixu inquired the deacon if it wouldn't have been better if he had done that earlier. She quickly swung her sword. Feng Lixu slashed the deacon's body and killed him. The remaining deacon observed that Feng Lixu was a demoness, and she would be smitten by the heavens and would die a horrible death. Feng Lixu demanded the deacon who he took her for. She asserted that she was the eldest direct disciple of the demon lord Bai Qingling. Suddenly, Feng Lixu moaned. She voiced that it was her stomach and pressed herself if Bai Qingling had activated the evil rune in her body. Feng Lixu articulated that the evil rune was not activated, so she challenged herself if she could have been poisoned. She proclaimed that in any case, she will send what the demon wanted back to Yuluo Temple first. Feng Lixu opened the box and an eerie purple aura surged out of it. She related that before she could confirm that Untitled Chapter had killed Bai Qingling, she had no other choice. Meanwhile, Senzinger kept calling Bai Qingling, and he snapped back to reality. Senzinger interrogated Bai Qingling what he considered and if he could tell her. Bai Qingling sighed and expressed that he didn't think that he indulged Senzinger by letting her sleep under his feet, and that there won't be a next time, especially during that period. When Senzinger heard Bai Qingling mention the current period, she entreated him if he was troubled by the upcoming sect master selection ceremony. Bai Qingling affirmed perhaps. Senzinger was amazed, and she conveyed that she correctly guessed Bai Qingling's thoughts. Meanwhile, Bai Qingling considered that he couldn't do it. Suddenly, the system notified Bai Qingling that since his divine massaging technique has reached the max level, he won't be able to gain any experience by using it. When Bai Qingling read that, he pondered that he corrected his disciple's behavior and he would sue the system for defamation as it slandered him. Senzinger suddenly uttered that she wanted to show Bai Qingling a great treasure. Bai Qingling requested Senzinger what the great treasure was, while he wondered if he was right that Senzinger couldn't think of showing him something that won't pass the review in the original game. Senzinger announced that it was the token of authority of the Blood Pill Palace's Supreme Elder, Luo Qingfeng. Bai Qingling implored Senzinger why she had the token of one of the 10 Supreme Elders of Kangming sect with her. Senzinger recounted that Luo Qingfeng offered a reward for someone who could create a 9th grade Heavenly Heart herb, and she happened to know how to refine it. So she gathered all the ingredients from the demonic garden, rained it, and handed it to Luo Qingfeng the other night. She specified that she only acts silly in front of Bai Qingling, but she's very smart at other times, and she is constantly thinking of how to help Bai Qingling and their Yuluo temple. Bai Qingling reflected that in the original game, Xiao Chen received that token by exchanging his master Yuzi's resources and helped Yihongyi gain a powerful supporter, as it was a strategy for Yihongyi's route. He contemplated that he did not expect Senzinger to steal that away from Xiao Chen, and he wondered if that was the bonus of obtaining Senzinger's absolute loyalty. Bai Qingling indicated that Senzinger did well at that time, so it was the reward she deserved. Senzinger was filled with pleasure as Bai Qingling nibbled on her ear. The system congratulated Bai Qingling for successfully spreading great love, so he earned 3,000 points, and his current points are 10,000 points. Bai Qingling gently placed Senzinger down. He pronounced that they should go and that Senzinger should follow him out of seclusion and crush everything. Bai Qingling averred that there was no one who could stop them. Xiao Chen went to the Kangming sect General Altar Blood Pill Palace. He was surprised that Luo Qingfeng doesn't want his 9th grade Heavenly Heart herb, and as he inquired why, he stated that his herb is definitely real. The attendant declared that Luo Qingfeng's bounty was real and the herb in Xiao Chen's hands was also real, but it was just that someone came before Xiao Chen, so the bounty has expired. Xiao Chen questioned how that could be, and as he remarked that Luo Qingfeng's bounty had just been out for 10 days, he queried the attendant if he could tell him who found the herb before him. The attendant mentioned that it was fine telling Luo Qingfeng and that it was the direct third disciple of Yuluo Temple's temple master who found that herb on the 5th day after the bounty was posted. But as for what reward she requested, he had no idea. Xiao Chen immediately conceived of Senzinger, and he wondered if it was her own intention or if Bai Qingling ordered her to do it. He asserted that he will definitely tear those 2 bastards into pieces. As Xiao Chen walked out cursing, the attendant laughed. And as he probed Xiao Chen if he was angry just because of that, he noted that his Taoist heart is not strong enough. As he went into the forest, Xiao Chen cursed, and as he interrogated himself what he should do, Yuzi called him. Yuzi demanded Xiao Chen if he had handed the Heavenly Heart herb that he spent days synthesizing to Luo Qingfeng. Xiao Chen recognized Yuzi, and he wondered why he couldn't find a cleaner place to perform spirit possession. Yuzi requested Xiao Chen why the Heavenly Heart herb was still in his hands if someone came before him, and as he commented that he told Xiao Chen to hand it over quickly, he pressed him what he was waiting for. He related that Xiao Chen was really useless. Xiao Chen responded that it was enough. He replied that for Yuzi's plan to demolish the demonic sect, he told him to become a spy for 3 years at first. But 3 years after 3 years have passed, and it has been almost 10 years. Yuzi was speechless for a moment, and he informed that protecting mortals and eliminating demonic cultivators is Kunlun Taoist sect's responsibility, and he was sure that Xiao Chen didn't want his 10 years of being a spy to go to waste. He announced that he used the spiritual discs to pry into the future last night and discovered a big secret. Kangming sect's Grand Elder, Yi Taiyuan, passed away 7 days ago. Xiao Chen affirmed that Yi Taiyuan went to the Black Moon Hall 2 days ago, and he also appeared in front of his granddaughter Yihongyi and the other Yi family members. Yuzi conveyed that it was Yi Taiyuan's yin body and not his physical body, but Yi Taiyuan's remnant soul won't last long. He pronounced that it was about Kangming sect's divine weapon, and Xiao Chen should come closer, and he will whisper it to him because he still has a chance, and he should gain Yihongyi's trust, help her become the leader, and make her into his puppet. Xiao Chen wondered if he should get closer to that hard and smelly thing, and he reflected that he didn't want to get closer. On the other hand, Hua Yuerong slept in her chamber. She slept deeply and she was flustered. Hua Yuerong sweated profusely. She dreamt about her past when a disciple quizzed why her body became so plump. The other disciples chimed in and expressed that she turned into a pig. Hua Yuerong was flustered and could not respond to their remarks. Suddenly, she was puzzled when Bai Qingling placed a robe over her shoulder. Hua Yuerong acknowledged Bai Qingling's presence. Bai Qingling indicated that the robe can not only cover Hua Yuerong's body but also block all those ignorant rumors. Hua Yuerong was moved by Bai Qingling's gesture. Suddenly, Hua Yuerong dreamt of the scene where she specified that Bai Qingling shouldn't do such a thing. She inquired Bai Qingling how their master could harm them and acknowledged that there must be a misunderstanding. Hua Yuerong revealed that Bai Qingling was the person she admired the most, and she implored him why he was slaughtering innocent disciples. She entreated Bai Qingling why he had become so cold and heartless. Hua Yuerong suddenly woke up, and she quickly sat on her bed. She cursed and admitted that she dreamt about the demon lord again. Suddenly, Hua Yuerong's attendant called her and reiterated that all the vassals of the Yingui temple have gathered, and all of them are currently waiting in the main hall. She clarified that the Luocha temple has also gathered almost 2,000 demonic cultivators, and all of them carried their own weapons. Hua Yuerong reported that they couldn't sit still even with the Grand Elder present, and she grilled about the Yuluo temple. The attendant reported to Hua Yuerong and narrated that Bai Qingling was found to have just come out of the blood storage, and he held his disciple Sen Zinger's hand, walking happily inside the garden. Hua Yuerong was puzzled about the part where Bai Qingling held his disciple's hand. The attendant requested Hua Yuerong's forgiveness and testified that they couldn't figure out Bai Qingling's motives. Hua Yuerong scoffed and professed that Bai Qingling has become so old and still has no shame that he actually held his disciple's hand in broad daylight. The attendant was puzzled, and she was about to ask Bai Qingling's stance and motives, but she was cut off. Hua Yuerong broached if there was even a trace of that demon lord in the current Bai Qingling and concluded that Bai Qingling really deserves to die. Bai Qingling and Sen Zinger went to the Kangming General Altar through the Thousand Snow Mountain Range. He sneezed. Sen Zinger inquired what was wrong. Bai Qingling believed that someone must be cursing him in the dark, and he wondered who it was. Sen Zinger asked if hugging him was better. She stated that her senior sister remarked that her body will be hot like a furnace in the winter, so she suggested that Bai Qingling try to go into her body. Bai Qingling mentioned that it was due to Sen Zinger's body composition, as it is compatible with yin and coldness energy, which is a separate thing from body warmth, and Sen Zinger commented that it was freezing. Sen Zinger queried why they came to that deserted mountain rear if they were going to visit the general altar. Bai Qingling considered that it was naturally because he wanted to cut off Xiao Chen's opportunity, and if he had followed the original game and not come there, he would be giving Xiao Chen the advantage, but since he is going to interfere with Xiao Chen, he will do it thoroughly. He reported that he will let the opportunity fly for a while, and maybe Xiao Chen will land soon. Meanwhile, Yi Taiyuan watched Bai Qingling and Sen Zinger from the top of the mountain. An ominous aura swirled around him, creating a distortion in space as he slowly approached Bai Qingling and Sen Zinger. Yi Taiyuan pressed if the person who came was the temple master Bai Qingling. Bai Qingling declared that it was nice to meet the ancestor Yi Taiyuan while Sen Zinger introduced herself and greeted Yi Taiyuan. Yi Taiyuan noted that Sen Zinger was a ghost-controlling spiritual body, flawless and natural without form or stain, so Bai Qingling was very fortunate, and he demanded when he was planning to slaughter the high-quality ingredient. Bai Qingling fell silent when he heard Yi Taiyuan's question. Sen Zinger chimed in and replied that it was up to Bai Qingling to decide when he needed her, so Yi Taiyuan shouldn't worry about it. Yi Taiyuan was amused by what Sen Zinger did. He laughed and responded that Bai Qingling is really good at controlling his subordinates, and that he happened to be looking for him, so since they met, they should talk. Bai Qingling called Sen Zinger and observed that she should leave them for the meantime while thinking that the opportunity has arrived. A few moments later, Yi Taiyuan began babbling and acknowledged that in the beginning, when the primordial gods and demons created the world, the Taoist girl Mu Xinlin was born, and the third war between the righteous and demonic paths began. Bai Qingling wondered if Yi Taiyuan's spirit wasn't about to dissipate because it didn't look like a person who was about to die. He wondered where the skip button was or if it was the CTRL button that let him do such a thing. Yi Taiyuan addressed Bai Qingling as his friend and pointed out that he doesn't have much time. He muttered that it was one of the two divine artifacts of Kangming sect, Kangming Soul Ring, and the wearer's status will be just below the sect master's and will be admired by millions of followers. Yi Taiyuan probed if he would lend a hand to his granddaughter Yi Hongyi if he gave him that item. Bai Qingling interrogated if the hall master of the Black Moon Hall, Yi Hongyi, is his chosen heiress. Yi Taiyuan uttered that it looked like Bai Qingling had his own thoughts too, but it was alright because he could help his granddaughter if he could. But if that is not possible, he could take Yi Hongyi's place. Bai Qingling wondered where he had heard those words before, but he mused that since he had the chance to control the position of sect master, he had no reason to refuse. Yi Taiyuan exclaimed that he had two more things he wanted to talk about, and the first was about Hong Wudao, Yi Hongyi's father. Yi Taiyuan insisted that Hong Wudao's final wish was to marry Yi Hongyi to Bai Qingling and have the both of them strengthen the Kangming sect together. Bai Qingling wondered if he was right that the words about taking Yi Hongyi's place earlier can't be about marrying her, and he supposed that in the original game, he would have been dead at that time, so he didn't think that there would be a hidden fiancé. He cleared his throat and indicated that it was a small matter. He will decide in the future, so Yi Taiyuan should tell him about the second thing. Yi Taiyuan contended that there are rumors that Bai Qingling has been defeated by the Taoist maiden Mu Xinlin, and he challenged if that was true and if their demon sect wouldn't be destroyed if even Bai Qingling wasn't Mu Xinlin's match. Bai Qingling fell silent for a moment. He spoke yes, that Mu Xinlin defeated Bai Qingling. The disappearing soul of Yi Taeyuan was disheartened by what he heard that he was lost for words. But Bai Qingling recounted that Mu Xinlin didn't defeat him, so if she comes back again, he will take action. On the other hand, at the Kangming General Altar, front mountain gate, one of the General Altar brothers requested that Xiao Chen go back because Yi Taeyuan has been in seclusion for a long time and won't be meeting anyone. Xiao Chen pleaded for the General Altar brothers to believe him because he urgently needs to see Yi Taeyuan, and time waits for no one. He expressed that if they delay any longer, something would happen to Yi Taeyuan. But Xiao Chen could not finish what he was saying as Yi Hongyi cut him off and pushed what would happen to Yi Taeyuan. Yi Hongyi sent Xiao Chen flying with her powerful aura. She spelled out that if their sect master heard Xiao Chen spreading rumors about the sect, he would cut off Xiao Chen's dog head, so he should just get lost and not let her repeat it a second time. Xiao Chen reflected that he did everything Yuzi voiced. But it didn't work, so he cursed in his mind and wondered what shitty divination Yuzi did. Bai Qingling was at the Yuluo Temple, at the Temple Master's place. He remarked that the residence of the Yuluo Temple Master was cool, and he should have left the blood storage earlier and enjoyed himself there. Bai Qingling mentioned that the danger at the blood storage was finally over, so next, he had to retrieve Bai Qingling's organs to cultivate to the nascent soul realm. He declared that among them, the heart is at the Flame Demon Tower and the key is with the 3 Supreme Elders, so he can't get it without the authority of the Sect Master. But by assisting Yi Hongyi to become the Sect Master, it fulfills Yi Taeyuan's wish and serves his interests too. Bai Qingling noted that since he has gotten the Kangming Soul Ring, he is only left with the Kangming Soul Sword, so he inquired if Feng Lixu will disappoint him. He asserted that speaking of which, Feng Lixu's personality should be the hardest to influence with great love, so he queried what he should do to solve the problems in her heart. Bai Qingling remembered about Feng Lixu's abdomen. On the other hand, Feng Lixu was at the Skywater City Street Market. The men were enchanted by Feng Lixu's beauty as she passed by them to enter the shop. The shop's attendant greeted Feng Lixu, but as he was about to ask her how he could help her, Feng Lixu cut him off and stated that he should tell the shopkeeper, Fatty Hong, to come out because the Eastern King of Hell is looking for him. The attendant was horrified when he heard the name of the Eastern King of Hell. A few moments later, Feng Lixu entered a waiting room. She sat elegantly on a chair as she waited for the shopkeeper. The shopkeeper introduced himself to Feng Lixu and proclaimed that he is Yuluo Palace's Crimson Pig Guard, Hong Tianfen. Feng Lixu commented that it was the item that the demon wanted, but she corrected himself and addressed Bai Qingling as the Temple Master and added that Hong Tianfen will personally escort the item back to Yuluo Temple as soon as possible. Furthermore, Feng Lixu voiced that Hong Tianfen should swallow the pill. Hong Tianfen quickly recognized the 7 absolute body melting pill and observed that he had always worked diligently and never slacked off. But Feng Lixu didn't let Hong Tianfen finish and ordered that he should swallow it or die. Hong Tianfen nervously grabbed the pill that Feng Lixu was handing to him. He ate the pill. Hong Tianfen shared that he will be heading off. Feng Lixu expressed that she hoped that it was the last thing she would do for that demon, and she wondered if Tantai Lingying's plan was successful. She explained that she had been living under Bai Qingling's shadow since young, and her heart has long been tainted by him. But Sen Zinger is still young, so they, as senior sisters, must help her escape from the evils of the demon. Feng Lixu felt a pang of pain in her mark. Feng Lixu pondered why the pain flared up again when Bai Qingling didn't activate the evil rune, and if she was poisoned. She remembered the time when she opened the box at the demon-suppressing tower. Feng Lixu claimed that it could be at that time. She cursed and lamented that she didn't bring any elixir to purify the poison, and if the poison entered the meridians, she probed if that meant that it was her end. Feng Lixu uttered that so be it. She insisted that it was her fate and that being controlled by Bai Qingling was living hell anyways, so she could finally be free. But her eyes lit up when Bai Qingling activated the mark. Feng Lixu screamed as tentacles came out of her mark. She mused if it was Bai Qingling. Feng Lixu affirmed that Bai Qingling was a demon, and she inquired if he was not letting her off even at that time. Bai Qingling's image advised that Feng Lixu should listen to him and be still. He revealed that Feng Lixu's body is filled with poison and in that entire world, only her master could save her. Feng Lixu screamed again as she felt the electrifying energy course through her veins. Purple liquid splattered across the floor. Feng Lixu pointed out that Bai Qingling could even clear the poison that has entered the Danshan, and he is probably the only one who could do such a thing from a distance. But even with Feng Lixu regaining her strength, the tentacles coming out of her mark still wriggled around her legs. Feng Lixu screamed and exclaimed no, that Bai Qingling can't. Bai Qingling elaborated that the demon-suppressing tower's poison cannot be underestimated because even he cannot escape a minor injury, so Feng Lixu must cooperate with him as he has to suck the poison out all at once. Feng Lixu considered that something was wrong with Bai Qingling. She wondered why Bai Qingling must waste his powers to detoxify the poison from her from a distance when she is just one of his pawns, and if it could be that Tantai and Sen Zinger did something to change Bai Qingling's nature. She recalled how Bai Qingling greeted her happy birthday earlier. Feng Lixu rejected her thoughts, and as she wondered what she was thinking when it was the demon lord Bai Qingling, she figured that Bai Qingling must have wanted her to be indebted to him so that he could control her spirit even further. Lin Mo called Feng Lixu and pressed if she was inside the room. Feng Lixu quickly recognized the voice of the Third Royal Highness, Lin Mo, and she quizzed why he was there. Lin Mo acknowledged that it was really Feng Lixu. He admitted that he heard that Feng Lixu came to the Skywater City to train, so he inquired around and found that store because, after all, with Feng Lixu's appearance, she will leave a deep impression on everyone she passes by. He demanded if he could come in. Feng Lixu remarked that Lin Mo is not allowed to enter. Lin Mo mentioned that the last time he ran into Feng Lixu, he happened to hear the sound of crying and she didn't notice him at that time, but he was very worried about her. Feng Lixu thanked Lin Mo for his concern while she struggled to keep her voice normal. She insisted that she is fine, so Lin Mo could already go back. But Lin Mo inquired why she was panting so heavily. Feng Lixu replied that she told Lin Mo that she was fine and she had to rest, so she would request for him to go back. Lin Mo pondered about it for a moment, and he responded that it was all right. The corridor became quiet as Lin Mo left. Feng Lixu requested Bai Qingling to stop, and she queried just how long he was planning to bully her. Her eyes widened as she felt the tentacles retreat back to her mark. Feng Lixu pressed if it was over and if Bai Qingling really detoxified the poison. Bai Qingling commented that he is very happy that Feng Lixu found the Kangming soul sword for him, but he dislikes her risking her life for the sake of the mission. He noted that Feng Lixu should remember that there is no next time. Feng Lixu was flustered and was speechless when she heard what Bai Qingling stated. The system congratulated Bai Qingling for successfully spreading great love, so he earned 9,000 points and currently has 19,000 points. The system notified Bai Qingling that he had unlocked a diamond chest, which cost 50,000 points, and when his total points exceed 100,000, he will be able to unlock the realm's item store. Bai Qingling conveyed that he didn't expect to almost double his points just by helping Feng Lixu detoxify the poison, and he probed if it could be that Feng Lixu's hatred towards him is the strongest, so he earned more points when he expressed great love. He wondered who the person was outside the door and asserted that Feng Lixu called him the Third Royal Highness. Bai Qingling observed that it could only be the male protagonist of the second expansion pack, Battle for Dynasty's Fate, the third prince of the Great Chu Dynasty, Lin Mo. He believed that from the start of the expansion pack, players could choose between Xiao Chen's path or Lin Mo's path, but in the original game, the contact between Lin Mo and Feng Lixu is definitely not at that time. Bai Qingling reasoned that there were clearly unpredictable changes to the original story plot, and he wondered if it was the legendary butterfly effect and if there would be new plotlines that had never happened before in the original game. He concluded that it was whatever because Lin Mo poses no threat to him for the time being, and suppressing the ant that is Xiao Chen is the main matter at hand. He added that the sect master selection ceremony is approaching, so it was time to pay a visit to Yihongi. On the other hand, Yihongi repeatedly declared that it was over while she was pacing in her room. Yihongi wondered if she should tell Tantai Lingying that Yi Taiyuan's final wish for her was to marry Bai Qingling, and she indicated that she and Tantai Lingying made the mirror flower seal together and swore to protect each other forever. She wondered how mad Tantai Lingying would be if she really got married to Bai Qingling and became Tantai Lingying's master's wife, and she claimed that Bai Qingling really deserves to die. Yihongi voiced no and that she had to tell the truth to Tantai Lingying and come up with a plan together because Tantai Lingying is smarter than normal people, so she will definitely find a way. Tantai Lingying stepped into Yihongi's room. Tantai Lingying was glum as she walked through the door. Yihongi queried what happened to her that night at the blood storage and if she was alright. Tantai Lingying assured that she was fine. She explained that she is just a little tired and wanted to rest in Yihongi's room for a while, so they should talk about it later. Yihongi agreed and affirmed that they will talk about it after Tantai Lingying has rested. A few moments later, Tantai Lingying entered Yihongi's room. She stripped off all of her clothes in front of the mirror. Tantai Lingying lamented that she was a disgrace, and to think that she would let Bai Qingling touch her body, she quizzed how she was going to face Yihongi from that point onward. She admitted that when Bai Qingling hugged her tightly, she clearly should have chosen to stop her pulse to protect her innocence. Tantai Lingying demanded why she didn't and uttered that she hated herself to death. She shared that the scarier thing is that her subconsciousness is actually trying to replay the moment she was hugged. She revealed that the more she tried to not think about it, the more her body recalled every sensation of that moment. She cried under the sheets and she apologized to Yihongi. But Tantai Lingying suspected that she still had one last chance. She considered that she should help Yihongi to become the sect master in the sect master selection ceremony because only could she borrow the power of the general altar to free herself from Bai Qingling completely. At the Kangming sect Ziyuo temple, Ren Qianfen was at the temple master palace, and as he paced around the room, he let out a sigh. Ren Qianfen stated that the old ancestor wanted him to support Yihongyi during the Great Sect Master Selection ceremony, but the Mengu Taoist wanted to ally with him and help him to take the position. He inquired Han Jinying what they should do. Han Jinying confidently sat on the throne and did her makeup. She queried if he had already made up his mind. Ren Qianfen declared yes, and that to tell Han Jinying the truth, he is more inclined to support Luocha Temple's Mengu Taoist because after all, Luocha Temple is ready and prepared, and he probed what she believed about it. When Han Jinying heard Ren Qianfen's question, she remarked that she thinks that Ren Qianfen is foolish and bad, a true trash among trash. She commented that the Mengu Taoist is ruthless, arrogant, and tyrannical, and he will do anything to expand his power, so she asked if he really believed that Mengu Taoist would give him a share of his success instead of devouring Ziluo Temple. Ren Qianfen affirmed that his wife was wise, and he pressed if that meant that they should support Yihongyi because she may be young. But she is his niece after all, and if he should lend her a hand. Yihongyi voiced that Ren Qianfen was a fool. Ren Qianfen screamed as he fell off the stairs when Han Jinying kicked him, but he seemed to enjoy it. Han Jinying noted that in that chaotic situation, they should make Ziluo Temple neutral, and let everyone try to win over them, and Ren Qianfen should keep the phrase in his mind that the larger the waves, the more valuable the fish. Ren Qianfen responded that he understands, but he demanded if the situation won't become uncontrollable if Luo Temple's Bai Qingling interferes. Han Jinying explained that Bai Qingling won't and that Ren Qianfen doesn't understand him. She mentioned that a foolish person like Ren Qianfen can never imagine how amazing Bai Qingling is because what Bai Qingling pursues is something that neither of them could ever covet, and those mundane matters are not worthy of his attention. Han Jinying added that Ren Qianfen was in contrast. She asserted that Ren Qianfen was trash who couldn't do anything even if his wife stripped naked and stood before him. Ren Qianfen confessed that it was true and that he is trash. He carefully picked up Han Jinying's shoe that she threw at him. Ren Qianfen muttered that he is not worthy of Han Jinying. A guard reported to Ren Qianfen and indicated that Luo Temple's temple master, Bai Qingling, is there for a visit. Ren Qianfen interrogated why Bai Qingling was looking for him. The guard informed that Bai Qingling revealed that he had something very important to discuss with Han Jinying and requested for his help to keep watch outside and not let outsiders hear the details. Ren Qianfen was enraged when he heard what the guard uttered. He wondered if Bai Qingling asked him to keep watch while entering his territory and exclaimed that it was too much. Meanwhile, outside, the guard was threatened when Bai Qingling started walking towards the room. Ren Qianfen warned that if Bai Qingling really dares to barge in, it will not end well for him. But he was surprised when she noticed Han Jinying's reaction. Han Jinying observed that Bai Qingling has already entered. At that instant, Bai Qingling barged into the room with his threatening aura, and Ren Qianfen was alarmed. Ren Qianfen considered that he had not seen Bai Qingling for a long time, but he really does possess the aura of a demon lord who gazes down upon the world, so it was no wonder Han Jinying has a face of admiration whenever she mentions Bai Qingling. He remembered that he had heard that Bai Qingling's innate demonic body is extremely strong, and as he wondered how Han Jinying could take it, he surmised that she would be broken. Ren Qianfen was horrified as he had the image of Bai Qingling and Han Jinying in his head. He inquired again about when he came in and why he didn't sense him at all. Han Jinying chimed in and expressed that Bai Qingling's supreme breath concealing technique is indeed the best energy concealing technique in the world because even with both her and Ren Qianfen's cultivations, they couldn't sense him at all. Bai Qingling proclaimed that as expected of Han Jinying, she is indeed knowledgeable and is much stronger than a certain someone. Han Jinying was flustered, and she inquired anew what he called her. Ren Qianfen insisted that Bai Qingling was a bastard and demanded how he dared to be so disrespectful. He reiterated that he was warning Bai Qingling not to be too arrogant because when he was sweeping across the eastern lands to be enlightened into a demon lord back in the day, Bai Qingling was still wearing crotchless pants. But Bai Qingling ignored Ren Qianfen, and as he related that he had something to discuss with Han Jinying, he politely implored if he could borrow a bedroom to have a talk. Ren Qianfen was filled with rage as he called Bai Qingling, and he thundered that Bai Qingling's grave has already been dug. But Han Jinying was enraged by Ren Qianfen's actions, and she slammed her hand on the armrest of her chair. She barked that Ren Qianfen was a bastard and queried if he wanted to die. Han Jinying released her aura and directed it at her shoe. Her shoe started flying towards Ren Qianfen. Ren Qianfen was hit on the gut and was sent flying. Han Jinying hit Ren Qianfen with so much force that he flew out of the room. Ren Qianfen demanded why she was mad and repeated that Ren Qianfen was just worried that she would be bullied. But Han Jinying just scoffed and retorted that no one requested that piece of trash to be so nosy. She stressed that no one was disturbing them at the moment, and she queried if he was able to say his piece and why he came to her Ziluo temple so late at night. Bai Qingling remarked that since Han Jinying was straightforward, he shall get to the point. He stated that in the sect master selection ceremony half a month later, Han Jinying must stand by his side. Han Jinying inquired why he thinks that she will agree to his words. Bai Qingling declared that he will give Han Jinying a reason that she can't resist. He gently lifted Han Jinying's foot. Han Jinying wondered what Bai Qingling was doing. Meanwhile, Bai Qingling was thinking that before coming there, he specifically exchanged a side character story completion card in the item store for 2,000 points, and using that card will allow him to know the hidden background behind a specific side character that the main plot doesn't reveal. He considered that he was not a demon, but he wondered who told fate to let Han Jinying have such a background. Bai Qingling queried if she didn't want her husband to lose his title as Temple Master. Han Jinying observed that Bai Qingling was crossing the line. But Bai Qingling uttered that he has an even more outrageous story that he would like to tell Han Jinying, and the main character in the story is called Yun Jiner. He noted that 20 years ago, the family head of the Yun family was careless and killed Emperor Yuan Tai of the Great Yu dynasty, so except for Yun Jiner, 300 members of the Yun family were executed. Bai Qingling responded that at that time, the holy son of the He-Huan sect, Jai Tame, wanted Yun Jiner's divine phoenix true spirit body, so he let the He-Huan sect accept her as the holy daughter, but in reality, he wanted to nurture her like a tripod furnace. He commented that unexpectedly, Yun Jiner managed to seize her only opportunity to escape, and while on the run, she met an expert from the demonic path, Ren Qianfen. Han Jinying gritted her teeth, and she looked uncomfortable hearing Bai Qingling's story. Bai Qingling answered that although Ren Qianfen's persistent harassment towards Yu Jiner is disgusting and although he is also a eunuch, for the sake of shaking off Jai Tame's pursuit, Yun Jiner married Ren Qianfen and became a virgin wife. He pressed how she thought Jai Tame would react if Ren Qianfen's secret was accidentally made known to everyone and he lost his position as the temple master and was expelled from Kangming sect. Han Jinying replied that what Bai Qingling was doing was too despicable. Bai Qingling demanded if there was anything in the world that he, Demon Lord Qingling, would not do and if she already knew what she must do at the moment. Han Jinying was frustrated, but she was also flustered. She voiced that she hates Bai Qingling. But Bai Qingling effortlessly caught Han Jinying's leg when she was about to kick him. He insisted that Han Jinying shouldn't blame him, and if Han Jinying wanted to find someone to blame, she should blame her wimpy husband. Han Jinying asserted that Bai Qingling should let go of her and that he was arrogant because he doesn't know anything at all. She pointed out that the escape from He-Huan sect wasn't the only opportunity she had and that her other opportunity was Bai Qingling. Bai Qingling wondered since when that happened and why he couldn't recall anything. He expressed that he didn't know what Han Jinying was talking about, and if she thought that he did something wrong to her, that was her problem. Han Jinying lunged at Bai Qingling. Bai Qingling was stunned as Han Jinying kissed him. Han Jinying probed if he had ever been forcefully kissed by a woman in his unparalleled and invincible life. While thinking of Sen Zinger, Bai Qingling exclaimed no. Han Jinying proclaimed that in that case, Bai Qingling won't be able to forget her in his entire life, and it was his punishment for his forgetfulness. But in her mind, Han Jinying was panicking as she wondered what she was doing when she was a married woman. The system congratulated Bai Qingling for successfully spreading great love, so he earned 12,000 points, and he currently has 29,000 points. Bai Qingling believed that although he was still unsure of the logic behind the points calculation, he will just continue to accumulate points like that because in order to deal with the ultimate opponent that is Mu Xinlin, no amount of points is too much. The next day, Yi Hongyi was busy training by the mountain. She affirmed that Tantai Lingying should trust her because she will never betray her and she will give her all to obtain the position of sect master and help her escape from the demon Bai Qingling. Yi Hongyi mentioned that she will never marry Bai Qingling, the wretched and hunchbacked old man, even if she dies. Bai Qingling appeared, and he started clapping. He stressed that as expected of the Yi family's most perfect ice crystal jade holy body, that sword technique is worthy of commendation. Bai Qingling muttered that it was just a shame that the attack wouldn't leave a scratch on him. Not recognizing Bai Qingling, Yi Hongyi surmised that the demonic power is definitely not from an ordinary expert from the demonic path. Bai Qingling conveyed that it was nice to meet the hall master, Yi Hongyi. Yi Hongyi inquired Bai Qingling why he came to her humble Black Moon Hall. Instead of answering Yi Hongyi's question, Bai Qingling queried her if she wanted the position of sect master. Yi Hongyi demanded Bai Qingling what he meant while thinking that even someone as arrogant as Mengu Daoist isn't confident in obtaining the seat of sect master. She pondered that Bai Qingling expressed it so casually, and it was as if he would support her and defeat the others the moment she opened her mouth. Yi Hongyi stated that Bai Qingling has to answer a question of hers first, and she wondered him if her grandfather, the old ancestor, met up with him recently. Bai Qingling replied yes. Yi Hongyi responded alright and she somewhat understood the situation. She declared that Bai Qingling shouldn't be delusional and she will not marry him because her body and heart have already been pledged to someone else, so they are impossible. Yi Hongyi uttered that at least it is the case for the moment. Bai Qingling probed Yi Hongyi if she believed that it was what he wanted and remarked that he didn't care about titles, fortune, or appearances. He stated that Yi Hongyi lost her parents when she was young and the old ancestor didn't have time to be with her, so she was alone with no one to rely on, and made him pity her. Bai Qingling revealed that if Yi Hongyi doesn't mind, he would propose. He mentioned that Yi Hongyi should become his daughter. Yi Hongyi quickly imagined it when she heard Bai Qingling's proposal about being his daughter. She presumed that it was from husband to father and wondered how much of a pervert Bai Qingling is. Bai Qingling asserted that he was not joking. Recognizing the ring, Yi Hongyi implored Bai Qingling if her grandfather really gave him the Kangaming soul ring. Yihangi responded that since it was her grandfather's final request, she will naturally not go against it, so she and Bai Qingling are already formal allies, and if she ascends to the position of sect master, she will not treat him poorly. But Bai Qingling countered no, and he wanted Yihangi's guarantee right at that moment. Yihangi pressed Bai Qingling if he wanted to become her father that badly. Bai Qingling answered that it would be godfather. He commented that the Kangming sect is often called Kangming Church by the world, and there was once a beautiful story about the young sect master respecting the godfather. So in the future, Yihangi will become the sect master while he becomes her godfather, and together, they will restore Kangming sect to its former glory. Yihangi inquired Bai Qingling how a fiancé could become a godfather. Suddenly, a disciple of Yihangi called her and relayed that Yingui Temple's direct eldest disciple, Xiao Chen, wanted to meet her. Bai Qingling reflected that sure enough, Xiao Chen came just like in the original game, and it was a good thing he was ahead of him. Otherwise, the aunt would begin a romance route with Yihangi. Yihangi wondered if Xiao Chen was the guy who barged into the main forum and made a fuss. Bai Qingling queried Yihangi if there is nothing wrong with meeting Xiao Chen. He noted that after all, their new relationship still lacks a formal witness. Bai Qingling mused that since he had already made such a decision, he would follow it through to the end. On the other hand, at the Kangming sect Black Moon Hall entrance, Xiao Chen was pacing back and forth. When Yihangi called Xiao Chen, he quickly answered with a smile on his face. But Bai Qingling interrogated Xiao Chen if he wasn't the eldest disciple of Hua Yuerong and commented that it was a coincidence. Xiao Chen queried why it was Bai Qingling and what he was doing. Bai Qingling implied that as Xiao Chen could see, he was having a friendly and intimate discussion with Yihangi, and he requested Yihangi if that kind of interaction is normal with their relationship. Yihangi agreed that there is nothing illogical about it. She was wondering if Bai Qingling was speaking as a husband or as a father. Meanwhile, Xiao Chen was surprised. He inquired Bai Qingling what the relationship is between him and Yihangi. But instead of answering, Bai Qingling queried Xiao Chen if he had the right to question him. Xiao Chen immediately got terrified. He groaned in pain as he fell to the ground due to the immense pressure Bai Qingling was releasing. Bai Qingling explained that, speaking of which, he still felt that it was a loss to only receive one arm from Xiao Chen, so he shouldn't force him to ask for more. Xiao Chen wondered how such a thing happened, and when Bai Qingling suddenly got ahead of him when he should have clearly died by his hands, he realized that his abilities, his fame, and his woman, everything that belonged to him, were gone, and at that moment, he felt like he was living in Bai Qingling's shadow. Bai Qingling walked forward, but he and Yihangi just walked past Xiao Chen. Bai Qingling concluded that indeed, losing the player's perspective is equivalent to losing the luck of a protagonist. He perceived that although the changes in the plot are not enough to kill Xiao Chen instantly, in the future, he will continue to crush his destiny with more cruelty. Tantai and Yihangi were at the Kangming sect Black Moon Hall. The two of them were meditating together. Yihangi pondered that the demon Bai Qingling was indeed crafty and excelled at controlling the mental state of others. Reflecting about Bai Qingling being her godfather, Yihangi wondered if Bai Qingling was going to walk her down the aisle for his own wedding if they got married one day. On the other hand, Tantai was wondering why she failed to resist Bai Qingling that night in the immortal washing pool, and why there were strange reactions from her body. She concluded that whenever she conceived of doing things together with Yihangi, there would be an additional man appearing in her mind, and she wondered how she could think of such things and if she was poisoned. Both Tantai and Yihangi were flushed as they continued to delve into their thoughts. The two of them were surprised when they looked at each other. They quickly looked away and cleared their throats. Both of them started to wonder if they could still be honest with each other from that day onwards. Meanwhile, Bai Qingling stated that the preparations are basically completed. He remarked that in the sect master selection, Bai Qingling shall go against the Mengu Taoist, and it would be the main boss versus the mini-boss, which is really exciting. Bai Qingling declared that he remembered that after Mengu Taoist failed to become the sect master, there was a plotline about his resurgence. But even if anything unexpected happens, he still has his peak experience card and 13 9th grade life-shedding insects. Suddenly, the system congratulated Bai Qingling for receiving a new main plot mission. Bai Qingling clicked his tongue, and as he inquired if there was really a need to kill an old man who is hundreds of years old, he commented that the system really has the cheeks to say that killing is a form of great love. But he noted that it was the first time a main plot mission appeared and it was different from the original game, and he queried what basis the system is using to guide the direction of the new story. Suddenly, Senzinger greeted Bai Qingling and mentioned that she had completed the task assigned by Bai Qingling. She conveyed that when the 3 confidential letters were sent to the 3 elders, they immediately stated that they would follow Bai Qingling's arrangements. Senzinger observed that she also happened to find out the wonderful expression on Mengu Taoist's face when he heard the news. Earlier, Mengu Taoist, the Luocha Temple Master, pressed Nan Gongfeng how the progress in winning over the other Supremes was. Nan Gongfeng, one of the Kangming sect's 10 Supreme Elders and the Heavenly Treasure Pavilion Master, recounted that it was not good because, firstly, Luo Confeng appears to support Yuluo Hall. He indicated that the 3 elders who had received benefits from them before had suddenly disappeared: the Sect Affairs Office's Elder Nai, the Law Enforcement Office's Elder Aoyang, and the Beast Taming Office's Elder Tai. All of them started to have ambiguous attitudes. Mengu Taoist proclaimed that those bastards appeared grateful when they received benefits from him but turned their backs on him at critical moments. He revealed that if those elders really make him mad, he will raise his arm and call on all his disciples to force a leadership change and create a new Kangming sect. Nan Gongfeng expressed that Mengu Daoist should be sensible. Mengu Daoist demanded Nan Gongfeng how he wanted him to be sensible and insisted that at least at the moment, among the 10 supreme elders including Nan Gongfeng, there are still 4 people supporting him. He spoke that he has the advantage in that battle and Nan Gongfeng should mark his words that the seat of the sect master will be his. Back at the present, Bai Qingling laughed that when the heavens wanted to destroy a person, they would make him go crazy first. He affirmed that the 3 confidential letters were just a minor trick and Mengu Daoist had already lost his mind over it. He probed Senzinger if she wasn't curious about the contents of the confidential letters. Senzinger voiced that Bai Qingling will decide whether to tell her or not, so there is no need for her to be curious. She uttered that compared to those letters, she is more curious about how Bai Qingling will reward her. The wine in Bai Qingling's cup was spilled on his crotch. Senzinger maintained that she was too reckless and pleaded for Bai Qingling to forgive her. She summarized that she will immediately help Bai Qingling to wipe it clean. Bai Qingling supposed that Senzinger was unbelievable as she was really going more and more out of line. He believed that he couldn't even tell whether she did what she did intentionally or by accident. On the other hand, at the Misty Cloud Palace sacred ground, at the mystical ice lake, 5 female cultivators were meditating. They all sat together and were all silently meditating. Suddenly, the waters in front of them started to swirl. A strong stream of water surged out of the surface of the lake. One of the cultivators ventured if their ancestral saintess came out of seclusion early. Another cultivator questioned how that was possible when Mu Xinlin just ended her battle with the demon lord Bai Qingling and how it could be so fast. Mu Xinlin looked so ethereal as she came out of the waters. She asserted that Bai Qingling was still alive. Mu Xinlin contended that the cultivators should tell the Dao heads of the 4 great orthodox sects to meet her at once. A lot of cultivators have gathered at the main forum of Wangxing Palace. One of them declared that they support Mengu Daoist because they want to conquer the central lands and capture Mu Xinlin alive, while another uttered that they support Yi Hongyi as the blood descendant of the Yi family. One of the cultivators remarked that the others might as well support Ren Qianfen if they support Yi Hongyi because he is her uncle, while another cultivator noted that it was the same as supporting Han Jinyang because she is bigger. Suddenly, a young cultivator inquired if he was the only one who would support Bai Qingling. One of the cultivators queried the young cultivator if he dared to support the demon lord Bai Qingling, and another commented that he was a savage, so he was rewarded with a seat at the bottom of blood storage. Suddenly, Hua Yuerong's carriage flew across the sky. One of the cultivators observed that Yingui Temple's temple master, Hua Yuerong, has arrived. Xiao Chen stated that all of the cultivators should be silent and move out of the way. He called Hua Yuerong and expressed that they were there. Hua Yuerong inquired Xiao Chen where the elders were. Xiao Chen replied that the 10 elders of the main forum and Supreme Elder Nan Gongfeng will be arriving soon, while reflecting that Hua Yuerong actually ignored his extended hand in front of thousands of people. When Hua Yuerong heard Nan Gongfeng's name, she remarked that it looked like the despicable evil tiger had made a lot of preparations. Suddenly, the attendant announced that Ziyuo Temple's temple master, Ren Qianfen, and Han Jinyang had arrived. Their carriage flew across the sky and was being pulled by huge colorful birds. It landed on the ground. Han Jinyang was riding in the carriage while Ren Qianfen was the one driving it. Ren Qianfen declared that he is Ziyuo Temple's master after all, and driving the carriage like a menial disciple is a bit too embarrassing. Han Jinyang queried Ren Qianfen if he got annoyed by that and commented that they were already there so he should roll down and kneel. Ren Qianfen requested for Han Jinyang to give her husband some face and prestige. Han Jinyang asserted that a trash like Ren Qianfen, whose mind is only obsessed with fame, wealth, and appearances, is really no match for Bai Qingling. She voiced that Ren Qianfen should think about who made Ziyuo Temple what it is that day and inquired him if he was going to kneel or not. Ren Qianfen knelt by the carriage door without any more complaints. Han Jinyang stepped on Ren Qianfen's back as she got out of the carriage. Despite his protest, Ren Qianfen seemed pleased at the treatment Han Jinyang was giving him. Han Jinyang scoffed and wondered if the woman, Hua Yuerong, came so early. She fell silent as she looked at where Hua Yuerong was staring. Han Jinyang saw Bai Qingling's seat. She queried if the wicked man was not there yet. Suddenly, Hua Yuerong noticed Han Jinyang. Han Jinyang stared back confidently at Hua Yuerong. She called Hua Yuerong, and as she remarked that she saw that she kept staring at Bai Qingling, she inquired her if it could be that there is some secret collusion. Bai Qingling stated that Han Jinyang is only qualified to care for trash like Ren Qianfen and she is not qualified to care about her affairs. Amused, Han Jinyang questioned Hua Yuerong if Bai Qingling's affair is unrelated to her too. Hua Yuerong inquired Han Jinyang what she was trying to say. Han Jinyang revealed that after a deep conversation with Bai Qingling, she had formed a close alliance with him so that day she would help him win the seat. Hua Yuerong queried Han Jinyang what she uttered. Meanwhile, Ren Qianfen was pondering that his wife actually used Bai Qingling as a conversation topic and confronted Hua Yuerong for him, so he is still in her heart. But he wondered when he could take his seat. On the other hand, Bai Qingling was starting to dress himself. Senzinger inquired Bai Qingling if he was changing. She was believing that Bai Qingling's body is so perfect and so beautiful. Senzinger mused that if only it belonged exclusively to her, that would be the best. She cleared her throat and commented that she just heard the bells from the main forum. She added that the selection ceremony had begun and queried Bai Qingling if he was already going to go. Bai Qingling noted that there is no rush because they are still lacking a trump card that will determine whether they win or lose. He activated a Shadow Demon Pearl. It displayed footage of Hong Tianfen, who was traveling in the sky with his sword. Senzinger inquired if it was Feng Lixu's subordinate Hong Tianfen from the Crimson Pig Guard and if the thing he was rushing to bring over was the Kangming Soul Sword. Bai Qingling affirmed that Senzinger was right, and when the two sacred artifacts are in his hand, that will be the time he makes his move. He remarked that that sword will be very cool. Hua Yuerong inquired Han Jining what she remarked to Bai Qingling and stated that Bai Qingling will definitely not ally with others easily. Han Jining commented that from Hua Yuerong's words, it seemed like she is very familiar with Bai Qingling, and she queried her if there could be a secret affair between the two of them. Suddenly, Mengu Daoist laughed. His laugh resounded through the entire main forum. Mengu Daoist posed Hua Yuerong and Han Jining what the two of them were doing. He declared that it was an important day and pressed if it wasn't inappropriate to involve such trivial matters. Both Hua Yuerong and Han Jining considered that Mengu Daoist was a big problem that day. Nan Gongfeng noted that the time has come, so he would request everyone to take their seats. He mentioned that the new sect master selection ceremony will officially begin. Nan Gongfeng proclaimed that according to sect traditions, the left protector, Tantai Lingying, will announce the candidates. Tantai Lingying opened up a scroll with the list of candidates. She started reading that one of the candidates was Black Moon Hall's Hall Master, Yi Hongyi. One of the cultivators inquired if a small hall master dared to run for the title of sect master, while another responded that although Yi Hongyi is a blood descendant of the Yi family, it is not her place to do it. On the other hand, Yi Hongyi was looking at Bai Qingling's seat. She was wondering if Bai Qingling would come, but she queried why she was eagerly waiting for Bai Qingling and pondered that with Bai Qingling saying things like marriage and being a godfather, it is better if he breaks his promise so that she could hate him in peace. Tantai Lingying continued reading that the other candidate was Yingui Temple's temple master, Hua Yuerong. Meanwhile, she was wondering why Bai Qingling was still not there and if he didn't say that he would stand by her side. She believed that Bai Qingling made her lose control of herself that night and wondered if he was not just playing with her. She continued reading that the next candidate was Luocha Temple's Mengu Daoist. One of the disciples cheered that her master, Mengu Daoist, is fated to win. Another observed that Mengu Daoist's powers are extraordinary, and another voiced that the title of sect master will be Mengu Daoist's. Nan Gongfeng remarked that it was not bad and Luocha Temple's temple master has the air of a heroic warrior. Mengu Daoist wondered if the others all saw that and surmised that everyone on and below the stage was his people. He wondered how the others were going to fight with him. He called the elders and suggested that they put an end to that day's matter swiftly. Mengu Daoist insisted that they should eliminate the insignificant people and let him compete with Hua Yuerong to decide the outcome. Tantai Lingying interrupted Mengu Daoist and pointed out that as the left protector of the main forum, she was warning him that it was breaking the rules. But Mengu Daoist maintained that Tantai Lingying herself should know best how she got the position of the left protector of law and order, and he is afraid that no one could cover for her at the moment. He added that it included Tantai Lingying's pig dog trash master. Tantai Lingying was enraged with what Mengu Daoist expressed. She quickly unsheathed her sword and swung it at Mengu Daoist. Mengu Daoist demanded if a little girl was disrespecting her senior. He quickly pulled out his horsetail whisk. Mengu Daoist wrapped his horsetail whisk on Tantai Lingying's sword to stop her attack. He urged that Tantai Lingying should kneel before him. Tantai Lingying was resisting with all her might while Mengu Daoist was pressuring her to kneel. She felt that she cannot kneel because it will disappoint Bai Qingling. Suddenly, Hua Yuerong helped Tantai Lingying. Tantai Lingying was surprised when she felt the surge of energy in her body. She swung her sword forcefully and broke Mengu Daoist's horsetail whisk. Mengu Daoist lamented that it was his precious Chauri and it will not be the end for Hua Yuerong. Hua Yuerong spoke that Mengu Daoist's opponent is her, and she queried him what kind of skill embarrassing a junior is. The beast-taming Hall Master Luo Fenghuo suddenly chimed in that since Hua Yuerong voiced so, he shall teach Tantai Lingying a lesson as a junior. Yi Hongyi also joined in and wondered if they dared to bully Tantai Lingying, the left protector. She remarked that it looked like there were many ghosts by the old tiger's side. Yi Hongyi suggested that it is better to let a sect master candidate deal with Luo Fenghuo. On the other hand, Han Jining asserted that something is wrong because they cannot compete like that. She warned that if Yi Hongyi accepts the provocation from a non-candidate, she is falling into Mengu Daoist's trap. Ren Kaienfen inquired Han Jining if he should go and advise Yi Hongyi because Mengu Daoist will probably cut him some slack. But Han Jining retorted that Ren Kaienfen is a ball less coward, so he should get out of the way. Meanwhile, one of the elders was about to voice their concern to Nan Gongfeng, but Nan Gongfeng cut him off, and as he indicated that there was no problem, he wondered if that wasn't very fitting of their style as a demonic sect. Nan Gongfeng clicked his tongue that a sect master should be capable too. On the other hand, Yi Hongyi cursed as she realized that she made a mistake because even if she defeats Luo Fenghuo, other hall masters who support Mengu Daoist will appear. Luo Fenghuo inquired Yi Hongyi what she was waiting for and if she had realized that the support was not on her side. He claimed that it is useless even if Yi Hongyi waits for Bai Qingling to appear because Mengu Daoist has mastered the Great Compassion soul-stealing technique, and his power has risen to the top among the 4 temple masters. Luo Fenghuo asserted that speaking of Bai Qingling, he is afraid that Bai Qingling has long been crippled by Mu Xinlin, which is why he doesn't dare to show his face in the sect master selection ceremony. He demanded what kind of dog-ass demon Lord Bai Qingling is, and as he remarked that Bai Qingling is better off being the number loser in the East, he queried why Bai Qingling won't kill him right that instant if he really has the guts. Luo Fenghuo was baffled when he felt the powerful, ominous aura brewing around him. He was hit by a powerful aura and went offline before Mengu Taoist could even react. Bai Qingling declared that it was not up to Luo Fenghuo to decide who the sect master is. He affirmed that he supports Hall Master Yihongyi to inherit the position of sect master. Bai Qingling posed who approves and opposes. Sen Zinger remarked that the Yuluo Temple master has arrived for the ceremony, so the selection ceremony shall be restarted. She requested for Bai Qingling to step onto the stage. The cultivators had different reactions as they saw Bai Qingling walk up on stage. Meanwhile, Tantai Lingying suspected that Bai Qingling came in the end. She believed that it was the demon lord Bai Qingling. Tantai Lingying concluded that Sen Zinger had been bewitched, and Feng Lixu is bound by the evil rune, so he must not be swayed by Bai Qingling again. Suddenly, Yihongyi greeted Bai Qingling and mentioned that he was there. Bai Qingling stated that Yihongyi did well. He conveyed that Yihongyi should leave the rest to him. Tantai Lingying was about to address Bai Qingling as the temple master, but she stopped herself. She clenched her fist as she pulled her arm close to her body. Tantai Lingying addressed Bai Qingling as her master. Bai Qingling noted that he saw everything that happened earlier, and the Kangaming sect seemed to have forgotten a very simple fact. He asserted that his Yuluo Temple's disciples must not be shamed. Mengu Taoist was enraged, but he uttered nothing in response. On the other hand, the system congratulated Bai Qingling for successfully using Great Love, and he has gotten a critical hit, so 20,000 points were awarded, and his current points were 45,000. Earlier, before leaving blood storage, Bai Qingling observed that Mengu Taoist at that time was a true deity transformation venerable, so to complete the mission of killing him, he still needed to use some items. Bai Qingling voiced that his Great Love points are not easy to come by and inquired if the system has any recommendations. The system revealed that a random recommendation has been generated and it was the Poisonous Insect Gift Pack, which is 20% off, so it only requires 4,000 points. It added that Bai Qingling could randomly obtain 3 types of poisonous insects with great practical value. Bai Qingling commented that it was good timing because he happened to have practiced with insect techniques on Xiao Chen's brother, so it was the one. He recalled that the first type of insect from the system gift pack was the sharpness-bearing mantis, and it could store a slash below the divine transformation realm and stealthily trigger it in front of an enemy. Bai Qingling realized that it was precisely that insect that killed Luo Fenghuo in one move earlier, and to outsiders, it could only be a magical technique from someone at the divine transformation realm or above. He recognized that he must make sure that everyone believes that he has already returned to the peak of divine transformation realm. Meanwhile, Nan Gongfeng got up from his seat as he watched Bai Qingling. Bai Qingling surmised that only could that big show be performed according to his script. He figured that the second type of insect from the system pack was the Thunder Phantom Cicada and it could move with the force of a heavenly tribulation. Bai Qingling used the Thunder Phantom Cicada to put on a show and intimidate Mengu Taoist. Nan Gongfeng was wondering what that technique was and reckoned that he had never seen it even when Bai Qingling was at his peak. Bai Qingling stressed that he doesn't like to waste time, so he suggested to Nan Gongfeng that they should have a showdown straight away and let the high-level officials above the rank of Hall Master vote for the sect leader, while the rest of the noisy mob stands aside. When Mengu Taoist heard Bai Qingling mention a noisy mob, he deduced that it was clearly targeted at his supporters. Nan Gongfeng laughed that the sect leader must be chosen extremely carefully, and besides, the candidate Hua Yuerong has not spoken anything yet. Mengu Taoist perceived that Nan Gongfeng did well and they should let Hua Yuerong and Bai Qingling fight each other first because no one requested Hua Yuerong to destroy his beloved Chauri. On the other hand, Bai Qingling whispered that Hua Yuerong should know that no one could bully his junior. But Hua Yuerong whispered back and queried Bai Qingling who his junior sister was. She indicated that the junior sister was already dead and the person standing in front of Bai Qingling is the veiled holy nun Hua Yuerong. Hua Yuerong was pissed, and she gritted her teeth. She affirmed that she agrees to Bai Qingling's suggestion and, furthermore, she will withdraw from the sect master selection. Han Jining declared that it was interesting and she wanted to see just what tricks the both of them have up their sleeves. But Ren Qianfen pressed her if Bai Qingling and Hua Yuerong weren't fighting each other and why Han Jining was frowning. She expressed that she couldn't be bothered to waste her words on a fool, and she interrogated Ren Qianfen if he was dodging away and if he dared to dodge. Meanwhile, Bai Qingling walked up to his seat. He noticed Hua Yuerong's seat. Bai Qingling discerned that Xiao Chen, who was beside Hua Yuerong, had disappeared, so it looked like Xiao Chen also knows that he has no part to play in the matter. He determined that his only opponent on that stage is the sick cat. Bai Qingling looked at Mengu Taoist, who was below him. Mengu Taoist called Bai Qingling, and as he professed that they have always stayed out of each other's way, he questioned Bai Qingling why he came and obstructed his path. When Bai Qingling heard Mengu Taoist's claim about staying out of each other's way, he demanded Mengu Taoist, whose power the dog Luo Fenghuo relied on, to insult him in public. Mengu Taoist acknowledged that it was fine and if Bai Qingling wanted to play with him, he would accompany him to the end. He posed Bai Qingling if he didn't say to let the higher-ups vote for the sect master and responded that he agrees to it. Bai Qingling shared that if Mengu Taoist was going to play, they should play, and he quizzed Mengu Taoist how he could be so disgraceful, reeking of anger like that. Mengu Taoist cautioned that Bai Qingling will regret what he was doing because he doesn't even know who owns the Kangaming sect at the moment. Bai Qingling was amused, and he imparted that he hoped Mengu Taoist could be as arrogant later as he is at the moment. He supposed that Mengu Taoist came there aiming straight for the position of sect master, and the worst outcome he could anticipate was merely his opponents forming factions and setting up a new powerhouse. Bai Qingling sensed that it was a shame. He understood that he had been after Mengu Taoist's life since the start. Untitled announced that the vote count had ended and the votes of the 10 Supreme Elders would be announced first due to their seniority. 6 of them supported Hall Master Yihongi. 4 of them supported Temple Master Mengu Taoist. Mengu Taoist remarked that it was not surprising that it was the result, considering that 5 of the Supreme Elders had the surname Yi. But she should not get too happy too soon. Yihongi wondered if she could really use that method to ascend to the position of sect master, if she had to fulfill her promise and marry Bai Qingling, and if Untitled would accept her as her master's wife. Suddenly, Bai Qingling assured that she did not need to worry. That day was her day, and she would definitely become the next sect master, so she encouraged showing her strength and not letting his support go to waste. Untitled revealed that out of the 23 elders of the main forum, 13 supported Yihongi, and 10 supported Mengu Taoist. Mengu Taoist questioned what she had said. He realized that he originally predicted a 7-vote advantage in that round. But 5 elders unexpectedly betrayed him, and based on the weight of the votes, even if all the remaining hall masters voted for him, he would not be able to win. Bai Qingling rigged the election. Suddenly, Nan Gongfeng interrupted, telling Untitled to wait a second because she skipped the votes of the temple masters. Although many temple masters were involved in that election, and they were automatically deemed not to have the right to vote, they could not leave out one temple master with such a right. Zilyuo Temple's temple master Ren Qianfen voted for Mengu Taoist. One of the disciples inquired what was going on and if Zilyuo Temple's hall master was not Yihongi's uncle. Another speculated if he favored outsiders over his own family or if he tried to establish a persona of promoting the worthy and avoiding nepotism. Another claimed that it was the power of temple master Mengu Taoist, so he had a chance to turn the tide. Yihongi wondered what her uncle was doing. She questioned why he did not and supposed that Bai Qingling had no relations with her, and yet he was willing to accept her grandfather's wishes and supported her. Suddenly, Han Jinyan kicked Ren Qianfen. She apologized and explained that her husband made a wrong decision. Publicly and privately, the only person he supported was Hall Master Yihongi of the Black Moon Hall, and she asked if she was right. He admitted that he just wanted to go against Bai Qingling. She slammed his face on the floor with her foot. She repeated her question if she was right. He confirmed yes, she was right, and Nan Gongfeng must have made a mistake, so he requested that he correct it. She winked at Bai Qingling and sent a heart. He caught it with the tip of his finger. He complimented that Han Jinyan was really good at understanding the situation. Meanwhile, Mengu Taoist grew so enraged that his veins popped out of his forehead. He declared that he quit. All those years, she had done so much for the sect, and he had fed all of them with so many benefits. All of them talked nicely when they wanted to receive benefits but backstabbed him at the critical moment, so all of them were not worthy of sitting at the top. Nan Gongfeng asked if he was making things difficult for them by quitting just like that. Mengu Taoist advised that he should not do it if it was too difficult. If Yihongi could become the sect master, he could be one too, and he wanted to create 2 sect masters. Bai Qingling called him a clown. He was going to split the Kangaming sect and destroy its foundation. But since he had said those words, it was impossible for him to leave Wongsang Palace. He should look at Nan Gongfeng's expression because perhaps even he was not standing by his side anymore. Nan Gongfeng said nothing, but he looked so apprehensive. Mengu Taoist insulted Bai Qingling as really despicable and shameless. If he died, he would drag him to his death with him, and he used his skill, the Great Compassion Soul-Stealing Technique. Hua Yuerong urged that they should leave quickly because that demonic technique was not something that the juniors could handle because once it began, it would seize all the souls and devour the flesh and blood of thousands alive. But Bai Qingling dismissed the concern, saying that there was no need to panic because it was just a corpse talking. Mengu Taoist claimed that he was crazy, and once his demonic technique was ready in a breath's time, he would die. Bai Qingling asked if he had heard of the Eternal Tribulation heart-shattering insect and explained that it was a type of poisonous insect that looked inconspicuous and was even harmless to ordinary people. It did not eat flesh and blood, it only ate the external release of a demonic technique. The stronger the demonic technique, the more the insect loved eating it, and it got more powerful the more it ate. He recalled that the last kind of insect from the system gift pack had a huge contrast in its appearance and power, and fortunately, he did not recultivate external demonic techniques. Otherwise, he would be the first to suffer. He proposed that they should make a bet and see if his demonic technique was stronger or his body at the peak of the divine transformation realm. Bai Qingling clenched his fist. Mengu Taoist's body exploded. Bai Qingling was amused. He remarked that he should have at least lasted for a bit longer and let them put down a bet. He speculated they could move on to the next bet and suggested that they bet on how long he would live after sustaining that injury. Mengu Daoist declared that it was impossible and questioned how the useless poison technique could kill him, an expert at the peak of the divine transformation realm. The body is just a decoration, and all of them who are ants wouldn't understand. Hua Yuerong inquired what he was doing and if he was using his own body to feed his demonic technique. Mengu Daoist explained that he would steal the souls with great compassion and nourish the demon. It was the Great Sorrow demonic soul body. One of the disciples repeatedly exclaimed that it was the demonic ancestor, while another remarked that the demonic ancestor had appeared. Mengu Daoist demanded what kind of dog-ass devouring demon technique his poison insect was and boasted that he is a venerable one with a demonic soul body that is invincible. No one could stop him from swallowing and devouring souls. He devoured the souls he obtained from the disciples without hesitation. Yihongyi mentioned that it was just his residual power, and as Untitled commented that it was enough to shock the heart and mind. Han Jinying observed that if he targeted them, they had no way of fighting back. Dan Gongfeng noted that no one thought that Mengu Daoist would openly massacre his disciples on such an occasion, and that it was too much. Mengu Daoist glanced at Bai Qingling. He proclaimed that he found him, the undeserving demon lord, Bai Qingling. Bai Qingling was just calmly closing his eyes. He summoned Sen Zinger and requested that she use the sword talisman. She consented. She threw the talisman. Mengu Daoist laughed at the sword talisman, and he questioned if he wanted to use the power of the sword to kill him. He repeated that it was useless because mere weapons are useless against his demonic soul body. He demanded that Bai Qingling give him his life. Bai Qingling noted that an ordinary sword is naturally unable to harm him, but he inquired about the sword that he possessed. Mengu Daoist recalled that he was carrying that inconspicuous sword when he arrived, and he wondered if there could be some secrets behind it. The talisman gracefully landed on the sword. Bai Qingling declared that he would bet that his demonic soul body couldn't resist any more than his flesh body. His eyes shone ominously. He swung his sword. Mengu Daoist insisted that it was impossible. A powerful aura surged towards the sky. Mengu Daoist questioned how there could be a power that specifically counters the demonic soul body. He suspected what the sword could be. Bai Qingling revealed that it was specially prepared for him, and he realized it far too late. He concluded that it was as expected of the Kangaming Soul Sword and its corresponding amplifying sword talisman, and it didn't waste Fang Lixu's risky trip, as it was the real triumph card in that show. He declared that, as everyone could see, Mengu Daoist had accepted the election results and ascended to heaven with satisfaction. Yihongyi is the next sect master destined by the heavens. Yihongyi suddenly interjected that he should wait. He glanced over his shoulder as he grew curious. She immediately greeted him as her godfather. Sen Zinger questioned about the godfather. On the other hand, Untitled wondered why she did that. She speculated that Bai Qingling must have used some soul-bewitching poison, and that the demon really deserved to be cut into pieces. Meanwhile, Bai Qingling observed that it looked like Yihongyi had already considered it. She affirmed and stated that everything would be in accordance with her grandfather's wishes, so she would treat him like her father. He noted that she is very promising, so her grandfather's things would naturally be returned to her. Dan Gongfeng immediately recognized the Kangaming Soul Ring, and he questioned if it wasn't the symbol of the sect master's authority, why it was in Bai Qingling's hands, and if that could be the work of the old sect master Yi Taiyuan. Bai Qingling explained that he was fulfilling a promise. That was all. He congratulated Yihongyi as the sect master. Bai Qingling declared that Yihongyi was already the true master of Kangaming. She became flustered and lost for words. Suddenly, she grabbed his wrist and raised his hand. She proclaimed that from that day onwards, she would become the sect master of Kangaming sect, and he would become her godfather, and they would work together to make Kangaming sect great again. The crowd filled with murmurs. Bai Qingling considered that when giving Yihongyi the ring, there was a bit of misplaced feeling. It resembled a Western-style wedding, and her words earlier carried a strong sense of Western-style politics. Suddenly, he noticed Sen Zinger. She stood in the midst of the crowd, chewing on her nails. She inquired why he was treating Yihongyi so well and why she wasn't the person beside him. Suddenly, Nan Gongfeng intervened that they should wait and that he didn't agree to that. Bai Qingling assumed that, sure enough, he came into the scene because Mengu Daoist was just the front stage clown and he was the real representative of the opposition. Nan Gongfeng remarked that, as expected, Yihongyi had ascended to the position of sect master with an overwhelming advantage that day, and he wouldn't deny that fact. But Bai Qingling must not be allowed to monopolize power and act as some so-called godfather because for thousands of years, their sect has had only one person worthy of being called the godfather, and he questioned what right he has to claim the title. Bai Qingling addressed the lady sect master and inquired what she thinks. She was taken aback by the way he addressed her. She cleared her throat. She responded that since there was a precedent, she questioned why Bai Qingling couldn't be the godfather, or if it was because Nan Gongfeng also wanted to imitate Menggu Taoist and test his character. Nan Gongfeng accused Bai Qingling of recklessly murdering Luo Fenghuo and Menggu Taoist, two high-ranking members of the Kangming sect, and warned that if that kind of behavior goes unpunished, there would be chaos, so she must give an explanation to the entire sect. Yi Hongyi became lost for words. Bai Qingling chuckled. He asserted that he couldn't be bothered to give Nan Gongfeng an explanation, as he isn't worthy of hearing it, and his authority is witnessed by heaven and earth. Nan Gongfeng was surprised when he threw the sword in front of him. He revealed that it was the sword he used earlier. He speculated if that could be the sword that was lost for many years, the Kangming Soul Sword. He explained that the ancestral teachings of the Kangming sect stated that one who wields both sacred artifacts has the authority to act independently and execute traitors, so if that was real, Bai Qingling really had the authority. Bai Qingling questioned if he wasn't planning to lie that it was a fake and if it was not enough for Menggu Taoist to experience that power alone. Sen Zinger suddenly interjected and challenged Nan Gongfeng for daring to slander her master and insisted that that matter couldn't be settled just like that. Bai Qingling instructed that she shouldn't speak any further because Nan Gongfeng had already understood. Everything had been settled, so they should leave. He left everyone speechless. Chantai Lingying wondered why he was so close to Sen Zinger and suspected that he must be planning something evil. She pondered why he wasn't close to her and Feng Lixu and concluded that, sure enough, it seemed that she still needed to deal with him for Feng Lixu's sake. On the other hand, Hua Yuerong thought that he was still as good at playing with women's hearts as before. Han Jinying observed that it looked like from that point onward, Yuluo Temple would be replacing Liuacha Temple as the #1 force in Kangming sect, and for the sake of their Ziluo Temple, they must interact more with Bai Qingling in the future. Ren Qianfan questioned what there was to interact more about. Meanwhile, the system congratulated Bai Qingling for completing the main plot mission, Kill Menggu Taoist, where he received 10 despairing slashes of Yama and earned 3,000 points as a reward, so his current points were 48,000. A few moments later, Han Jinying was at Ziluo Temple, in the star-picking Belvedere. She let out a loud sigh. Ren Qianfan thought that his wife was the most alluring woman in the entire 9 continents, so even Mu Xinlin could not compare to her. And as the saying goes, a woman adorns herself for the one she loves, so he wondered if it was possible that his wife wanted to do it that night. Suddenly, Bai Qingling remarked that it was a perilous tower that rose 100 feet high where one could pluck the stars in the sky, so she certainly has a sense for romance. Ren Qianfan questioned why he was there, and Han Jinying encouraged him to go and help him to come in. He inquired if she called Bai Qingling and if she wanted her husband to help him. Bai Qingling thanked her for her good intentions but explained that the restrictions of the star-picking Belvedere couldn't stop him. He called Ren Qianfan a cuckold but corrected himself and added that for someone who is self-disciplined like him, he could head out with no worry because he came to find his wife as they have matters to discuss. Ren Qianfan declared that Bai Qingling was going too far. He did not show his power as the Ziluo Temple Master, and he already treated him as decoration, so that day, he would test his sword on him and wash away all humiliation. But Han Jinying questioned if he was courting death. He blamed it on the little thief's fault, and he tried to explain what he was trying to do, but she cut him off. She ordered him to get out and that no matter what sounds he heard later, he was not allowed to come in, and she inquired if he understood. He protested, but a few moments later, he was outside the room, trying to eavesdrop from the door. Inside, Han Jinying requested for Bai Qingling to take the drink, and he remarked that she was too kind. He recalled that he remembered that part of the plot. She escaped from Jai Tame of the Hehuan sect, but she could not escape the passion flower desire poison planted deep inside her by him. That night was the latest active period of the passion poison within her, and the original game was indeed a borderline dating game, full of plots like that. Suddenly, she inquired if the beast milk from the demonic pet's sanctuary tasted nice and commented that it was an honor for a woman like her that the demon lord Bai Qingling was willing to taste it. Speaking of which, he was not young, but he had not married yet, so she wondered if it would not be perfect if he had a housewife who could cook delicious food and brew spirit tea elixirs. He imagined Sen Zinger requesting him to eat. He urged Han Jinying to get to the point and explain why she invited him there. She guessed that he was shy and wondered if he was moved by her. She asked who was more beautiful, her or Hua Yuerong. He demanded why she mentioned Hua Yuerong. She noted that he was asking when he knew the answer and questioned if it was a technique he used to manipulate women. She asked if he knew where that stocking came from. He answered that it was made from celestial silk and could defend against evil, and his disciple loved to wear it too. But she preferred white. She wondered if he liked it. He considered that if he said that he disliked it, it would definitely be a lie. But as for that body's original owner, that might not be the case. If he was the real Bai Qingling, he would only say that she did not do enough to please him. Suddenly, she asked why he had not remembered yet. He inquired what it was. She grabbed him by the wrist. She placed his hand in her lap. She claimed that he gave that celestial silk to her. She recalled the time when Bai Qingling asked if he still required living souls to refine the Untitled into a pleasure puppet. He promised he would let him choose from the candidates for the saintess of his Huan sect. But of course, they did not know the truth. They thought that he was sending them over to become his servants. One of the ladies begged Bai Qingling to choose her and declared that as long as she was in his sights, she would make him feel pleasure forever. Another lady claimed that she was very good at keeping secrets, and they all praised her mouth for being tight. Another lady said that she wanted him to choose her because she could do anything and would do anything. Bai Qingling looked over to the side of the room. His attention focused on Han Jinyang. Her name at that time was still Yun Jiner, and she was nervous. Jai Tame remarked that Bai Qingling had a good eye because she possessed the undying divine phoenix body, and she was indeed a perfect material, so he wondered if he chose her. But Bai Qingling denied and stated that he just thought of some boring stuff. He grabbed a silk cloth. He mentioned that it was for her and that she should take good care of herself. She blushed as she carefully held the cloth in her arms. Back in the present, she complained that he was so bad because he made her remember him all those years, and she demanded that he take responsibility. Han Jinying revealed that Bai Qingling had so many saintesses serving him that day, but his gaze always lingered on her. Yet he did not pick her in the end, and she inquired why. He explained that her poison was taking effect. It was the passion flower desire poison, Huan's mysterious poison, and she escaped the Huan sect, but she could not escape that. She moaned when he touched the poison's mark. She hugged him tightly. He revealed that back then, the selection was actually to choose sacrificial materials, and although she was the most suitable, she reminded him of his plight in his early years. Possessing an extraordinary constitution, he was deceived by villains and ultimately became a living catalyst for their concoctions. He pitied her and also pitied himself, and he owed her a debt for the sect master selection ceremony, so he would repay it that day by helping her to remove the poison. She was moved by what he expressed. On the other hand, Ren Qianfen was still eavesdropping by the door. He questioned what was happening and what they were doing there. He lost his balance and fell to the floor when the door suddenly swung open. He inquired what he did to his wife, why he came out alone, and where she was. Suddenly, he noticed the fluids on his hand. He questioned what it was and insisted that he should not tell him it was Han Jinyang's. Bai Qingling explained that of course it was poison fluid, and he questioned if he did not know that his wife was poisoned and if he would even need to do that himself if he were not useless. He remarked that he had better straighten that high hat of his as the temple master of Ziluo Temple, and he should not let it sit crooked. He considered that the debt on Han Jinyang's side had been somewhat repaid for the time being, but there was no way to repay things on Hua Yuerong's side. There were some secrets between them that the game and his past life did not divulge, and even if the original owner of that body was Bai Qingling, he no longer remembered because he separated and preserved his main body. The relevant information should be buried in the main body's heart, and the heart was currently stored in the Flame Demon Tower. It appeared he had to make a trip to the Flame Demon Tower for the memories and also to recover the Demon Lord's unparalleled power. Meanwhile, Xiao Chen called Hua Yuerong, Untitled, Sen Zinger, and Yihongi. He criticized them as short-sighted women and declared that one day, he would make all of them pay the price and show them who the real heavenly chosen one really was. Suddenly, Yu Zuzi questioned why he was like that and declared that all matters had a chance to take a turn. He assumed that his cheapskate master sent his consciousness into something strange again. Yu Zuzi disclosed that Yihongi ascended to the position of sect master and Bai Qingling became Kang Aming's godfather, and although his assassination and manipulation failed, Mu Xinlin divined that it was not his fault. She predicted that the Third Holy War against the demonic path was inevitable, and there would be a chance to kill Bai Qingling's main body, but it needed to be him, the heavenly chosen one, to do it. Xiao Chen questioned what that woman meant and how he would have the chance to kill Bai Qingling. Yu Zuzi explained that one of the 4 great demonic source forbidden zones of Kangaming, the Flame Demon Tower, contained a part of the main source of his body. Xiao Chen scoffed and claimed that the old woman Mu Xinlin still wanted to use him as a pawn. He questioned why Bai Qingling would dismantle his perfect, formless demonic body, and declared that they should stop trying to fool people. Yu Zuzi revealed that when Mu Xinlin fought against Bai Qingling that day, she discovered that his formless demonic body was incomplete, and in the end, he relied on his body's source hidden elsewhere to successfully guide his escaping divine soul to safety. At that time, his divine soul was fragile, so she invaded his consciousness and saw his inner weakness, which was a girl and an ancient tower. The girl's identity was impossible to identify, but the plaque on the ancient towers showed that it was the Flame Demon Tower. Xiao Chen concluded that he could see that the main organs of Bai Qingling's main source must be within the tower, and the key to it was in the hands of Kangaming's sect master and the Supreme Elder, which was why he supported Yihongi to become sect master. But he questioned what was the point of knowing about all that when they could not get into the Flame Demon Tower. Yu Zuzi reminded him that the enemy of his enemy was his friend, and he questioned who was the most dissatisfied within the Kangming sect when Bai Qingling supported Yi Hongyi to become the sect master. Xiao Chen inquired who he was talking about. If he was talking about the Heavenly Treasure Pavilion's supreme elder, Nan Gongfeng. Tantai Lingying declared that from that day onwards, Yi Hongyi became Kangming sect's sect master, so she would formally hand those confidential registers to her as the protector. Yi Hongyi acknowledged that she knew she hated those tedious things and proposed that they handle it like last time, where she managed the trivial stuff while they discussed the more important stuff together. But Tantai Lingying insisted that she did not dare to overstep her authority, and that she could find her Lord Godfather to settle the tasks. Yi Hongyi inquired whether she was angry at her and whether she resented her alliance with Bai Qingling. But she revealed it was her grandfather's final wish, and she felt a duty to fulfill it. Tantai Lingying questioned what the old ancestor said. Yi Hongyi revealed that her grandfather wanted them to become a Dao couple. Tantai Lingying reacted strongly to that information. Yi Hongyi assured her she shouldn't worry because she had contemplated everything. If she really married that man, it would definitely not affect the relationship between them, and they could talk about their own affairs while she calls her sister Lingyan. But she was interrupted before she could finish her sentence. She became alarmed when Tantai Lingying fainted. On the other hand, Bai Qingling dreamed of his past with Hua Yuerong. She explained that the first kowtow was for heaven and earth. She questioned why he wasn't kowtowing. He replied that it was just playing pretend and there was no need to be serious. She questioned why he was not serious and reminded him that he promised to listen to her. He comforted her by saying she shouldn't cry because he would listen to her. She acknowledged that she knew he doted on her the most. The second kowtow was for the demonic ancestor. Suddenly, she grabbed his hand. He became flustered. She stated that it was time for the husband and wife to kowtow to each other. She giggled, but they expressed their pain when they bumped their heads against each other. Back in the present, Bai Qingling wondered what was happening to his head and if someone was assassinating him again. Suddenly, he noticed Sen Zinger's foot. She declared that she wanted to become his little doggy and repeatedly barked. He called her, and she looked puzzled. He demanded who permitted her to climb on his head, and as he remarked that he was getting more and more presumptuous, she admitted that she was wrong. Tantai Lingying actually requested to meet him, but he was still asleep, so she waited and accidentally fell asleep. He acknowledged that he got it and that he would meet her outside. A few moments later, he met Tantai Lingying at the outside pavilion. She greeted him as her master. Yi Hongyi concluded that sure enough, Tantai Lingying could not accept it, and she wondered if she was going to challenge Bai Qingling for her sake, or if she was so disappointed at her that she was going back to serve her master, and she considered herself a fool, and wondered why she forced her to that extent. She wondered what exactly they were talking about because she couldn't hear clearly. Meanwhile, Tantai Lingying demanded that Bai Qingling stop mentally manipulating Yi Hongyi, and she asserted that she knew that the purpose of her existence was to become a sacrificial object, so she was willing to use herself in exchange for him letting her go. He should come at her if he wanted anything, and there was no need to pity her just because she was his disciple. But she was shocked when she heard Yi Hongyi call her. She inquired what the two of them were doing.
Tantai Lingying addressed Yi Hongyi. She urged her to listen, insisting the situation wasn't what it appeared to be. Ye Hongyi remarked that her timing seemed unfortunate. Bai Qingling countered that her timing was perfect. Tantai Lingying was his disciple, Ye Hongyi his goddaughter. So in his view, they made a lovely family unit meant to unite against the demonic path, conquer the Central Plains, and restore Kangming sect's former glory. Ye Hongyi questioned the role of goddaughter and the idea of a warm family, while Tantai Lingying challenged the notion of being a disciple, or anything related to warmth. Bai Qingling turned to Ye Hongyi and explained that he had applied for the Flaming Demon Tower's key and was checking for a response, recalling that in the original game, once a sect master gained power, the key from the Supreme Elders was easier to obtain than catching a Magikarp. Ye Hongyi confirmed that she had already reported it to the Supreme Elders, but Nan Gongfang diverted the conversation. He proposed using the Flame Demon Tower to train disciples and keep the rising threat of ferocious beasts and evil spirits under control. Bai Qingling questioned whether Nan Gongfang was pulling that old move again, accusing him of trying to intimidate someone with only 3 disciples by rallying tens of thousands of sect members to suppress Yulo Temple. Tantai Lingying pointed out that with Feng Lishui absent, she worried Sen Jinger might not command the rest of her generation, especially since even Zhao Qin of Yingyi Temple was already near the peak of core formation. He called her Protector Tantai and asked if she was not part of Yulo Temple, noting how she conveniently excluded herself despite his clear focus on Yulo Temple. She fell silent. He acknowledged that her Tantai fairy lineage was lofty and her ambitions vast, unlike Sen Shinger, that foolish girl, willing to give up everything for her master. She remained quiet. Meanwhile, Bai Qingling wondered whether the earlier awkward encounter had finally resolved, and reminded himself that the great love strategy must continue unhindered by setbacks or stumbles. Tantai Lingying stood frozen. She questioned whether he had expected something from her earlier and admitted she could have fulfilled it, then demanded to know why she hadn't. Ye Hongyi reasoned that as her master, he must have been deeply hurt by her hesitation and pressed whether Tantai Lingying believed that too. Tantai Lingying abruptly expressed disappointment in her. They had formed the mirror flower seal, and she pointed to her actions now. She noted that Ye Hongyi stood beside that man, condemning her sister, the one she should have trusted. Ye Hongyi faltered. She reminded her of their vow never to be touched by a man, then questioned what she was doing the moment she arrived, accusing her of being the first to break the mirror flower seal. Tantai Lingying demanded to know her destination. Ye Hongyi snapped that since she broke the vow first, she had no right to object if she lacked self-restraint, and declared she would find her fiancé and sleep with him that night in Yulo Temple. Tantai Lingying asked if her desperation to become matriarch of Yulo Temple was truly that great. She clenched her teeth, flustered. She proclaimed that even if anger drove them to act, she should at least be the one to go first. Meanwhile, Xian Xinger announced that she had entered the river of the underworld and aligned herself with its laws. She called to Gui Guanyi. She commanded it to obey her. A massive demon appeared before her. She stated that the demon-forging cauldron worked flawlessly with her ghost-controlling spirit body and could summon such a powerful ghost. She asked Bai Qingling why he had suddenly given her that battle technique and remarked that it wasn't the reward she truly wanted. He responded that her senior sister was too independent, and with the Flame Demon Tower trials looming alongside the final enemy, Yuluo Temple urgently needed more strength. The technique he passed her would elevate her power significantly, but she also had to understand that power never reaches a limit. He swung his sword casually and split the demon in two. Xian Xinger noted his strength was so immense he could slay it in one strike. Bai Qingling recalled that the technique was his reward for killing Menghu Daoist during the Sect Master contest, the 10 despairing slashes of Yama, and decided that it lived up to its system original status, given that even the first slash carried crushing might. After slipping free from Tantai Lingying and Ye Hongyi, he corrected himself and figured that once he escaped the mess completely, he could recover clarity. The Flame Demon Tower plot had gone off script, which meant the hidden alliance between the two walking hate generators, Xiao Chen and Nan Gongfang, had to be responsible. He demanded to know why those two always treated him with such hostility, and muttered that it had to stem from their complete lack of great love. So, when the Flame Demon Tower trials started, he would make sure to teach them. With interest. Everyone had assembled at the Flame Demon Tower, gathered around the open square beneath its looming height. Nan Gongfang announced that the Flame Demon Tower would be opened as a place of trial that day, with victory granting the right to claim any demonic energy or evil soul treasure within. The disciples of the Luocha Temple declared their intention to dominate the trial and restore the long-lost prestige of their sect. The disciples of the Yingui Temple dismissed the bravado, remarking that they should focus on selecting a new temple master since their senior brother Xiao Chen was clearly the strongest. Hua Yuerong questioned whether Xiao Chen remembered the mission he had been assigned. He confirmed without hesitation, asserting that he would claim the top spot in the trial, and if he failed, he would sever another arm. She reminded him of one final condition, that any strange items found in the tower which were not classified as treasures must be handed over to her, and never opened on his own. He agreed easily, assuring her that her disciple would remember, though inwardly he considered that she and Bai Qingling should prepare for a surprise bold enough to make even Aizen revisit his playbook. Elsewhere, Ren Xianfan urged Ni Zheng to confirm his readiness. Ni Zheng responded with certainty that he would live up to his status as the eldest disciple of Xiulo Temple. At the same time, Han Jinyang scoffed inwardly at the idea of expecting anything from someone who castrated himself and studied under her husband, who had been born without one to begin with. She recalled that she and Bai Qingling had already settled on a plan before he departed that day, one that would yield gains greater than any sect master selection ceremony. Meanwhile, Bai Qingling noted to himself that Han Jinyang was growing bolder, and her future truly did seem to be on the rise. Abruptly, he registered a sudden spike in pressure. He evaluated whether the force coming from the Yingui Temple's side was really being directed at him to such a degree. He addressed Xian Xinger, initially attributing it to an extra function from the system, then corrected himself and claimed it had been prepared for her. It was the clone phantom insect, and she was to use it only at a critical moment, allowing her master to intervene on her behalf. She expressed appreciation and pledged to do her best to obtain the reward he had asked for. He detected an additional source of pressure entering the scene. Moments later, Tantai Lingying announced that the time had come, and by tradition of the sect trial, entry order into the tower would be determined through a candle extinguishing competition. There would be a row of 20 everlasting candles infused with spiritual energy, and the participant who could extinguish the most using pure energy would enter first, without using techniques or external tools. Sen Shinger stepped forward, formally introduced herself, and requested to take the first attempt. Tantai Lingying hesitated, clearly concerned, but Nan Gongfang cut in, remarking that this kind of courage was exactly what a demonic path disciple should have. Sen Shinger muttered under her breath for the stupid ghost to help, and willed the flames to go out. Gui Guanyi lent his strength and helped her extinguish the candles before her. The surrounding disciples tallied the result, announcing that Sen Shinger of Yulo Temple had extinguished 15 candles. Nan Gongfang acknowledged that it was impressive, considering the spiritual flames were not easily doused, and warned Xiao Chen not to disgrace him the way Menghu Taoist had. Xiao Chen checked if that was all, then gave his name and requested his own attempt. He scoffed inwardly, branding the pair as a smug witch and a slave in need of discipline, certain that they would soon regret challenging someone chosen by the heavens. He summoned his energy and urged it to rise. With one swing of his sword, he sent a surge of power toward the candles. The flames were swept away in its wake. Nan Gongfang declared that 17 candles had been extinguished in a single strike, praising it as an excellent result and the highest ever achieved by a disciple below Hallmaster rank in the history of the Kongming sect. It seemed first place had been decided, and he asked whether anyone had objections. Xiao Chen acknowledged the result and offered his thanks for the victory. Sen Shinger muttered that she had not expected to actually lose to that guy, but Bai Qingling kept assuring her it was nothing to worry about. Meanwhile, Tantai Lingying drifted into her thoughts, caught by the memory of Bai Qingling's earlier remarks about her Tantai fairy lineage being noble and her ambitions towering, in contrast to Sen Shinger, a foolish girl ready to give everything for her master. Ye Hongyi had accused her of violating her oath first, and warned that she would sleep with her fiancé that night in Yulo Temple as retribution. All at once, she broke from her silence and interrupted, announcing that they should wait. She gave her formal introduction and asked to take part. One of the disciples pointed out whether the protector Tantai was lowering her status by doing that, while another raised concern about whether she should distance herself from Yulo Temple to avoid suspicion. Nan Gongfang observed that as the protector of the sect and one of the hosts of that trial, her personal intervention could be a breach of the rules. Bai Qingling found the situation genuinely surprising and weighed the possibility that she still bore a grudge and aimed to make him fail. She fixed her gaze on him. He figured he must be right, since her intent practically surfaced in her eyes. Meanwhile, Ye Hongyi mulled over whether Tantai Lingying was simply trying to show off for that man, and whether it confirmed what she had suspected during that straightforward conversation with her master who had raised her. She concluded that it was fine, since the Mirror Flower vow no longer needed upholding, and they would now go their own ways, so she could return to her master. She remarked that while Protector Tantai served as the sect's guardian, she was also a disciple of Yulo Temple raised by her godfather, and her behavior reflected proper reverence toward one's teacher. So even they, members of the demonic path, had no grounds to criticize. Tantai Lingying registered real surprise at her words. She noticed how effortlessly the word godfather left her mouth, and since she had once even wanted to sleep with him, she questioned whether she had already followed Sen Shinger's path and fallen completely under that man's spell. Nan Gongfang replied that since the sect master had spoken, they should now witness what their protector Tantai was capable of. Xiao Chen scoffed and commented that defying him had been Tantai Lingying's worst mistake because extinguishing 17 candles in a single strike was already the limit, so he was eager to see how she would beat that. Meanwhile, Sen Shinger wished her luck and remarked that she must not let that bastard Xiao Chen look down on her. Bai Qingling noted that Sen Shinger had no reason to be nervous, since even Feng Lishu had failed to defeat her in the candle-extinguishing trial. No one should underestimate Demon Lord Qingling's direct disciple. Tantai Lingying unleashed her energy to blow out the candles without a word. One of the disciples noted the sheer force behind it, while another remarked that wiping out 20 candles in one palm strike was rewriting the record books. They questioned whether all Yulo Temple disciples were monsters. Tantai Lingying addressed Nan Gongfang and stated that she would claim the secret key for priority access on behalf of Yulo Temple. Meanwhile, Xiao Chen struggled to grasp how an ordinary palm wind could snuff out 20 candles and believed that he had been destined for first place and the Flame Demon Tower's secret key should have been his. On the other hand, Sen Jing'er inquired about Tantai Lingying, and Bai Qingling replied that formation techniques were her domain. It looked as if she merely waved her hand to douse the flames, but in truth, she had disrupted the formation circuit inside each spirit candle, reducing the trial to a tailor-made minigame for her. Tantai Lingying stated that she had fulfilled her mission and secured the key for Yulo Temple. She requested permission to take the lead and enter the Flame Demon Tower. A few moments later, the host declared that the Flame Demon Tower trial would officially commence. Nan Gongfang ordered the focusing gaze water mirror to rise. A pool of water collected in front of the tower. Bai Qingling noted that elders outside the tower were watching the projected images of the disciples inside, which matched the plot of the original game, and its purpose had likely been to showcase the feats of the original protagonist, Xiao Chen. But it was unfortunate that those iconic moments, rightfully his, were about to be taken away, so Wei Jing'er could not afford to let her master down. Meanwhile, inside the tower, Tantai Lingying exhaled. She reflected that she had clearly been sincere, and yet Bai Qingling still let Sen Jing'er lead, prompting her to question whether she had let him down that deeply. On the other hand, Sen Jing'er remarked that based on the stone chamber's layout, they were positioned at the northern edge of the first floor, which seemed to be the farthest point from the heavenly stairs that led upward, and also the zone swarming with the fiercest beasts. Suddenly, Tantai Lingying noted that the aura signaled the revival of an evil beast, meaning the first floor trial had begun. Everyone needed to stay alert and prepare the Xuanyuan Demon Resist formation. Sen Jing'er should stop daydreaming and enter the formation at once. But Sen Jing'er responded that it was a thick aura of evil energy. The demons burst from the earth. There were many of them, and they crawled toward the disciples. Tantai Lingying identified the threat as a Golden Core Realm demon, the Crimson Fiend. Sen Jing'er confirmed that the Crimson Fiend was indeed on the list. Tantai Lingying demanded to know what she was doing and reminded her that those monsters had cultivation levels rivaling her own. Sen Jing'er responded that it was fine because Bai Qingling had already crafted a unique incantation for her. The Crimson Fiend probed whether Sen Jing'er had come toward him. She threw back a question of her own, raising how she might whisper a secret to him without ever approaching. He remarked on her nerve and offered, in that case, for her to let him relish her flesh and blood. She lifted her hand, preparing herself to deliver the whisper. She disclosed that they served directly under Demon Lord Qingling. The Crimson Fiend staggered, overwhelmed by the revelation. He rushed to beg for mercy, branding himself a lowly wretch unworthy for failing to recognize her. He vowed to retreat and sleep beneath the earth once more. He turned to his kin and ordered them to swiftly guide the esteemed immortals to the next floor, then issued his farewell. Tantai Lingying pressed Sen Jing'er for what she had revealed and what exactly had just unfolded. Sen Jing'er dismissed the need for further explanation, attributing the result to the protection of her heavenly god. Beyond the tower, Nan Gongfang protested that it made no sense for a malevolent demon suppressing the tower to not only stand down, but aid them in their climb. He hurled an accusation that Yulo Temple had cheated and demanded their trial rights be revoked. Bai Qingling recalled clearing the Flame Demon Tower twice, noting that any strong demon had learned its lesson under his hand, framing the guidance of such creatures as a favor, not fraud. Han Jinyang suddenly stepped in, demanding whether the old man had set his sights on their Demon Lord Qingling yet again. She proposed that if he pursued it that day, her Yulo Temple might stretch him an extra inch of support. He turned that over, uncertain what she meant by that day. That inch. That temple. And whether the woman aimed to imply something obscene. She remembered when he had drawn the line between them, severing all ties with the passion flower desire poison. Though her marriage had been forced, her husband a eunuch, and the poison had tormented her with no release for years. He grasped it. That was the truth of her. Tireless, until she claimed what she desired as a woman. He acknowledged the fire in her. To provoke him in front of Ren Xianfan and the sex supremes, she was shoving him into a corner where he would have to respond. She let out a sound as his hand moved to her thighs. Elsewhere, Nan Gongfang appealed to Ye Hongyi, accusing Bai Qingling of brushing off his censure and demanding Yulo Temple be punished. Ye Hongyi considered whether Bai Qingling did it out of indulgence for Tantai Lingying, but she dismissed that implication, refusing to let him doubt her. She insisted that the Supreme's decision had shown bias and argued that Yulo Temple's cunning reflected the demonic path better than any display of fairness. She challenged the idea that only rigid, honorable battles counted as valid trials and accused his logic of matching that of a sanctimonious fraud. He denied holding any such beliefs or motives. She concluded that as her godfather's sect master, the responsibility was hers, and wondered if her godfather could feel the depth of her sincerity. Meanwhile, Nan Gongfang resolved that unless Xiao Chun's results redeemed the humiliation he had suffered that day, he would never let it go. On the second floor of the Flame Demon Tower, Xian Xinger and her group arrived. Tantai Lingying identified the bronze statue as the emotion-destroying savage foal, born from the founder's mount and designed to test for worldly desire in the demon heart. She explained that stepping onto the stone platform would activate the demon heart trial, and that only one person needed to succeed for the rest to advance. Yi Hongyi commended Tantai Lingying for her grasp of the tower's mechanics, while she privately noted that the focusing gaze water mirror exposed all within and questioned whether she was showing off for her godfather. At the same time, Nan Gongfang cursed inwardly, branding Yulo Temple the coldest faction in Kongming's sect, and seeing the stage as a free pass for them. Tantai Lingying, however, worried that the emotion-destroying savage foal might uncover her feelings for Ye Hongyi if she took the trial. Sen Xinger feared the bronze creature might unmask her shameful thoughts toward her master. She flicked a glance at Tantai Lingying. Tantai Lingying returned the look. Together, both proposed the other should step forward. Tantai Lingying and Xian Xinger remained frozen, stiff as malfunctioning puppets during a scene change. Nie Zheng cut in and offered himself for the trial. He conveyed Han Jinyang's instructions that the Yulo Temple counted as an ally, not a threat, so the Shulo Temple required no hostility. Tantai Lingying accepted and remarked that he should go ahead and prove his strength. Nie Zheng vaulted onto the platform with the speed of a shonen protagonist, making his entrance 2 arcs late. He presented himself as Yulo Temple's direct eldest disciple and declared his intent to undertake the trial. The emotion-destroying savage foal stirred from its slumber. He confirmed that his heart remained untouched by love, so he passed. Outside the tower, one disciple wondered if someone that handsome could actually be a virgin, another questioned whether he simply lacked interest in women, and when one whispered that his master had castrated him, another recoiled and decried it as utterly unholy. Han Jinyang scoffed. Ren Qianfan begged her not to direct her anger at him, explaining that he feared Nie Zheng had developed feelings for her, so he castrated him without consent. He confessed he never imagined her affections would be won by Yulo Temple instead. She demanded why he stood idle while Bai Qingling violated her, and claimed that if he had truly tried, he might have resisted without relying on poison-based techniques. She called him a spineless coward, and pressed whether he secretly enjoyed watching his wife suffer. He rejected the charge and dismissed it as nonsense. Back at the tower, Nie Zheng expressed gratitude for the opportunity and informed them he would proceed. Meanwhile, Xiao Chen snarled over whether the so-called trash from Yulo Temple and Zhulo Temple had actually passed. He pressed his junior brothers on who would dare step forward and bring honor to Yingui Temple. The disciples hesitated, one dreading that his romantic past might be revealed, another remembering that only one participant per sect needed to succeed, and quietly volunteering someone else. Xiao Chen dismissed the demonic path cultivators as pitiful, and while gauging the field, he reasoned that with the calm heart pure jade technique taught to him by Yu Shuzi, he would easily pass the trial with his usual live, free-die-trying mindset. But Tantai Lingying abruptly announced herself as a Yulo Temple disciple and requested to take the trial. He grumbled that she beat him to it and concluded that, with her Frozone-level emotional freeze, she would pass without issue. On the other hand, Xian Jinger criticized Tantai Lingying for acting too fast, especially given her original plan to exploit her master's phantom clone puppet to bypass the trial. The emotion-destroying savage foal locked its gaze on Tantai Lingying. It reached into her emotional core. It witnessed a memory from her childhood, one involving a clash with Bai Qingling. The vision exposed him disciplining her during a bath. A memory of her encounter with Ye Hongyi surfaced. She reflected that unsurprisingly, Ye Hongyi had always held the deepest place in her heart. That memory collapsed. She realized it had been Bai Qingling and demanded an answer. She asked whether the poison insect had already been purged. The emotion-destroying savage foal concluded that in demonic cultivation all emotions are a curse, and therefore she had failed. Outside the tower, a disciple cried out that it couldn't be true. Tantai Lingying had fallen for someone. Another lamented that he had lost his dream girl. And when one demanded to know which bastard had shattered his goddess's demonic heart, the rest rose up to demand the man's skin. Ye Hongyi considered that if things had reached this point, maybe she had been wrong and the one wasn't her but that man, and in the end, perhaps they had only ever been close companions. Bai Qingling, meanwhile, styled himself an expert in character backstories and concluded that the person could only be Ye Hongyi. It had to be her. And the reason she stepped forward during the Flame Demon Tower trial was undoubtedly to win favor for her. The Grand Path of Love remained a savage boss battle. Back inside the tower, Sen Jinger realized that of everyone involved in the recent plot to assassinate the master, Tantai Lingying had been the one most thoroughly deceived. The one who had orchestrated it against her was Xiao Chen. It had been him. Meanwhile, Xiao Chen struggled to grasp where the plan had failed and likened the blast of malice to a game of hot potato that exploded the moment it landed in his grip. Tantai Lingying remarked lazily that she failed. Yulo Temple's trial couldn't possibly end like this, and Xian Xinger, being the youngest and most clueless when it came to messy feelings between men and women, got shoved into leading the team to clear that stage. But Sen Jinger muttered that it was better if she didn't, while digging in stubbornly, convinced she absolutely wouldn't, because no one had any idea what kind of twisted nonsense that bronze statue might spew. She turned toward her puppet and ordered flatly that he should handle it instead. Tantai Lingying pressed her on who it was, and she explained that he was newly recruited. Since their Yulo temple had already committed to taking the trial anyway, the puppet just planted himself in front of the statue and stood there, silent and unmoving. Then the statue announced that he had a heart of iron and stone, untouched by the trap of love, and so he passed. Xian Jinger exploded into wild celebration, once again convinced that the phantom clone puppet was absurdly useful, the summoning magic flawless, and her master had calculated everything with brutal precision. She urged the others to hurry up and head to the next floor, but Tantai Lingying cut in sharply and told her to wait. She asked Xian Xinger if she even realized that the third floor of the Flame Demon Tower was called the Infernal Soul Prison. She explained in a hard-edged tone that it crawled with vicious beasts and demons steeped in the blood of countless humans, nothing like the trash on the first floor who crumbled under pressure. Those things were walking disasters, ones that would never die or rest. But Xian Xinger argued back that their master said there was nothing to worry about. Everything was arranged, and they'd understand why once they reached the third floor. Tantai Lingying demanded to know what she meant. Moments later, they finally stepped onto the third floor of the Flame Demon Tower, into the Infernal Soul Prison. Tantai Lingying noted bluntly that the air stank of blood, and sure enough, the place was trouble. She ordered everyone to stay tight, move carefully, and not act alone, earning a quick round of obedient yeses from the disciples. Suddenly, she spotted other disciples up ahead. She narrowed her eyes and asked if it was Ni Zheng. She questioned whether they had actually slaughtered everyone there and admitted she was impressed. But Ni Zheng denied it and explained that Shulo Temple had only just arrived too, and all those bodies had been dead long before. The entire Flame Demon Tower reeked of blood. Outside, one of the disciples watching wondered aloud how it was possible they were all dead. Another pressed when it even happened, and why there'd been no news. A third asked who could wipe out everything on the third floor of the Flame Demon Tower, guessing if it was the previous sect master. Ye Hongyi declared confidently that it was him, insisting no one else in the entire Kongming sect could have pulled it off. But Bai Qingling scoffed inwardly, knowing it wasn't him at all but the Bai Qingling from the original game. Even though Bai Qingling infiltrating the Flame Demon Tower and single-handedly slaughtering the entire third floor back then had nothing to do with him. Since he'd defied fate and stepped onto the path of recultivation, that experience still carried weight. He reached out to the system in his mind and decided to spend 2,000 points to exchange for an item. He picked Memory Evocation, a one-time use ability, knowing that when he faced any scene tied to his past, he could relive the original experience firsthand. When he first saw the item, he dismissed it as useless. After all, he already knew everything about the original story, so why bother digging up old memories? But in the end, the combat instincts of the original host weren't his, and re-experiencing that battle would give him an undeniable edge. In that instant, he, Bai Feng, became Bai Qingling, and all of them were nothing more than vermin marked for death. They were mutated ants. Only their deaths could steady his heart. The demons were torn apart in a blur, their shredded remains soaking the floor in fresh blood. Bai Qingling murmured to himself that he'd gained a lot from this, and it would prove useful in the future. It felt intoxicating. Meanwhile, Hua Yuerong silently wondered if he was sweating because he was actually nervous, and whether the thing hidden inside the Flame Demon Tower was truly that critical. She plotted coldly that soon she'd rip away his mask and expose his true self, that filthy, ugly, evil nature buried deep within him, waiting for her on the fourth floor of the Flame Demon Tower. Tantai remarked with a stunned edge that she absolutely didn't expect the third floor, infamous as the deadliest one, to look like that at all. Xianxinger should hurry up to the fourth floor already and grab the thing their master wanted so badly before anyone else got in the way. Xianxinger countered sharply that they should just go together instead of splitting up. Their master would definitely light up with happiness if the two of them managed to pull off this mission for him, especially since he once declared with that unshakable warmth that the three of them sisters would forever be his most cherished treasures. Tantai Lingying pressed her hard, demanding if she still didn't get it, and bluntly declared that he no longer held even a shred of expectation for her. She should rush to fulfill his wish already because deep down she only hoped he would stay sincere and not end up letting the two of them down. Xianxinger muttered all right under her breath and told her to quit crying since she was already going. Tantai Lingying announced firmly that she would handle stalling the rest of them. Ni Zheng cut in without hesitation, stating there was no need to stress because his martial wife had already struck a deal with their master, so they'd only take the loot from the third floor. And the item on the top floor wasn't even Zhulo Temple's gold to begin with. But things stood differently when it came to Yingui Temple. It was their mutual enemy, plain and simple. Tantai Lingying admitted that was good since her thoughts lined up the exact same way. But then she frowned slightly, wondering where Xiao Chen was and why he wasn't mixed in with the Yingui Temple disciples. Something definitely felt off. But as long as they secured that path, Xiao Chen would never get the chance to disturb Xianxinger. Meanwhile, Xianxinger finally made it to the fourth floor of the Flame Demon Tower. She muttered that this was the shrine dedicated to the Black Flame Demon God and warned everyone nearby to stay back unless they wanted to get roasted alive on the spot. The treasure chest inside the shrine, wreathed in the crushing aura of fire's virtue, was exactly what her master desired more than anything. Raging flames twisted violently around the chest, their heat sharp enough to scorch skin from a distance. Out of nowhere, Bai Qingling's image materialized, demanding with cold authority to know who dared disturb his peace. Xianxinger declared instantly that it was her master and claimed it was his younger self standing before her. That sheer, unshakable dominance radiating from him, like he could crush the entire world into dust with his bare hands. She craved to be crushed by him too. The image coolly asked if she had come to help Bai Qingling reclaim his origins. He spat viciously that it would never happen because he wanted him dead and barked at her to get lost before she got burned to nothing. Xianxinger snapped back that he was her master's evil heart demon, nothing more than an enemy meant to be destroyed. Exactly as her master had foreseen, avoiding battle in the Flame Demon Tower trials was flat out impossible. She barked an order at Ghosty, commanding it to bite him to death right now. Ghosty lunged without hesitation, sinking its fangs deep into the image. But the image only laughed darkly, mocking her while letting it bite all it wanted, and sneered if she really thought he didn't understand the limits of his own little disciple. Everything she possessed was nothing more than fuel and fodder for him to consume. He jeered if she'd ever actually seen someone bitten to death by the bread on his plate. Outside the tower, Bai Qingling grimly admitted this was bad news. He reasoned it wasn't strange for an evil heart demon to spawn so close to his origins. It didn't touch his core, but it was still extremely dangerous since the thing carried every detail of his origins and mimicked him perfectly. Xianxinger was confronting the raw essence of Bai Qingling from back in the day, and if she learned his true thoughts straight from that version of him, her trust in him would shatter completely. Inside, Xianxinger realized with a frustrated edge that she'd completely messed up. He wasn't an evil heart demon at all, but something more like a gleeful ghost that delighted in toying with people's spiritual bodies. The image countered smoothly that her ghost-controlling spiritual body was a different beast entirely. She fired back hard that her master loved her deeply, and she knew it firsthand, having felt it lying on his bed. So his pathetic lies only managed to enrage her instead of shaking her resolve. She unleashed her technique with fury, ghost control, wrathful spirit devour. Ghosty sank its fangs in deep, tearing a massive chunk out of the image and ripping it free with raw, vicious force. Bai Qingling's image jerked violently in shock when Ghosty tore a chunk out of him. He spat a venom-laced curse at the creature without holding back. He vanished in an instant, and the raging flames swirling around him finally thinned and calmed. Xianxinger lunged forward and clamped both hands around the chest. She hoisted it high above her head with fierce, defiant pride. She declared that it was her master's divine box, bragging that she wasn't some dumb doggy anymore, insisting she'd done all of this for him so it should stay with her and stop stirring up trouble. Out of nowhere, a disciple yelled for her to hurry and treat her hand. Xianxinger brushed it off with a wave, saying there was no rush since it was just a scratch. But the disciple's gaze sharpened and turned coldly malicious without warning. She ripped the chest right out of Sen Xinger's grip and bolted without a second glance. Sen Xinger barked furiously, demanding to know who she was, and snapped that she definitely wasn't from her Yulo temple. Zhao Chen revealed himself with a mocking lilt, making it obvious it had been him all along. He gloated that he had finally gotten his hands on Bai Qingling's weakness. Sen Xinger pressed if it was the polymorph technique and accused him of sneaking into her group during the second floor's trial. She summoned her demon-forging cauldron and commanded Ghosty to rip him apart. Zhao Chen laughed darkly, calling it perfect since he'd use her own hands to open that filthy box. He hurled the chest straight into Ghosty's jaws without hesitation. It struck the floor, sprang open, and a thick surge of dark smoke erupted wildly. The smoke coiled and twisted until it shaped into the image of a much younger Bai Qingling. Zhao Chen grinned wickedly, declaring he hadn't come here for nothing because the ugly memories Bai Qingling tried to bury were about to crawl back to the surface. He taunted him further, daring him to defy the Destined One, and sneered that death would be far too merciful. He vowed to lay bare his vilest secret before the entire world, inciting the fury of both mortals and gods, forcing the 9 continents to unite in condemnation and staining him with unending infamy before activating the exquisite treasure mirror. At the same moment, the same haunting image blazed into projection outside through a massive scroll. Ye Hongyi muttered uneasily, wondering if the focusing gaze water mirror showing the tower's scene had shattered. Nan Gongfang pointed up, questioning if an even larger mirror face had appeared across the sky, and if they were seeing fragments of someone's memories. Bai Qingling went rigid the instant he recognized the image. Panic clawed through him as his memories snapped back into place, and he finally remembered everything. Who he used to be, and why his junior sister despised him. He understood it all in brutal clarity. There was no way to stop his past from unraveling, so he needed to retreat fast because he couldn't let the demonic path see him in this state. Meanwhile, Sen Xinger blinked rapidly, struggling to process, and asked if that was really her master. She murmured that she was clearly still inside the tower, yet somehow she could see everything, as if watching from the sky. Zhao Chen smirked lazily, flaunting that the exquisite treasure mirror wasn't some cheap trinket like the extreme water mirror. It was 1,000,000 times stronger, so the raw ugliness of Bai Qingling's past would rouse the entire world to crush his demon heart. But Sen Xinger remained entranced. She whispered faintly, asking if these were truly her master's memories. Inside the memory, Lin Yanran, Bai Qingling's mother, dragged herself through the snow, leaving a vivid streak of blood in her wake as she crawled forward. He called out desperately to her, begging to know what had happened. She choked out that she couldn't go any farther and urged him to escape alone through the path behind them, but he refused outright, insisting he wouldn't leave her behind. She forced herself upright with shaking resolve, every breath trembling. She told him not to cry because he possessed the innate formless demonic body, so he must seek shelter within a powerful demonic sect. That way no one would hunt him down. He had to remember that his father, Bai Tianlin, head of the Zhenwu sword sect, had been besieged and slain by hypocrites from the 3 major orthodox sects, and she herself, Lin Yanran, the eldest princess of Great Zhou, had been betrayed, poisoned by his uncle, and ambushed at the end. And he was her son, the true destined ruler of the world, so he had to survive no matter the cost. She clutched his hand tightly and urged him, voice breaking, to promise her that he would live on. Han Jinyang casually brought up the Bai family's ancestors, the innate formless demonic body, and pressed about whether the young man in the painting was that bad man. Meanwhile, Hua Yuerong chimed in, tossing out a sharp remark about whether Bai Qingling had run away and claiming it looked like someone deliberately wanted to turn him into a joke. If he ended up carrying the scorn of every generation, that was simply the punishment he deserved anyway. Back in the memory, Bai Qingling quietly buried his mother's body. Out of nowhere, his stomach rumbled with an aching hunger. He stuffed a few wild fruits into his mouth just to push the emptiness down. After that, he turned his back on the grave and walked away. A short while later, he stumbled into the Beast Blood Valley. A demonic beast lunged at him from behind without warning. He whipped his sword around in an instinctive counterattack. Without so much as a backward glance, he cleaved the beast clean in half. Then he kept walking, ignoring the demonic beast that hadn't even touched him. Behind him, the beast's dimming eyes locked onto his back, frozen in quiet fear. Suddenly, Zi Yaoshi broke the silence, demanding why such a little child wandered there alone. Bai Qingling replied that he was headed to Wuyang City to join the demonic cultivators and fulfill his mother's wishes. Zi Yaoshi told him not to search so far, claiming his Xie Yao sect had a need for talent like his. Right then, the young Hua Yuerong popped up, blurting out a question to Xie Yaoshi about who he was talking to. Her big round eyes landed squarely on Bai Qingling as she stared at him in open curiosity. Bai Qingling froze on the spot, completely lost for words. The next moment, his own blood splattered before his eyes. Xi Yaoxi remarked on how strange it was, asking why the blood of an innate formless demonic body looked so ordinary. He declared that he had given Bai Qingling his Taoist name, Qingling, and demonic cultivation techniques, setting him up with a new life, and snapped at him about why he couldn't even offer up a little demonic blood for his master. Then he waved it off, saying to forget it, and muttering that he would just raise him for another 3 years. By then, they would see what he was truly worth, and whether he amounted to nothing more than a single dose of medicine. With that, he walked away without looking back. Bai Qingling stood alone in the quiet room. He scoffed bitterly at the idea of becoming a great demonic cultivator. He muttered that if the demonic blood inside him truly followed his will, he'd already be nothing but discarded medicine dregs. Suddenly, Sen Shinger burst into tears. She wailed about whether her master had really gone through something like that and stammered that it was so pitiful, admitting she had no idea. Tantai Lingying jumped in, demanding who exposed that scene, throwing out guesses about whether it was Xiao Chen, and growling about where that guy was hiding. Meanwhile, Ye Hongyi raised her own suspicions, questioning why Xie Yaoxi and Mengwu Daoist looked so much alike and pressing on what kind of connection there might be between the two. She figured the matter tied closely to her Kongming sect and resolved that she needed to investigate every detail thoroughly. At the same time, Ren Xianfan turned to Han Jinyang and asked why she was crying. She snapped back, asking why he even cared, and told him to shut up and get lost somewhere. On another front, Hua Yuerong pressed further, demanding why he hid that part of the memory and what the next scene was supposed to be. Back in the memory, the young Hua Yuerong called out for Xie Yaoxi, asking if he was there. Bai Qingling caught sight of her the moment she stepped into the room. She spotted him instantly and recognized him right away. Hua Yuerong remarked that Bai Qingling was the new martial brother that Xie Yaoxi had taken under his wing. He pressed her about who she was. She teased that he should just take it and not act so timid, and he questioned her about what exactly it was. She revealed it to be the Beauty Pearl, a prized specialty from the central region that every disciple there possessed. He reflected that aside from his parents, it was the first time anyone had ever gifted him something. He then inquired if he might know her name. She explained that her father forbade her from revealing it. Still, he could call her Wrong Heir, and with a spark of curiosity, she asked about him and what his name might be. He introduced himself as Bai Qingling, soon to be Demon Lord Qingling. He insisted that she take it. It was the first medicinal poisonous insect he had ever managed to refine, the blood-circulating golden cicada, and in exchange for the beauty pearl, he was giving it to her. She blinked and questioned if it was genuine, then declared she would accept it since it was the first creation of the soon-to-be Demon Lord Qingling, something that might sell for a fortune one day. But she then challenged him, wondering why he wouldn't give such a meaningful item to his more precious family members. He replied that he no longer had anyone like that, so he hoped she wouldn't take offense. She admitted that it made sense, as her mother's life had been short and her father's health was failing, so in truth, their fates weren't that different. He promised that, given that, one day he would craft a 9th-grade unrivaled divine poisonous insect, and when that time arrived, he would use it to cure her father's illness. She felt a tremor of emotion. She agreed, saying she would be deeply honored to witness firsthand the creation of that unmatched divine poisonous insect of his. Back at the tower, Xiao Chen barked that they had to be joking and demanded to know where the damning evidence was, ranting that all he saw were kids tangled in love stories. If nothing major came from it, he demanded how he could rely on that old man Nan Gongfang to keep supporting him. Meanwhile, outside the tower, Hua Yuerong kept still. She muttered why she was being shown those scenes, what the point was in dredging up the past, and if that man had foreseen this and was deliberately trying to humiliate her. She reasoned that it made no sense. He wouldn't bother scheming against her, yet she couldn't ignore that his buried memories overflowed with images of her. She refused to accept it and convinced herself that Demon Lord Qingling's Dao heart couldn't possibly be tangled in such illusions. So she had to keep watching until his truest, foulest self surfaced. Back in the memory, Bai Qingling approached Xi Yaoxi and mentioned he had something to ask. Xi Yaoxi prompted him to speak. Just then, the blood-soaked disciple before him was struggling to breathe. Bai Qingling demanded to know if he was dissecting his senior brother, Qi. Xi Yaoxi questioned which senior brother he was referring to. He coldly remarked that anyone who disobeyed his master was nothing more than a test subject. Bai Qingling shot back, asking if he would treat Hua Yuerong the same way if she disobeyed. Xi Yaoxi noted that he seemed to care for her deeply, guessing that was why he came to inquire about her and her father. He declared that if Bai Qingling could seize first place through his own strength in the sex grand competition in 6 months, he would tell him everything. And until then, neither she nor her father would suffer harm. Bai Qingling accepted the terms and stated that it was settled, promising they would see the outcome in 6 months. Shi Yaoshi replied that he would be waiting, adding that the stronger his demonic body became, the more delighted his master would be. Menghu Taoist suddenly cut in, grumbling that after finally coming to the eastern lands, Bai Qingling was so loud that the poor Taoist couldn't even sleep. Shi Yaoshi turned to him and questioned if he planned to kill Bai Qingling, and the man coolly answered that he couldn't. Not yet. He was his merciless younger brother, Menghu Taoist. Half a year later, Bai Qingling clashed fiercely at the sex grand competition. He hurled his opponent clear off the stage with a powerful strike. The host declared with full authority that the victor was Bai Qingling. Shi Yaoshi remarked that he had surpassed every genius in the contest and secured the final triumph, claiming that such victory signified the right to the head senior disciple's position. Bai Qingling merely gave a short, cutting scoff as he seized the prize straight from his hand. He turned on his heel and strode off without a backward glance. Shi Yaoshi chuckled under his breath. All of a sudden, Bai Qingling spotted Hua Yuerong standing nearby. He pressed her with a curt demand, wanting to know what brought her there. She trembled on the verge of tears as she cried out to him. She revealed that her father had passed away. He murmured that it was all right, promising quietly that he was still right there. Moments later, they stood before her father's lifeless form. He identified it as the withering death poisonous insect, explaining in grim tones that it tormented its victim for years, sometimes decades, before ending life. She protested in disbelief, claiming it was impossible since Shi Yaoshi had treated her father all this time, and she pressed how he could have failed to notice or cure it. Bai Qingling lapsed into heavy silence as the truth churned inside him. He urged that she should leave the Xie Yao sect immediately and return to the central region. She had to swear that she would never again step into the eastern lands. Soon after, Xie Yaoshi remarked that Bai Qingling had arrived. Bai Qingling demanded to know if he didn't owe him a proper explanation. Xie Yaoshi countered with a cool tone, asking if he meant that wealthy man who died from the withering death insect. And he insisted that he wasn't the one who planted it, reminding that others could also breed such a venomous creature. He confessed he had merely prolonged the treatment to earn more profit, not expecting the man to collapse so suddenly. But since the family fortune was spent, he lured that little girl to join his inner sect. He claimed that he had cared for her kin, taken her in, and planned her future, questioning if she wouldn't feel eternal gratitude once she entered formally. Bai Qingling froze, struck by a surge of alarm. He dashed back toward Hua Yuerong with all speed. Shi Yaoshi noted with a thin smile that his weakness had been uncovered, musing whether that flaw would help him quickly extract the treasure hidden within his body. Meanwhile, Hua Yuerong stood at the Xie Yao sect's gate. Bai Qingling called out sharply to her. He warned that their master was setting a trap to make her stay, and pressed if she truly meant not to leave. She answered bitterly that she had already lost everything, family, riches, and questioned what difference it made to stay or depart. She added softly that at least he was still there, her senior brother. He told her that man was merely exploiting her, demanding if she couldn't see it, warning her not to trust him or anyone tied to the Xie Yao sect. She looked at him and asked if that meant she couldn't even trust him. He faltered, caught off guard. His memory flashed to when Lin Yanran had reminded him that his father, Bai Tianlin, the head of the Zhenwu sword sect, was besieged and slain by hypocrites from the 3 great orthodox sects, and his mother, Lin Yanran, the eldest princess of the great Zhou dynasty, was poisoned and ambushed by her own royal brother. Returning to the present, he asserted that he was right, that anyone could betray her, and declared that the only person she could rely on in that cruel world was herself. But she refused to believe him. She sprinted toward him. He stood stunned as she pressed her lips against his in a sudden kiss. Back at the tower, Tantai Lingying watched the scroll flash the moment when Hua Yuerong pressed her lips against Bai Qingling's. She turned red in a mix of shock and disbelief. She ordered Sen Xinger not to peek at the scene. Meanwhile, Han Jinyang snapped that he was nothing but scum and a complete slag. He went on about how it had been his first kiss with her, yet he had already handed it to that childhood sweetheart 800 years ago. And if she couldn't fully conquer his body later, it wouldn't even count as a real win. On the other side, Hua Yuerong declared that what happened was straight-up humiliation. Back inside the memory, Bai Qingling blinked out of his daze. He spat that her naive faith made him sick. Her decisions, in his eyes, were ridiculous. He swore he never wanted to see her again for the rest of that life. Hua Yuerong stood frozen, lost, tears spilling as confusion wrapped around her. The next day, one sect disciple nudged another, wondering if he had heard their master had just taken in a last female disciple, and the other confirmed, saying she was supposedly adorable, like some celestial fairy out of a dream. The first disciple joked if she might fall for someone like him, and the other scoffed, telling him to take a long look in the mirror first. The first then suggested they sneak a look at their new junior sister during the next demonic plant class, and the other agreed, saying they should all tag along. Bai Qingling simply stared at the pill Hua Yuerong had left him, his face unreadable as their chatter filled the air. Soon after, the group made their way into the Xieyao sect's sealed Demon Valley. One of the disciples, Chunan, cheerfully introduced himself to Hua Yuerong and asked if she remembered him, while another offered that she could come to them for anything about demonic plants since they'd explain it all. Suddenly, she caught sight of a strange bloom. She pointed and asked if that was the sacred flower of Buddhism, the Udumbara flower. And another disciple blinked, asking if such a thing could even exist inside the sealed Demon Valley. Chunan frowned, asking what Udumbara flower she was talking about. And while one disciple whispered that nothing was in her hand, Chunan added that only demonic flowers grew here, then wondered aloud if the Udumbara flower was some kind of mythical spiritual bloom. Hua Yuerong protested, saying that couldn't be right because she could clearly see it sitting in her palm. Bai Qingling's voice cut in, cool and sharp, saying that the Udumbara flower didn't care about its surroundings, only destiny, and those chosen by fate could see it, while the blind doubts of those without fate were laughably pitiful. One disciple demanded to know who was mocking him, and another pointed out that the sound seemed to come from the medicine cart. A third muttered that the cart was speaking, and a fourth yelped that the sealed Demon Valley must be haunted. Bai Qingling winced inwardly, realizing he had spoken too much. Meanwhile, Hua Yuerong stayed quiet, her mind turning fast. Then she softly laughed when she figured out who it was. Later, Bai Qingling was cultivating alone in his courtyard. Hua Yuerong suddenly called out a cheerful good evening to her senior brother, then teased if she should call him head senior brother instead. He asked if she had already forgotten, reminding her he had told her he never wanted to see her again. But she replied that she wanted to see him, so she came, and he should look because she had plucked that Udumbara flower that day. She asked if that wasn't rare. She said she was giving it to him since she believed it was a sign of their shared fate. He shouldn't stay angry, she urged, asking if that was fine. He refused, saying he still burned with anger because she hadn't listened and hadn't left the eastern lands. She countered that if he put it like that, she'd have to settle accounts, since their gift exchange was totally unfair, which meant he still owed her. He replied that Demon Lord Qingling always paid his debts, and he demanded to know what she wanted from him. She told him to give her a moment to think. She finally said she wanted him to join her in performing a wedding ceremony. In Bai Qingling's memory, he figured they should just stop already. Hua Yuerong kept smiling like sunlight as they went through the wedding ritual. He figured it reeked of a trap. It was one that Xie Yaoshi had laid out cleanly. The two of them gave their ceremonial bows. He thought she had already stepped right into it. Right then, she was about to drag him under her spell. If she couldn't shoulder what came next, someone else would have to take it on. He figured he ought to shatter her innocence himself. He smacked the flower from her hand without hesitation. It tumbled straight out the window. He thought that was enough, that they were square now. He remarked that the act was over, and he didn't owe her a thing anymore. She froze, completely thrown off. In the present, Hua Yuerong called out to her senior brother. She remarked that this was the real him, eyes fixed only on the Demon Lord's path, nothing else left inside. He would go on to slaughter their senior brother Ma, slay his master in a storming night, curse his own bloodline, and wipe out all his fellow disciples. That was the first step toward becoming the Demon Lord. Blood-hungry, brutal, wild. So much that even those on the demonic path whispered about him like a nightmare. But in the next memory, Bai Qingling was trudging a thorn-covered path, leaving streaks of blood behind him. She questioned what that was about. The thorns thickened as he pushed deeper. He clenched his jaw and ignored the slashes cutting through his skin. She pressed what he was doing. While he was racing through the sealed Demon Valley, he kept insisting he'd find it. Then a dim light flickered in the distance. He declared he'd found it. It was sitting there, faded, unavoidable. He muttered that he'd shoulder the price himself. Then he raised his fist toward the moon. He declared that for Hua Yuerong's sake, he'd truly become Demon Lord Qingling, and the Xiao sect would pay in full. Back in the present, Hua Yuerong still stared at the memory unraveling inside the scroll. She murmured that they should head back. She couldn't stand to see how it ended in that place. She looked rattled to the bone. In the memory again, an old man trailed behind Bai Qingling. Bai Qingling demanded who it was. The old man remarked that with his perception and awareness, he indeed bore the innate formless demonic body and was fated for sainthood. If he meant to move against the Xiao sect, the old man was intrigued and came to lend a hand. But Bai Qingling retorted that he wasn't interested in deals with a shadow sneaking around. The old man countered that he soon would be, since Hua Yuerong was about to become Xie Yaoshi's sacrifice. Bai Qingling burned with fury. The old man added that he should take it, for it was something Xie Yaoshi would never teach him in that lifetime. It was the true poisonous insect technique meant for killing. Bai Qingling pressed if it was really the poisonous insect technique used for killing. He pushed further, wondering if he had a grudge against Xie Yaoshi, and mocked that he wanted someone else to handle his dirty work. The old man remarked that the technique held advanced knowledge, and only if he could comprehend it would he be worthy of such dirty work. Besides, the demonic path was a road where hands were bound to be soaked in blood. Bai Qingling declared that Demon Lord Qingling could handle anything, and he'd surely regret that day. The old man muttered that they'd see about that. The next morning, one disciple ogled Hua Yuerong's legs with a filthy grin. Another one's gaze lingered greedily on her chest. Hua Yuerong warned them to cut it out, claiming that health mattered, and that alcohol and lust would only harm her body, so she'd quit drinking. Out of nowhere, Bai Qingling snapped at them for being noisy instead of practicing their sword forms. He then recalled being called Chu Nan, ready to clarify the chaos. Chu Nan explained that he'd heard Hua Yuerong came back late last night, slipped, tore her robe, and their second senior brother, Ma Jifeng, had seen it and offered her new clothes. He said she got so happy that she threw herself into his arms right then, and a rumor spread among the disciples that she had been taken. Bai Qingling pressed if he actually believed that kind of gossip. Chu Nan replied that of course he didn't, since Hua Yuerong would never like Ma Jifeng. Yet everyone passed the rumor around with pride. Bai Qingling's stare turned icy. He then walked off in silence, leaving Chu Nan confused. Bai Qingling reminded him to focus on training and keep quiet. Back in the present, Chen Jing'er muttered that she didn't want to keep watching. She said her master's past was miserable, and questioned why everyone around him suffered too, adding that Hua Yuerong was such a good girl, yet someone still dirtied her name with lies. Tantai Ying told her she'd warned her not to watch, but she insisted, saying it was time anyway. That Ni Zheng, who worked with them, had already taken the secret key to trigger the teleportation formation, and once they escaped, they'd hand the box their master wanted to him. Sen Jing'er declared that she'd deliver it herself, and when Tantai Ying mentioned she wouldn't compete with her, she asked why she was so wary of her senior sister. She admitted that she didn't know how it would all end, so they should be ready for anything. Back in the memory, Bai Qingling sat by the lake, fishing. He just stared blankly ahead. Ma Jifeng commented that he didn't expect their senior brother to enjoy fishing too. He remarked that fishing often gave insight into human relations and principles. Keeping calm, seizing chances, merging different elements, and knowing that those willing would take the bait. Bai Qingling cut him off, telling him not to beat around the bush, and demanded his point. Ma Jifeng said he was too blunt with women, not gentle or thoughtful enough, and Hua Yuerong had once been close to him, but that gave him a shot to act first. Bai Qingling pressed if that was all, that she'd just accepted the robes he gave and wore them for half a day. Ma Jifeng replied that it didn't matter, because he had plenty of other ways to make her fall for him. Still, he claimed he wasn't blind. Her heart still leaned toward him, and he didn't want conflict, so he had a proposal. Bai Qingling told him to spit it out. Ma Jifeng smirked that since they were martial brothers, they could just share her, have some fun together. Bai Qingling's fury snapped. He grabbed a massive rock and lunged before Ma Jifeng could react. He smashed it straight into his face. The grass beneath Ma Jifeng was soaked red, his body convulsing from the pain. Bai Qingling kept pounding his head. Hua Yuerong stood frozen in terror as she shouted his name. She demanded what he was doing. Bai Qingling demanded what he was up to, and he replied, with a lazy grin, that Ma Jifeng had offended him, so he ended him. He turned to her and pressed if she felt disappointed seeing him like that. He pushed again, asking if she truly was. He declared that what she saw was the real him, the genuine Demon Lord Qingling. A naive child like her, as useless as mud, didn't even have the right to offend him. But Hua Yuerong denied it, insisting that wasn't him at all, and told him to stop. She pleaded softly, desperate. Moments later, Xie Yaoshi questioned if he mentioned he could extract his demonic blood early and if his demonic body had finally matured. Bai Qingling threw it back at him, wondering if he hadn't wanted his demonic blood since day one, and told him to just take it as a disciple's offering. Xie Yaoshi remarked that he was a fine disciple, and that his master was honestly pleased he had that thought. He added that Hua Yuerong's matter shouldn't bother him because her worth couldn't match a single drop of his demonic blood. The blood-melting cauldron, a treasure that could drain pure blood and energy, would not finish his blood entirely. He would still need a steady supply from him later. He ordered him to rise. It was time to begin. He then activated the cauldron. He muttered that the demonic blood should pour out quickly from his precious cauldron. But then the cauldron stalled. He snapped that the blood bag was still inside and demanded to know why the blood-melting cauldron had stopped. He shouted if his good disciple was fine and if he could hear his master's voice. He barked that he couldn't die there. Not yet. But Bai Qingling declared that the time had come. He kicked him into the cauldron. He said again that it should begin. Xie Yaoshi yelled that he wasn't even in the cauldron and, while he struggled to understand how, cursed him as a shameless little bastard and demanded if he meant to betray his master. He screamed that the pain was unbearable and begged him to stop the cauldron right now. Bai Qingling coolly remarked that the phantom clone poisonous insect technique worked nicely, and as for how he learned it when his master hadn't taught him, he couldn't care less to explain. Xie Yaoshi groaned that he was a demon since birth and not his loyal disciple, and urged him to forgive his master quickly. Bai Qingling warned that he would ask and the other would answer, then demanded who had poisoned Hua Yuerong's father. Xie Yaoshi confessed it was his younger brother, also his junior, Kongming sect's Menghu Taoist, the one who lusted after her family's wealth, claiming it had nothing to do with him. Bai Qingling muttered that he'd remember that. It should start again. Xie Yaoshi gasped that his ambition, his brother's cruelty, and every demonic cultivator he'd met were all nothing compared to him. He was the real demon. Bai Qingling stated that he was indeed strong, and as long as he lived, others would live in fear of him. But he had made one stupid mistake. He shouldn't have gone after Hua Yuerong, because coveting her meant awakening his evil. He vowed to use his nascent soul realm's blood essence to craft the most flawless 9th-grade demonic poison insect. And as for the disciples of the Xiao sect, they wouldn't have to wait long. If he didn't send them to join him, Hua Yuerong would never know peace again. In the present, Hua Yuerong stepped away from the tower. Tears streaked down her face. Han Jiniang realized who she was and remarked that she should have known, but she refused to give up, swearing she wouldn't let her have him.